After the man finished speaking, a group of saleswomen immediately cried out in sweet voices, "Thank you, Chairman." Bian Kai looked expressionlessly at the group of people who entered. Leading them was a slightly overweight, but imposing middle-aged man, probably in his 50s. After showering the hotel with gifts, Bian Kai went straight to sleep. He was indeed a bit tired today. Well, spending money is hard work, after all. The next morning, Bian Kai was woken by his alarm clock. After a quick wash, he went to the Shuefu Hotel for breakfast. There were still 5 days until the start of the semester. Most students were still at home on summer vacation, with only a very few remaining at school for various reasons. "Good morning, Mr. Kai." As soon as Bian Kai stepped into the Shuefu Hotel, the waiter who had greeted him yesterday immediately greeted him with a beaming smile. Good morning, good morning. Have you eaten?" Bian Kai asked casually, but the waiter was so moved, he almost cried, quickly replying, "Yes, Mr. Kai, we've already eaten, and it was the hotel's best food. Have you eaten? If not, I'll arrange for the kitchen to prepare something for you right away." Bian Kai was overjoyed. That's how money should be spent. You need someone to help you out, otherwise, you'd be exhausted. While Bian Kai was eating, a catering truck had already departed for the digital city. As per his instructions, the staff meal standards there must be consistent with those at the Shuefu Hotel. The Shuefu Hotel had approximately 80 employees, while the digital city had around 200. Providing meals to these employees according to Bian Kai's standards resulted in the Shuefu Hotel spending over 800,000 yuan in just one morning. All the ingredients were top of the line, yet the turnover in Bian Kai's bank account barely exceeded 10,000 yuan. The Shuefu Hotel CFO felt somewhat uneasy. However, seeing the 2 billion yuan sitting in Bian Kai's account immediately reassured her. No problem, the boss was rich. Her job as CFO was easy. After breakfast, Bian Kai strolled out of the campus. He needed to buy a house today, and he had to get rid of the pile of clothes in his dorm room as soon as possible. After all, there were only 5 days left until the start of the semester. Who knew what would happen if those people suddenly returned? He hailed a taxi and headed straight for Tianyumingdi. Tianyumingdi is the latest completed luxury residential complex developed by the Bai family, featuring villas, large apartments, and various other high-end housing types. This was the most expensive property in Zhongbei City that Bian Kai had found online the previous night. The only thing that bothered him was that it was developed by the Bai family. However, the prices of other properties simply didn't meet his requirements, so he ultimately had no choice but to go with this one. Today was the 5th day of Tianyumingdi's opening sale. Although the prices were exorbitant, there were still many wealthy people in Zhongbei City. Some people had been eyeing this complex for a long time. Although it was expensive, the amenities were excellent. Furthermore, Tianyumingdi was positioned as a high-end community, so it was met with a buying frenzy as soon as it opened. After 5 consecutive days, most of the houses had been sold, with only some oversized apartments and a few detached villas remaining. It wasn't that these people didn't want to buy, it's just that the prices were simply too high, exceeding their affordability. 20 minutes later, the taxi stopped at the entrance of Tianyumingdi, and Bian Kai, dressed in Armani casual wear, got out of the taxi. He planned to first take a look around the neighborhood to see if the environment was as perfect as described online. After all, this was his first time buying a house. Money wasn't the issue, but he wanted to live comfortably. Just as he was about to enter the neighborhood, he discovered he needed an access card. He hadn't bought one yet, so he didn't have one, which made him a little frustrated. At that moment, a dark-skinned, burly man appeared before him. "Sir, are you a resident of this neighborhood?" Bian Kai was startled by the sudden appearance of the burly man, and his eyes immediately became wary. He noticed that although the man was wearing an ordinary security guard uniform, he exuded an extremely powerful aura. This is definitely a master. Bian Kai mentally compared the security guard to himself. Then he realized that the security guard's aura was far stronger than his own. He knew his physical abilities were more than 15 times that of an average person, and this ordinary security guard possessed strength far exceeding his own. As expected of Zhongbei City's most luxurious residential complex, even a regular security guard possesses such formidable strength. The only odd thing was that the security guard's uniform bore the insignia Strong Shield instead of Bai's. Bian Kai quickly understood the reason. The security work for this complex was likely outsourced, and the company undertaking this outsourcing was a security company called Strong Shield. Having figured this out, Bian Kai suddenly became interested in this security company. "Sir, please answer my question. Are you a resident of this complex?" Tung, who was somewhat bewildered by the young man before him. Judging from his attire, he seemed to be a resident. He must have forgotten his access card. This happened frequently. As long as the information was verified, he could let the young man in. However, it was strange that the young man didn't say a word, just stared at him, his eyes seemingly filled with wariness. "Oh, sorry, I'm not a homeowner here, but I'm planning to buy a house, so I'd like to take a look." Fujitora's repeated question snapped Bian Kai out of his shock. "I'm sorry, sir, you can't go in right now, but you can go to the sales office over there for information. A sales consultant will guide you in." Fujitora pointed to the sales office not far away and said to Bian Kai. He often encountered this situation. After all, this was the most expensive residential complex in Zhongbei City, and many people wanted to go inside and take a look. However, he couldn't just let anyone in. Disturbing the residents' lives would be a dereliction of duty. "Okay, I'll go buy it first, and I'll come back to you after I've bought it." Bian Kai finished speaking and walked towards the sales office. He was now more interested in this security company. Even a simple gatekeeper was so capable. This security company must be extraordinary. He wondered if there was a chance to acquire them. Isn't this a bit too much? Do they know my identity? Impossible. As Bian Kai approached, he saw a large group of saleswomen standing outside, all dressed in tight-fitting uniforms that accentuated their beautiful figures. They were a stunning sight. Moreover, they were all craning their necks, looking into the distance, seemingly waiting for someone to appear. Bian Kai walked forward, looking bewildered. A beautiful woman with a baby face, fair skin, and an unusually tall figure was pushed out from the crowd. Bu Kursin is a newcomer, currently a junior at the Zhongbei City Conservatory of Music. Her family is of average means, not poor, but just able to afford her university education. However, studying music is extremely expensive, so Bu Kursin works during her summer vacation to earn money to support herself at school. She is incredibly beautiful, standing at 1.75 meters tall, with a supermodel-like figure and snow-white skin. Most importantly, her delicate, doll-like face gives her a sexy yet adorable look. If she were on a virtual frog, she would undoubtedly be the dream girl of countless male fans. Bu Kursen's beauty has made her one of the top 10 beauties at the Zhongbei Conservatory of Music. Over the years, she has had countless suitors, including many wealthy second-generation heirs, but she has never accepted any of them. Although her family is poor, Bu Kursen finds the idea of using her body to gain wealth disgusting, and besides, she is busy with her studies and has no time for romance. Such stunning beauty naturally aroused the envy of other real estate agents. Therefore, due to various overt and covert sabotages, she has been here for almost 2 months and hasn't sold a single apartment. She only receives a guaranteed monthly salary of 3,000 yuan. Although it's not much, she has managed to save a considerable amount through frugal living. It's enough to cover her living expenses for next semester, but other expenses are out of the question, especially things like cosmetics and skincare products that girls like. Hearing that Bai Shan, the chairman of the Bai Group, would be visiting today, everyone dressed up carefully, hoping to make a good impression on the chairman. When Bian Kai arrived, Bai Shan hadn't arrived yet, so they all stood at the door, eagerly waiting. After all, he was an absolute tycoon with a net worth of hundreds of billions. Just to meet him was a great honor. These people naturally saw Bian Kai. Although he was wearing Armani, at such a crucial moment, naturally no one was willing to step forward to greet him. After all, meeting the chairman was far more important than receiving a customer, because apartments could be sold at any time, but the chairman wasn't someone you could see anytime. So, Bu Kursen, the unlucky one, was pushed forward. To the other saleswomen, this girl was too much of a threat. Luckily, Bian Kai, a customer who practically walked in, was there to serve her, eliminating the threat without wasting their time, a win-win situation. This also suited Bu Kursen's wishes. She never liked using her looks to seduce people. If she really wanted to, why would she need to work here to earn a living? If she just asked, countless rich second-generation heirs would line up to spend money on her. Bu Kursen was very confident in her figure and appearance. As for the other saleswomen's motives, she naturally knew what they were thinking. They simply wanted to attract Bai Shan's attention and thus have a chance to become this old playboy's mistress. Bai Shan had been a notorious playboy since his youth, and Bai Minghui perfectly inherited this trait from his father, becoming even more scandalous in his old age. Although the old man was a womanizer, he treated his lovers very well, being quite generous with gifts such as houses, cars, and money. So those women abandoned by Bai Shan, who was fickle and easily bored, left happily with a large sum of money, without a single complaint. Because their very purpose in serving this over 50-year-old man was this very purpose, and now that their goal was achieved, they were naturally happy, so what was there to complain about? Therefore, the saleswomen standing at the door, dressed in their finest attire, almost all harbored the same thought, but Bu Kursen stood there purely out of necessity. Because everyone else was doing it, if she didn't follow suit, she would seem out of place. Already ostracized here, if she added an air of superiority, she would be completely doomed. Sir, my surname is Bu. I'm a sales consultant here. Are you interested in buying a house? Would you like me to give you some information? Bu Kursen had a sweet smile, bright eyes and white teeth, her large eyes crinkling into crescent shapes beneath long eyelashes. Her voice was soft and pleasant, and as she drew closer, a faint, sweet fragrance wafted into Bian Kai's nostrils. This wasn't the smell of any cosmetics or cleaning products. She was too poor to afford those. It was purely her natural body odor. The scent inexplicably stirred something within Bian Kai. No need to ask anymore. How many apartments do you have left? I'll take them all. Bian Kai blurted out without thinking. He was buying one to live in. The rest were just to spend money, to buy a life. Huh. Bu Kursen doubted her ears. What did he mean by take them all? This guy was pretty handsome, but he seemed like a complete idiot. What huh? Go get the purchase contract. Bian Kai was also confused by the girl's reaction. Although her open-mouthed expression was cute, he was in a hurry to spend money. Are you sure you want all the remaining apartments? Bu Kursen took a deep breath and confirmed with Bian Kai again. Yes, I'll take them all. Just bring the purchase contract and the POS machine. Seeing the young woman's naive expression, Bian Kai had to repeat himself. Oh, okay, just a moment. I'll go get them right away. Bu Kursen ran towards the office, feeling as if her feet were on cotton, light as a feather. Bian Kai, bored, started looking at the model of Tianyumingdi. To be honest, although Bian Kai had a bad impression of the Bai family, their construction skills were quite high. The entire community was divided into villa and residential areas, each occupying half. The landscaping, building spacing, and various supporting facilities were all very complete. Although Bian Kai hadn't seen the actual community, if the Bai family really implemented all the facilities shown on the model, it would definitely deserve the status of the most expensive community in Zhongbei City. Welcome, Chairman. Just as Bian Kai was admiring the model, a group of saleswomen at the sales office in trance suddenly shouted in unison. Chairman? The chairman of the Bai Group? Isn't that Bai Minghui's father? No wonder those saleswomen are all dressed up and standing outside. It turns out the boss is here for an inspection. Bian Kai, hearing the noise outside, also realized that Bai Shan had arrived. At this moment, Bu Kursen was still in her office organizing the purchase contracts. Bian Kai wanted too much. There were only 10 villas remaining in the entire Tianyumingdi complex, each averaging over 500 square meters. There were also 15 large apartments, averaging around 300 square meters. This meant Bu Kursen needed to prepare 25 purchase contracts. Therefore, she had no idea of Bai Shan's arrival. But even if she did, it wouldn't matter. If the handsome guy outside really bought all 25 apartments, she would be completely transformed. Light footsteps slowly approached from the doorway, accompanied by a robust male voice. Ha ha ha, thank you for coming out to greet me. Tianyumingdi's success is largely due to your efforts. Tell the finance department that the end-of-month bonus will be doubled. No need to guess, this must be Bai Shan, the father of Bai Minghui's grandson. When Bian Kai saw the person following behind Bai Shan, a flash of hostility instantly crossed his previously indifferent expression. He hadn't expected to run into Bai Minghui here. Qian and I, dressed in high-end fashion, was linked arm-in-arm with him. What a small world. After Bai Minghui and Qian and I entered the sales office, they saw Bian Kai standing in front of the model. Since he was the only person in the entire sales hall, it was difficult to avoid being seen. Hey, isn't this our handsome Bian? His injury healed so quickly. Looks like we didn't hit him hard enough that night. Upon seeing Bian Kai's handsome face, Bai Minghui's jealousy flared up, and he began to mock him sarcastically. Qian Ni's expression remained unchanged upon seeing Bian Kai, as if she were looking at a complete stranger. These past 2 months of summer vacation had been incredibly blissful for her. She could buy whatever she wanted and use whatever cosmetics she desired. She didn't have to worry about the price at all. This was what the life of the wealthy was like, an experience she had never had in her 20 years of life. And the most expensive thing Bian Kai, this poor loser, had given her was a cell phone worth around 2,000 yuan, which he had worked for 2 months to save up for. What future could she possibly have with a man like that? Even though he was a good student, what good is academic excellence these days? In the end, she'd still be working for a big corporation like the Bai Group. But she was now the young mistress of the Bai Group. Even the old master liked her, saying she was suitable to be the Bai family's daughter-in-law. And all she needed to get all this was to do business with Bai Minghui, although this rich second-generation's methods were a bit crude, a bit bizarre, and frequent. But after 2 months of intensive training, Qian and I had completely adapted to this rhythm and was even showing signs of gaining the upper hand. Bian Kai's eyes instantly turned cold upon hearing Bai Minghui's words, especially when he saw Qian Ni's indifferent gaze. A surge of anger welled up inside him, almost uncontrollable. Oh, those eyes. What? You're not convinced? Want your brother to teach you how to be a decent person? Bai Minghui said, signaling his bodyguards behind him to attack, and Bian Kai was ready to fight at any moment. Simultaneously, he mentally commanded the system to allocate all remaining skill points to his physique, directly raising Bian Kai's physique to 233 points, 23 times the level of an average person. However, the 5 bodyguards Bai Minghui brought this time possessed a very strong aura, far surpassing the 2 who had beaten him the night before. The strongest of them was roughly equivalent to, or even slightly stronger than, the security guard at the entrance of the residential area. These must be Bai Qingshan's bodyguards. Someone of Bai Minghui's status wouldn't need bodyguards of such a high level. Most importantly, the bodyguards behind him didn't react at all to Bai Minghui's call. Bian Kai observed carefully. These 5 bodyguards also had strong shield insignia on their left arms, indicating they belonged to the same security company as the security guard at the gate. Xiao Hui, what's going on? Bai Qingshan was puzzled by his son's behavior. It was undoubtedly related to the young man before him. Dad, this guy was my college roommate. He's a poor loser who pursued Qian and I for 3 years, but Qian and I ultimately chose me. However, he still wouldn't leave me alone, so the night before last, I brought some people to teach him a lesson. Oh, I see. Since you're classmates, get along well. Don't always lecture people. The Bai family doesn't have a habit of bullying others. Bai Qingshan said with a smile after hearing his son's words, seemingly reprimanding Bai Minghui, but actually not taking Bian Kai seriously at all. Alright, Dad, I'll let him off today, so people won't say the Bai family bullies the weak. Yes, son, remember, only by competing with the strong will you become stronger. Look up, don't always stare down, it will lower your status. Bian Kai's anger was almost uncontrollable. The father and son were openly and subtly mocking him. If it weren't for the 5 powerful bodyguards behind them, he would have already attacked. Just then, Bu Kersin finally finished sorting through the 25 house purchase contracts and hurriedly ran out of the office. Because she had been rushing around so much, Bu Kersin's pretty face was flushed and her hair was a little disheveled, but her youthful energy was undeniable. While running and checking the number of contracts in her hands, she hadn't noticed the sudden influx of people in the hall. Sorry. Completely absorbed in the contracts, Bu Kersin suddenly felt herself bump into someone, and the contracts in her hands scattered all over the floor. Bai Minghui, who had been bumped, stumbled, and almost fell. A flash of anger crossed his eyes, but when Bu Kersin looked up and apologized, his eyes widened instantly. So beautiful. A lowly-like face, a mature woman's figure, and snow-white skin. Wow, a true beauty. It's okay. Come on, let me help you pick them up. Seeing Bu Kersin squatting down to pick up the contracts, Bai Minghui slowly squatted down as well, his eyes fixed on Bu Kersin's chest. Summer clothes are already light, and the saleswoman's uniform had a deliberately low neckline, so when Bu Kersin squatted down, she could see a bit of the view from a certain angle. Seemingly sensing something, Bu Kersin quickly covered her chest with her hand and said, "No need, sir, I can do it myself." "Xiaobu, what's wrong with you? So clumsy. What if you bumped into Mr. Bai? And what are you doing with so many purchase contracts?" At this moment, a heavily made-up woman, around 26 or 27 years old, who looked like a manager, stepped forward and reprimanded her. "Manager Huang, I'm sorry, I didn't notice someone in front of me." Upon hearing Manager Huang's words, Bu Kersin realized that she had bumped into Bai Minghui, the notorious playboy of the Bai Group. "It's alright, Manager Huang, I'm perfectly fine. Don't scare the little sister. Little sister, are you free later? How about we grab a bite to eat?" Bai Minghui was completely captivated. The girl in front of him was exactly what he wanted. As for Qian and I, he'd been playing around with her for 2 months and was almost tired of her. Perfect timing for a change. Qian Ni's face turned deathly pale upon hearing Bai Minghui's words. She hadn't expected her boyfriend to flirt with another girl right in front of her. "Minghui, how could you do this? I'm your girlfriend, you." Before she could finish her sentence, Bai Minghui interrupted her. "Shut up. I'm tired of you. Let's break up. I've spent over $1 million on you these past 2 months. You haven't lost out. Get lost, and don't disturb my conversation with my little sister." Qian and I collapsed to the ground upon hearing this. She hadn't expected her dream of becoming a wealthy wife to shatter so quickly, even though Bai Minghui had clearly said he would only love her for life. Bai Qingshan watched the scene with a smile. No wonder he was his son. His style of picking up girls was exactly the same as his. Bu Kersin panicked upon hearing Bai Minghui's words. She didn't want to talk to this playboy, but she didn't know how to refuse. Just then, Bian Kai, who had been standing by coldly observing, suddenly spoke up. "Miss Bu, is the contract ready? Bring it here so I can sign it." Seeing another young woman about to fall victim to Bai Minghui's cruelty, Bian Kai was furious. This guy was a menace. As for Qian and I, who was slumped on the ground, Bian Kai glanced at her and then ignored her. In his mind, Qian and I was now a complete stranger. Moreover, the thought of all the business she had done with Bai Minghui over the past 2 months made Bian Kai feel nauseous. It was utterly disgusting. Damn it, Bian Kai, don't push your luck. Daring to interrupt your grandpa's good time? Sign the damn contract. You poor loser can't even afford a brick here. What are you pretending for? Bai Minghui, his womanizing plans interrupted by Bian Kai, flew into a rage, stood up, and pointed at Bian Kai's nose, cursing. Bian Kai's anger finally reached its breaking point. He lunged at Bai Minghui with incredible speed. Bai Minghui reacted to the sight of a massive fist already in front of him, but instead of striking his face, it was blocked by a large, thick hand. Xiao Jun, as the Bai family's hired security guard, naturally couldn't stand by and watch Bai Minghui get beaten. Just as Bian Kai took his first step, he sensed the aura emanating from the young man. Although far inferior to his own, he figured that one punch would likely cripple young Master Bai. So he quickly stepped in front of Bai Minghui, shielding him from Bian Kai's fist, and said, "Young Master Bai, please step back. This man is very strong." Bai Minghui didn't even need Xiao Jun's prompting. He had already fled to the side, large beads of sweat rolling down his face, completely terrified. If he had taken that punch from Bian Kai, he would have suffered a concussion at best and been killed outright at worst. Bai Qingshan, standing nearby, was also quite frightened. He rushed to his son's side and ordered his 4 bodyguards to surround them. "Young master, please don't act rashly. If you make a move here, you might face imprisonment." Xiao Jun restrained Bian Kai's fist, rendering it completely immobile, while simultaneously advising him. At this moment, Bian Kai felt as if his fist was clamped in an iron clamp, unable to move at all. He had underestimated the strength of this bodyguard, Chang Dun. The man before him was far beyond his ability to contend with. Bai Minghui, surrounded by bodyguards, finally regained his composure. Looking at the bodyguards beside him, he was no longer afraid and said, "Xiao Jun, beat this kid to death. I'll take responsibility if anything happens." Damn it, he dared to lay a hand on me. Xiao Jun frowned upon hearing this. He had been hired only to ensure Bai Qingshan's safety, not as a thug. At this moment, Bai Qingshan spoke up. "Xiao Jun, just do it. Anyone who dares to touch my Bai family is asking for trouble." "I'm sorry, Mr. Bai. I'm only responsible for protecting your safety. I can guarantee your safety is currently not a problem, so I won't attack anyone first." He was quite confident in his abilities. Although the young man before him had a good physique, he was still significantly weaker than him. Therefore, he was fully capable of protecting the Bai father and son from any harm, which already considered perfectly fulfilling his duties as a bodyguard. Anymore, and he would have become nothing more than a thug, which violated the service principles of Strong Shield. "Xiao Jun, what do you mean? I paid so much money to hire you, and you dare disobey my orders? Don't think I don't know about Strong Shield's situation. You've offended quite a few people over the years. Does anyone still hire you? I'm only giving you a job because I think you're quite capable. Don't be ungrateful, acting all high and mighty with me. This is what you're paid for. Get to work now, or our cooperation is over. These days, money talks. Don't think you're something special." Bai Qingshan reprimanded Xiao Jun with a grim face. As a bodyguard, daring to disobey his employer's orders was utterly disrespectful. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bai. Strong Shield has its own rules and regulations. We are only responsible for protecting the employer's safety and will never become the employer's henchman." Xiao Jun remained unmoved by Bai Qingshan's reprimand. He had experienced too many similar situations over the years. Many people imagine bodyguards as thugs, but the two are completely different. A true bodyguard's primary responsibility is protecting the employer's safety. Unless absolutely necessary, never initiate an attack. This is the first principle that all bodyguards at Shangduan Security Company must adhere to. Of course, this doesn't mean they will never act. When the employer faces a significant threat, such as being held hostage or subdued, the bodyguard will choose to directly subdue the assailant. This doesn't violate the bodyguard's principles, because these principles are based on the employer's absolute safety. If the employer is about to be killed and the bodyguard still doesn't act, then having a bodyguard is no different from not having one at all. In the current situation, although the young man who attacked was quite skilled, he was still under Xiao Jun's control, so Xiao Jun would absolutely not initiate an attack. "Fine. Very well. Xiao Jun, you're fired. Xiao Hui, let's go." Bai Qingshan was furious, his face turning ashen. He immediately terminated his cooperation with Shangduan. Although Xiao Jun was helpless about this, he didn't regret it. They were bodyguards, not thugs. Now that the partnership was over, the bodyguards who had surrounded Bai Minghui and his son immediately dispersed, all standing behind Xiao Jun. Bai Qingshan, seeing this situation, couldn't help but feel annoyed. Damn it, he'd spoken too hastily in his anger. Without Xiao Jun and the others' protection, he and his son might not have been able to stop Bian Kai. That kid was just too fast. The only option now was to take his son away and wait until they hired other bodyguards before getting revenge. Bai Minghui, still shaken, forgot about teasing Bu Kersin and left with his father, not forgetting to call Qian and I along. They hadn't found a new business partner yet, and although they were a bit tired of Qian and I, she was still usable for now. Seeing that she hadn't been abandoned, Qian Ni's sadness vanished instantly. Hearing Bai Minghui call her, she quickly got up from the ground and ran after him. Watching the Bai father and son hastily leave, Bian Kai didn't chase after them. Xiao Jun was right. It wasn't a suitable place to fight, and it could easily lead to legal trouble. Besides, simply beating them up wouldn't quell Bian Kai's hatred. He needed to nip it in the bud. He needed to plan this carefully later. Seeing that the Bai family had left, Xiao Jun and his 4 men planned to return to the company to report the matter. After all, losing a major client like the Bai family was no small matter. Although he was certain that his other brothers wouldn't blame him, the Bai family's termination of the contract would undoubtedly worsen the company's situation, making it difficult for them to continue operating financially. Previously, due to a lack of business and inability to pay salaries, a large portion of the security guards hired by Changduan had left, leaving only a few of his original founding brothers and some of their apprentices. The 4 men behind Xiao Jun were his apprentices, all of whom had reached apprentice level 10, making them the 4 strongest among his many disciples. However, just as he and his disciples were about to leave, Bian Kai suddenly stopped them. Mr. Xiao, is that right? Please wait a moment. I have something to discuss with you. Please wait. Hearing this, Xiao Jun stopped and looked at the young man with some curiosity. From their earlier exchange, he had roughly judged Bian Kai's strength. Bian Kai's strength was roughly 20 times that of a peak apprentice, much stronger than the 4 apprentices he had trained. Such strength might be very intimidating to ordinary people, but it was far too weak in front of Xiao Jun. Young man, is there anything I can help you with? I was just fulfilling my duty earlier, so please forgive any offense. Xiao Jun said calmly. I do have something to discuss with you, but please wait a moment. I'll sign the purchase contract first, and then we'll talk in detail. Although things had gone very unpleasant with the Bai family, he still wanted to buy the house. After all, there were very few neighborhoods in the entire Zhongbei city that met Bian Kai's requirements. Young man, you still want to buy a house here? But weren't you just with Mr. Bai? Not only Xiao Jun was puzzled, but even the saleswomen at the sales office were suspicious. You just offended our big boss, and you still dare to buy a house here? Isn't that a bit too arrogant? Buy it. Of course I'll buy it. Conflict is conflict, but the house is innocent. The Bai family does business openly. They can't be so petty, can they? It wouldn't sound good if word got out. Bian Kai certainly wouldn't let such a good opportunity to spend money slip by. Besides, once the house is bought, it's his private property. What can the Bai family do to him? And didn't Bai Minghui say he couldn't even afford a single brick here? Let him see if I really can't afford it. Seeing Bian Kai's insistence on buying the house, Manager Huang knew she couldn't make the decision herself and could only report the matter to Chairman Bai Qingshan. Buy it. Let him buy it. Sign the contract according to procedure. See if he can come up with that much money. If he can't, report him to the police immediately for disrupting company order. Arrest him and see how I deal with him in there. Bai Qingshan thought, this kid really doesn't know what's good for him. Even after all this, he still wants to buy my house. Besides, my son said this kid is a poor loser. Where would he get the money? This whole thing is definitely just to annoy him. Humph, kid, you're asking for trouble. Don't blame me for being ruthless. In Bai Qingshan's mind, Bian Kai's actions were completely self-destructive, showing a complete lack of awareness of the harsh realities of the world. Manager Huang understood the chairman's plan after receiving the order. Although she felt it was somewhat inappropriate, she could only obey her boss's orders. Mr. Bian, what kind of house are you planning to buy? Manager Huang, beaming, approached Bian Kai after hanging up the phone, asking what kind of house he wanted. Bian Kai looked at the heavily made-up manager who had just been flirting with Bai Qingshan and felt a wave of disgust. I've already told Miss Bu my requirements. I think she's already prepared the contract. Have her come over and sign it with me. You can go do whatever you need to do. The meaning was clear. I don't like you. Stay away from me. Manager Huang's expression changed several times after being rebuffed. She turned back, called out to Bu Kersin, and stormed off. Who does she think she is? Let's see how she embarrasses herself later. I was even a little sorry for her before. It seems no one can stop a ghost who wants to die. Mr. Bian, thank you for your help earlier. The purchase contract is all prepared. Let me briefly explain it to you. Bu Kersin was very grateful to Bian Kai for helping her. If Bian Kai hadn't interrupted Bai Minghui's harassment, which had escalated to the point of physical violence, she would probably be dead by now. Bai Minghui could easily handle a naive young girl like her who didn't know how to refuse. Ms. Bu, you're too kind. I'm not doing this on purpose. My situation with Bai Minghui is complicated. Anyway, let's not talk about him. Just tell me roughly how much these 25 apartments cost. No need for detailed explanations. Okay, Mr. Bian, please sign the contract first. I'll explain as you sign. Bu Kersin took one contract from a stack she was carrying and placed it in front of Bian Kai, then said, Mr. Bian, this is a 280 square meter apartment, fully furnished, priced at 60,000 yuan per square meter, totaling 16.8 million yuan. You can sign here. Bian Kai frowned slightly upon hearing the price. It wasn't that he thought it was too expensive, but rather too cheap. Only a little over 10 million yuan. If all large apartments were this price, then 15 apartments would only cost less than 300 million yuan, which would only extend their lifespan by 3 days. Mr. Bian, this is a 360 square meter penthouse, also fully furnished. Because of its better floor, it's priced at 65,000 yuan per square meter, totaling 23.4 million yuan. This apartment was quite interesting. With Bu Kersin's brief introduction, all 15 penthouses were finally signed. In total, these 15 apartments cost 340 million yuan. Bian Kai wasn't very satisfied with this result. He'd spent so much effort only to gain 3 days of lifespan. However, the villas introduced next gave him quite a surprise. The villas at Tianyumingdi ranged in size from 300 to 1,000 square meters. Currently, all the villas under 500 square meters were sold out, leaving only 10 units over 500 square meters, 3 500 square meter units, 3 600 square meter units, 2 800 square meter units, 1 1,000 square meter unit, and 1 1,200 square meter unit. The villas had an astonishing price of 100,000 yuan per square meter, so after signing these 10 villas, Bian Kai finally became happy. That's how you spend money to feel good. Look, 710 million has been spent in one go, plus those 15 large apartments. That's $1 billion already. After calculating the total price, Bu Kersin took out the POS machine she had prepared beforehand. Just as Bian Kai was about to take out his supreme black card to swipe, Manager Huang, who had been observing from the side, opportunely approached. Little Bu, how's it going? The contracts are signed. Time to swipe the card. Yes, Manager Huang. Mr. Bian has already signed the purchase contracts for all 25 apartments and is about to pay. Bu Kersin was overjoyed. She had actually sold all the remaining apartments in Tianyu Mansion. That's over $1 billion. According to the sales commission rate of the Bai Group, she would receive at least tens of millions in commission. With this money, she could not only focus on her studies, but also greatly improve her family's living conditions. Oh, Mr. Bian, you're really generous, signing all the purchase contracts. But Mr. Bian, there's something I must remind you. If you can't pay later, that's a breach of contract, and we have the right to report it to the police. What you're doing is, I think it's called disturbing the peace. Be careful you don't get arrested. Manager Huang looked at Bian Kai with a mocking expression. She had just taken the time to check the relevant laws. This kind of situation could be criminalized. Bu Kursen's initial happiness vanished instantly upon hearing Manager Huang's words. She looked at Bian Kai with worry. What if this handsome man really couldn't come up with the money? No, she had to think of a way. Bian Kai had just saved her. She couldn't just watch her benefactor get arrested. Manager Huang, it's not what you think. I was just joking with Mr. Bian. This contract is invalid. Bu Kursen decided to give up and abandon her dream of millions in commission. She started to tear the contract in her hand. Fine, she'd just quit working here. At least Bian Kai wouldn't get arrested. Hey, hey, two voices rang out simultaneously, one from Manager Huang, the other from Bian Kai. Manager Huang was startled by Bu Kursen's actions. If the contract was really torn up, it would be invalid, and the boss's plan would be ruined. Fortunately, the 25 purchase contracts were quite thick, and Bu Kursen couldn't tear them despite her efforts. Manager Huang rushed forward to snatch the contracts, even calling on the other saleswomen to help. Bian Kai, standing to the side, was also somewhat helpless at Ms. Bu's actions. He understood that this beautiful woman was trying to help him, afraid he would be arrested for not being able to pay. But beautiful lady, shouldn't you ask me if you really can't afford it before you act? That's too impulsive. Does getting older really make you brainless? Seeing a group of saleswomen surrounding Bu Kursen, some even starting to grope her, taking the opportunity to bully her, Bian Kai dashed into the crowd. This girl might not be very bright, but she genuinely wanted to help him, and he couldn't just stand by and watch her be bullied. Bian Kai's physique was now about 23 times that of a normal person. How could those flamboyant, delicate saleswomen possibly stop him? With almost no effort, Bian Kai pulled Bu Kursen out of the crowd. The girl was still clutching those 25 contracts tightly in her hand. Bian Kai was somewhat moved by this scene. Both were stunningly beautiful women, so why was Bu Kursen so kind? While Qian and I could watch him being beaten half to death by Minghui without doing anything. Stop right there. The saleswomen, led by Manager Huang, saw Bu Kursen being pulled away by Bian Kai and immediately tried to rush forward to snatch the contracts back. Bian Kai, unable to contain himself any longer, roared, releasing a powerful aura that frightened the saleswomen into standing still. Ms. Bu, alright, stop tearing. Give me the POS machine. I can afford this small amount. Bu Kursen, still tearing at the contracts, immediately stopped. She had been trying for a long time without tearing a single one. The contracts were sealed with a tough plastic film, making them very sturdy. Unless tools were used, it was difficult to damage them by hand. Mr. Bian, are you really sure you can pay over 1 billion? Bu Kursen asked somewhat uncertainly. Of course, otherwise why would I waste time signing so many contracts? Bian Kai said helplessly. Why wouldn't this young woman trust him? Humph, keep pretending. Young Master Bai already said you're just a poor loser. Not only did the woman you were chasing get stolen, but you also got beaten up. How are you going to pay for this? Manager Huang's words ripped open Bian Kai's sore spot, instantly darkening his expression. Manager Huang, right? How about a bet? If I can really pay this much, you'll have to kneel down and apologize for what you just said, and immediately settle Miss Bu's commission. You'd better report this to your boss. Your promise is invalid. If you can't pay, you can call the police and have me arrested. I'll let you do whatever you want with me. Since Bu Kursen was genuinely helping him, Bian Kai naturally wanted to reciprocate. He was worried that if he actually paid, the Bai family would renege on paying Miss Bu's commission. After hearing Bian Kai's words, Manager Huang immediately called Bai Qingshan, who had just returned to the Bai Group's office building. Agree to him. I don't believe this poor bastard can really come up with this much money. Also, keep Bu Kursen with you. I've never failed to get the woman I set my sights on. Before Bai Qingshan could speak, Bai Minghui roared from the side, and Bai Qingshan directly told Manager Huang to do as his son said. Mr. Bian, the chairman has agreed to your request. Now it's time to see your performance. Manager Huang hung up the phone and handed Bian Kai a POS machine with the payment amount already entered. Oomph, you'll all be crying later. Bian Kai didn't hesitate, directly swiping his premium black card on the POS machine. As the small slip indicating successful payment slowly emerged from the POS machine, everyone was stunned. The payment was really successful. Manager Huang stared at the slip in disbelief. The 4 large characters, payment successful, felt like a giant slap in the face. The other saleswomen's gazes towards Bian Kai had changed. They stared at this young, handsome man like hungry wolves. Young, handsome, and so rich. He perfectly matched all their fantasies about their future partner. Bai Qingshan, while wealthy, was completely unrelated to handsomeness and youth. If they could become Bian Kai's girlfriend, or even wife, they would do anything. When processing transactions, Bian Kai didn't need to lift a finger. They provided fully automated service. Bu Kursen, seeing Bian Kai successfully make the payment, lost her earlier worries and blushed with excitement at the prospect of receiving tens of millions in commission. She was incredibly adorable. Meanwhile, Xiao Jun, waiting nearby, had a glint in his eye. Initially, he hadn't believed Bian Kai could actually make the payment. Like Bai Qingshan, he thought the young man was deliberately causing trouble. But the moment Bian Kai successfully made the payment, Xiao Jun seemed to have a sudden realization. Perhaps the strong shield could still be saved. Manager Huang, the payment has been made. Now it's time to fulfill your promise. Bian Kai nonchalantly put away the supreme black card. It was only a little over 1 billion, and his lifespan would only increase by 10 days. Well, only 11 days, really. After looking at the attribute panel in his mind, Bian Kai realized that he had just swiped 1.05 billion, but his lifespan had increased by 11 days, becoming 1 year and 47 days. His previously empty skill points now had 11, and Bian Kai quickly realized the problem after a moment's thought. He had previously spent tens of millions on clothes, watches, and other random things, and this time he spent another 50 million, bringing his total to exactly 100 million. Aye. Manager Huang's face turned ashen, as if she'd eaten shit. Paying the commission wasn't a big deal. It was only a little over 10 million, and the company already had a budget specifically for sales staff commissions. Having to kneel down and apologize to Bian Kai in front of so many employees was just too humiliating. What's wrong? Manager Huang, are you planning to break the contract? Bian Kai looked at the pale-faced Manager Huang with a hint of amusement. Although she wore heavy makeup, obscuring her face, she had a rather attractive figure. Her form-fitting uniform accentuated her shapely figure. Making such a woman kneel down and apologize to him was quite amusing to Bian Kai. Mr. Bian Kai, I underestimated you earlier. I'll settle Bukurson's commission immediately. According to company policy, sales staff receive a 1% commission on sales. I'm raising it to 1.5%, which will increase her commission by over 5 million. Could you please let me off the hook? Manager Huang was truly going all out this time. Her commission was based on team performance, at a rate of 0.5%. Normally, Bukurson's 1.05 billion sales would have earned her over 5 million in commission, but to save face, she voluntarily gave up that portion. Bian Kai didn't react much to the amount. 5 million was only enough for him to level up 5 guardian angels. But Bukurson was clearly tempted. That was over 5 million. With that money, she could buy a decent house in Zhongbei City. She wanted to bring her parents, who lived in the countryside, to the city to enjoy a comfortable life, so they wouldn't have to toil in the fields anymore. Seemingly sensing Bukurson's thoughts, Bian Kai didn't press Manager Huang further and agreed to her plan. That's just the kind of person he is. He repays even the smallest kindness tenfold. Bukurson had just helped him, even though that help wasn't particularly useful. But over the years, very few people had been willing to help him like that. So Bian Kai accepted Bukurson's favor. Ding! Your hiring account received a transfer of 15,750,000 yuan. Balance 157,503,120 yuan. Seeing that Bian Kai hadn't forced her to kneel, Manager Huang quickly contacted the finance department to pay Bukurson's commission and also transferred her share. Looking at the string of numbers in her account, Bukurson was moved to tears, repeatedly thanking Bian Kai. With this money, her life would be completely changed. She would no longer be the poor student who scrimped and saved every day just to finish her studies. Furthermore, she could confidently pursue things she hadn't dared to learn before, such as musical instruments and dance. Miss Bu, can you take me to see the house now? I have some things to take care of later. Bian Kai couldn't stand seeing young girls cry, especially beautiful girls like Bukurson. The key was that there seemed to be something else in her eyes when she looked at him. Actually, Lu Xueqing was absolutely right about one thing. Bian Kai was a complete straight man. That was unavoidable. This guy had never been in a relationship. He pursued Qian and I for several years from high school to university, but in the end, he didn't win her over. Someone else stole her away. Actually, several girls had confessed to him over the years. After all, although Bian Kai was poor, he was still quite handsome, but at that time, his heart was only for Qian and I, so he ignored all those confessions. In other words, this guy has been single for over 20 years since birth, and his dating experience is practically zero. Therefore, he genuinely had no idea what the unusual emotions in the eyes of Lu Xueqing, Shiringxiu, and Bukurson were. Okay, Mr. Bian Kai, I'll take you to see the house right away. Also, Manager Huang, I'm starting school soon, so I plan to resign after showing Mr. Bian Kai the house. Bukurson's last words were directed at Manager Huang. With a commission of over 15 million yuan, she could finally say goodbye to her part-time job and study support life. Manager Huang panicked upon hearing that Bukurson wanted to resign. Bai Minghui had specifically asked her to keep the young woman. Little Bu, you're about to be a senior in college. Your studies aren't that heavy. Why are you in such a hurry to resign? Look how many houses you've sold. You're the top salesperson this month, and you'll get a bonus at the end of the month. Why don't you stay a little longer? Bukurson was somewhat at a loss for words regarding Manager Huang's attempt to persuade her to stay, but Bian Kai, standing nearby, saw through her perfectly. What's the point of keeping her? To give that beast Bai Minghui the opportunity to harm her? Manager Huang, let me give you a piece of advice. Aiding and abetting evil will not end well. Bian Kai's words left Manager Huang incredibly embarrassed. She stammered, unable to utter a single word, inwardly cursing Bai Minghui, this spoiled brat, to the bone. Actually, she secretly hoped that Bukurson, this young and pretty girl, would leave as soon as possible, but she couldn't disobey the young man's orders. After Bian Kai's prompting, and considering Bai Minghui's earlier harassment of her, Bukurson instantly understood Manager Huang's intention in trying to keep her. Manager Huang, I've decided to resign. Whether you agree or not, I won't come back. I'll take Mr. Bian Kai to see the houses first. Bukurson was unusually assertive, mainly because she was truly disgusted. After saying this, she turned and walked out of the sales office. Manager Huang had no choice but to call the chairman to report what had happened. Bian Kai followed Bukurson out of the sales office, accompanied by Xiao Jun and his 4 apprentices. Xiao Jun was very patient, mainly because he felt that what Bian Kai wanted to discuss was very important, concerning the life and death of Changduan. On the way to the Tianyu Mingdi residential complex, Bian Kai approached Xiao Jun and said, Mr. Xiao, from what Bai Qingshan said earlier, it seems your company's situation isn't very optimistic? Xiao Jun gave a wry smile and replied, Mr. Bai is right. Changduan is currently facing a financial crisis. This security company was founded by me and 4 other brothers. A few years ago, we retired from the Xia Kingdom's special forces. The military had assigned us jobs, but we didn't want our skills to go to waste. So we decided to establish Strong Shield Security Company. Initially, with our 5 peak martial arts masters, we attracted a lot of business. We made a lot of money, and with that, we expanded the company and recruited more security personnel from the community. We even selected some promising individuals from among the recruits to become apprentices. However, this success was short-lived. Problems began to emerge. Xiao Jun paused for a moment, and Bian Kai, keenly aware of the issue, asked, Does this kind of situation, like today's, often happen? The employers ask you to act as thugs and attack others. Yes, our team members are often asked by employers to do things that are morally reprehensible. Our initial intention in establishing the company was not to harm society. If the 5 of us wanted to make money by harming society, we could earn far more than running a security company. After all, our capabilities are undeniable. Initially, some members agreed to the client's demands, injuring many people. The company was embroiled in numerous lawsuits, and the compensation alone exceeded the profits. Later, we ruthlessly disposed of a group of members involved in the fights, repeatedly emphasizing that we were bodyguards, not thugs. But this resulted in our business dwindling, and eventually, we couldn't pay our members' salaries, leading to a significant exodus. Now, the company is left with only the 5 founders and 40-odd apprentices. We thought taking on this business from the Bai family would alleviate some of the pressure, but we still encountered this situation. After Xiao Jun finished speaking, his expression turned extremely gloomy. He couldn't understand why people had become like this, so quick to kill or maim others. And every time, they would shout that they would take responsibility if something happened, but when something actually did, those employers would run away faster than anyone else, shifting all the blame to Changduan. Several times, it even escalated to the point of threatening to revoke Changduan's business license. If Xiao Jun and his team hadn't come from a special forces background, they probably would have been shut down long ago. After listening to Xiao Jun's account, Bian Kai realized that his guess was pretty much correct. While Xiao Jun and his group possessed formidable skills, they wouldn't resort to violence to break the law. This might be related to their background, but in the current peaceful Xia country, there was no need for bodyguards. Those who could afford bodyguards actually wanted thugs more. This was completely contrary to Xiao Jun's business philosophy. No wonder they couldn't get any business. However, Bian Kai was now more interested in this security company. By the way, Mr. Xiao, what exactly is the peak martial master level you mentioned earlier? This was the only part Bian Kai didn't understand. Mr. Bian Kai doesn't know? Logically, with your strength, you should know something about the martial arts level classifications. Xiao Jun looked at Bian Kai with some confusion. This young man had already reached the peak of the apprentice level, yet he still didn't know about the martial arts level classifications on Blue Star. Mr. Xiao, you flatter me. I just enjoy exercising regularly, and I really don't know much about martial arts. Please don't hesitate to enlighten me. Oh, I see. On Blue Star, martial arts are currently divided into 4 realms. Of course, there might be higher ones, but those are beyond my reach. The lowest realm is called apprentice. A level 1 apprentice's physical attributes are roughly equivalent to a healthy adult male. Reaching twice the level of an average person is apprentice level 2, and so on. A level 10 apprentice's physical attributes are 10 times that of an average person. The next realm, martial master, requires physical attributes 10 times that of a level 10 apprentice, or 100 times that of an average person. This realm is the same as the apprentice level. Martial master level 2 requires physical attributes 200 times that of an average person, and so on. A level 10 martial master's physical attributes will be 1,000 times that of an average person. Above that are the grandmaster and great grandmaster levels. The principle is the same. The entry requirement for the grandmaster level is 10,000 times the physical attributes of an ordinary person. However, this threshold has significant limitations. My eldest brother once said it might be related to mental strength, but the specifics of that relationship will only be known when one truly increases their strength by 10,000 times. The great grandmaster level requires 100,000 times the physical attributes of an ordinary person, and its ranking system is the same as for apprentice and martial master. After breaking through to martial master level 10, it's called the martial master peak realm. I have 5 other brothers who are currently at this level. The only difference is in their individual strength ratios. My current physical attributes are 6,800 times that of an ordinary person, ranking second among the 5 brothers. The eldest brother's physical attributes have reached 8,100 times, and the remaining 3 brothers are around 4,000 to 5,000 times. Xiao Jun explained in great detail. After listening, Bian Kai couldn't help but gasp. This is practically Superman. He had initially thought his physique, 23 times stronger than an average person, was strong enough, but he realized he was completely mistaken. The existence of people hundreds, or even thousands of times stronger than him completely shattered his worldview. According to Xiao Jun's description of the ranking system, he was currently only at the peak of the apprentice level. No wonder Xiao Jun had subdued him so easily. He had to buy it. This security company was a must-buy. They were short of money, and this was exactly what Bian Kai wanted. Bian Kai had plenty of money right now, and he was just wondering how to spend it. Buying Strong Shield would not only give him a group of experts, but also allow him to buy lives, a win-win situation. Brother Xiao, please allow me to address you this way. I know what I'm about to say might be a bit presumptuous, but I'm sincere. I want to buy your security company. Bian Kai looked at Xiao Jun with genuine sincerity. They had already arrived at the entrance of Tianyu Mansion, but they weren't in a hurry to go in. Before Xiao Jun could speak, a voice suddenly rang out. Hey, second brother, what brings you here? Weren't you with Mr. Bai? Tung Hu, who had been guarding the gate, saw the group approaching and quickly came out to greet them, surprised to see his second brother. Fifth brother, what are you doing here? Are you guarding the gate? Xiao Jun looked at his fifth brother with surprise. A dignified peak martial master was actually guarding the gate. Sigh, don't even mention it. The company is getting sparsely staffed. We don't have enough people. My youngest apprentice, Lu Shi, was guarding the gate before. That kid ate something today and had diarrhea all day, had to go to the hospital for an 4 drip. His other apprentices are on other missions, so they had to pull me, their master, in to fill in. Anyway, second brother, what's wrong? Tung Hu was also helpless. The company was almost empty. They couldn't even find a replacement. Sigh, I guess I won't be able to keep this gatekeeper job for much longer. Just now, Mr. Bai terminated his cooperation with Changduan. Xiao Jun said with a somewhat gloomy expression. How could this happen? Did Mr. Bai also ask you to? Yes, Mr. Bai ordered me to kill this young man, but I refused, so he terminated his cooperation with Changduan. Xiao Jun pointed to Bian Kai beside him. Tung Hu followed his finger to Bian Kai and then exclaimed, young man, aren't you the one who was planning to go into the community for a visit? Yes, Brother Tung, that's me. I had a little conflict with the Bai family father and son. Bai Qingshan ordered Brother Xiao to kill me, but Brother Xiao refused. Actually, the root of this problem lies with me. Bian Kai took this burly man, whom Xiao Jun called fifth brother, very seriously. This was a peak martial master level expert, and according to Xiao Jun's description, his strength was at least 4,000 times greater. Sigh, it's not your fault. We're used to it. This kind of thing happens all the time. If we lose this partnership, Strong Shield might really be coming to an end. Fujitora said with a gloomy expression. No, Brother Fujitora, I was just talking to Brother Xiao about this. Since you're here, why don't you share your thoughts? Fujitora glanced at Xiao Jun with some confusion. Xiao Jun nodded silently. Actually, he had also wanted to ask Bian Kai what he meant by those words, but Fujitora had interrupted him. Brothers, I, Bian Kai, have admired people of high strength since I was a child, so I often train. According to Brother Xiao, I have now reached the apprentice level 3. It may not seem like much to you, but it's the result of my many years of hard work. Bian Kai spoke these words sincerely. He had indeed admired strong people since childhood, especially the chivalrous heroes in martial arts novels. As for the last sentence, it was completely fabricated. His current strength was entirely due to the system, and had absolutely nothing to do with physical training. Seeing Teng Hu and Xiao Jun nod, seemingly agreeing with Bian Kai's statement, Bian Kai continued. As you two just mentioned, Strong Shield Company is currently facing an economic crisis, which boils down to money. I'm not bragging, but on the entire Blue Star, there's probably no one richer than me, so I can easily solve your problem. Brother Xiao should already be aware of this, so I'd like to acquire your security company. I'm willing to pay any price. Furthermore, I assure you both that I will never force you to do anything immoral. The company's operations are entirely your responsibility. Whether there's business or not doesn't matter. If we need funds, I will continue to inject capital, ensuring the company's normal operation and even expansion. Bian Kai exuded arrogance when discussing his wealth, and he was right. There truly was no one richer than him on the entire Blue Star. After all, 70% of the profits from the centuries-old operations of those powerful families in the Western continent were held in his supreme black card, an incredibly terrifying amount of wealth, though Bian Kai was unaware of it. Xiao Jun was puzzled by Bian Kai's generous offer. This wasn't an acquisition of their company, it was practically free money. Brother Bian, I'd like to know what your motives are. Bian Kai couldn't admit it was for the money, though that was his primary goal. So he spoke up. Brother Xiao, to be honest, the night before last, Bai Minghui and 2 bodyguards beat me severely. Of course, I'm fine now. It involves some secrets, so I can't tell you both. If either of you had been protecting me then, I believe I wouldn't have suffered that. Of course, that's only one reason. Another reason is that I've acquired some companies, and more will be in the future, and these companies all need a certain level of security. If I had my own security company to handle this, I think I'd feel much more at ease. Hearing Bian Kai say he was severely injured the night before last, Xiao Jun and Teng Hu immediately looked puzzled. How could severe injuries heal so quickly? However, Bian Kai said it was his secret, so there was no need to press him. His subsequent reasoning was acceptable. Young man, how much do you plan to spend to acquire our security company? Xiao Jun asked this crucial question, the one he and Teng Hu were most concerned about. Speaking of money, Bian Kai was no longer sleepy. His energy immediately returned. Brothers, with your strength, I think 100 billion isn't excessive. 5 peak martial master level experts, each worth over 20 billion. In fact, I'm getting a good deal. Are you satisfied with this price, brothers? Actually, Bian Kai wanted to quote even higher, but everything has its limits. Going too far isn't good. He didn't realize that 100 billion was already ridiculously high. How much? Xiao Jun and Teng Hu doubted whether they had heard correctly, and even their 4 disciples behind them stared blankly at Bian Kai. Who the hell is this guy? Wanting to spend 100 billion to acquire an ordinary security company? This guy looks like a fool. 100 billion? Do you two think that's too little? I can add more. Bian Kai said nonchalantly. Cough, cough. Little brother, it's not too little, it's too much. Our security company is worth at most the first one. As for the last 3 zeros, we simply can't afford it. Xiao Jun was choked by Bian Kai's words, coughing several times. Brother Xiao, the acquisition of any company isn't about its surface value, but about how much it's worth in the investor's eyes, what it can bring to them. For me, you can provide a layer of protection for my life. Tell me, how much is my life worth? So in my heart, with the 5 of you at Xiangduan Security, it's worth 100 billion. Bian Kai's words were sincere and heartfelt, every word resonating with the 2 experts, Xiao Jun and Teng Hu. Xiao Jun took a deep breath and said, Young man, thank you for your trust. This matter is too big. I need to go back and discuss it with the other 3 brothers. As for me, I have no objections, and I believe Fujitora feels the same way. Xiao Jun turned his gaze to Fujitora, who nodded somewhat blankly. How could he refuse? They'd already offered 100 billion, showing them such high regard. What could Fujitora say? Okay, Brother Xiao, you can convey my message to the other brothers. Also, I'd like to add that this 100 billion belongs entirely to the 5 of you and your apprentice. As for the future development of Strong Shield Company, I will invest additional funds. We'll discuss the specific operational methods in detail after this matter is officially settled. Alright, I understand. I'll go back to the company and discuss it with the other brothers. Fujitora, you 4, stay with this young man and protect his safety. Xiao Jun was completely numb. He had thought Bian Kai could help them solve the company's problems, but he hadn't expected such a generous approach. Then let's wait for Brother Zhao's good news. Bian Kai watched Xiao Jun leave, feeling that the matter was almost settled. His mood instantly improved, and the frustration from his encounter with the Bai family vanished. Miss Bu, let's go, take me to see some houses. Having resolved the security company matter, Bian Kai invited Bu Kersen into the complex to look at houses. Bu Kersen was stunned. Just how much money did this ridiculously handsome guy have? He casually spent hundreds of billions to buy an ordinary security company. No wonder he didn't even blink when buying the house before. Compared to those hundreds of billions, what was this 1 billion for the house? Poverty truly limited her imagination. The group entered the Tianyu Mingdi complex. This time, no one stopped Bian Kai. What was there to stop him for? Even Teng, who was practically Bian Kai's man. Why would he stop his boss? Truly worthy of being the most expensive complex in Zhongbei City. Upon entering the residential area, Bian Kai couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Everywhere he looked, there was lush green vegetation, and in the center of the area was a huge square. The surrounding area boasts a full range of amenities, including gyms, swimming pools, card rooms, massage parlors, bars, and large supermarkets. There's even a prestigious private school offering all grades from kindergarten to high school, truly providing access to every imaginable service without ever leaving the community. This isn't just a residential area, it's practically a miniature city, and a city exclusively for the wealthy. Led by Bu Kersen, the group quickly arrived at the first house, a villa with a massive 1,200 square meters of space. The villa also included a 500 square meter courtyard in front, an extravagance beyond compare. After walking through the courtyard, Bu Kersen entered the villa's main gate code. With a click, the 3-meter-high gate opened automatically. Behind this was a large living room of at least 100 square meters, its furniture exuding the scent of fresh grass. The scent alone revealed its construction entirely of solid wood, and all the furniture and appliances were high-end products, some of which Bian Kai couldn't even name. Next to the living room were the kitchen and dining room, their size exceeding his expectations. The villa had 6 floors above ground, each approximately 200 square meters, with 2 additional basement levels as a bonus. 2 elevators connected these 8 floors. Floors 2 through 5 contained 12 bedrooms, each exceeding 50 square meters, with a private bathroom and walk-in closet. The 6th floor housed entertainment facilities, including a private cinema, gym, karaoke room, and more. The rooftop featured a huge private swimming pool and a multi-purpose court for basketball, volleyball, badminton, tennis, and more. After touring the entire place, Bian Kai felt his investment of over 100 million yuan was incredibly worthwhile. Living here was the pinnacle of life. He decided that this would be his private residence from now on. After deciding on his future residence, Bian Kai had Bukursin show him some other houses. After seeing them, Bian Kai felt his 1 billion yuan investment was incredibly worthwhile. All the houses were fully furnished, and the 1,000 square meter villa was only 1 floor shorter than his private residence. The furnishings were almost identical. Bian Kai had already made up his mind. This house would be for his parents. The elderly couple had worked hard their whole lives. It was time for them to enjoy their retirement. As for the other houses, Bian Kai had no plans yet. Renting them out was out of the question, so he'd leave them vacant for now. After viewing all the houses, Bian Kai called Lu Xueqing, asking her to find someone to handle the subsequent procedures for obtaining the property certificates. When Lu Xueqing heard that he had bought 25 more houses, and in Tianyumingdi no less, she was speechless. Did her new boss even have a concept of money? What was the purpose of buying so many houses? Was he going to change houses every day and live in them in rotation? However, since Boss Kai had given the order, she could only comply. But Bian Kai's next words shocked this tough woman in the legal circle. Senior, you and Senior sure have helped me so much. I've decided to give you 2 villas, the 2 800 square meter ones. The environment is quite nice. You can't refuse, or we'll be friends. Bian Kai really couldn't live in all those houses, so he simply gave them away. On the other end of the phone, Lu Xueqing was speechless with shock, yet also felt a touch of sweetness. This new boss really had his eye on her. Just yesterday, he gave her an 8 million yuan watch and signed a 2 billion yuan contract. Today he gave her a villa. If he didn't like her, why would he give her so many expensive things? As for her best friend, Xiao, it seemed Bian Kai was planning to take her in as well. She hadn't expected him to be so shrewd, despite his seemingly simple nature. Not content with just her, he was even eyeing her best friend. But outstanding men often have a few affairs, a fact that lawyer Lu Xueqing was quite accepting of. As long as Bian Kai had her in his heart, who cared how many other women he had? Senior, are you still there? Bian Kai, seeing no sound on the other end of the line for a while, assumed it was a signal problem. Ah, Mr. Kai, I'm here. Then Xiao and I won't stand on ceremony. When we get the property certificates, we'll just put those 2 villas in our names. Since she had decided to be Bian Kai's woman, Lu Xueqing didn't refuse. Why would she refuse a house given to her by her own man? Okay, no problem. Senior, you decide. Alright, I'll hang up now. I have another call coming in. After hanging up on Lu Xueqing, Bian Kai answered another call. Hello, who is this? Young man, this is Xiao Jun. I've discussed your acquisition of our security company with my 3 other brothers. The person on the other end of the phone was indeed Xiao Jun, who had left earlier. After returning to the company, Xiao Jun immediately called his elder brother and 2 other brothers together. Then, they were told about Bian Kai's plan to acquire Changduan for 100 billion. The eldest brother, Zhuang Yu, was so shocked by the news that he couldn't recover for a long time. The other 2 brothers, Pang Long and Li Xiong, were also dumbfounded. After repeatedly confirming the truth of the matter, the 3 of them answered in unison, we agree. Only a fool would disagree. That's 100 billion. Moreover, the new boss promised not to interfere in any company affairs and not to force them to do anything illegal. Such good conditions. Not agreeing would be a sign of madness. So Xiao Jun quickly called Bian Kai back. Brother Xiao, how did you 2 decide? Don't let your brother down. Little brother, no, from now on you should call me boss. My brother and the other 2 brothers have agreed to your plan. We can sign the share transfer agreement at any time. From now on, you will be the new boss of Changduan Security Company. Xiao Jun said confidently on the phone. Brother Xiao, really? That would be my honor. Please don't call me boss. I can't accept that. Just call me Bian Kai from now on. Bian Kai's excitement was beyond words. These were 5-peak martial master level martial artists. He'd acquired them for just 100 billion. It seemed like a perfect deal for him. Boss Bian, we martial artists value hierarchy. You're our boss, so you must call me boss. My elder brother, Zhuang Yu, has booked a private room at the Blue Ocean Hotel, partly to welcome you, and partly to celebrate our strong shield finally overcoming the economic crisis. It's almost lunchtime now. Boss Bian, would you do me the honor of joining us? Brother Xiao, what are you saying? I'll be right there. Brother Tung and your 4 disciples will be coming too. Bian Kai checked his phone. He hadn't expected time to pass so quickly. It was already past noon. It was indeed lunchtime. Bu Kursin, needing to complete her resignation procedures, didn't continue with Bian Kai. They exchanged phone numbers and WeChat contacts before parting ways. Bian Kai and his group of 6 took 2 taxis to the Blue Ocean Hotel. The Blue Ocean Hotel was the only 5-star hotel in Zhongbei City, located next to Zhongbei Square, directly opposite Hengxiang Shopping Mall. On the way, Bian Kai called Lu Xueqing again. He had very few people he could use right now. He had just acquired Changduan Security Company, and he needed his senior from high school to help with the related paperwork. Lu Xueqing had no reaction to the news. She was completely numb and now absolutely certain that this new boss had no concept of money. What the hell? Spending 100 billion to acquire a security company? Is this something a normal person would do? Was this security company built of gold? Even if it were built of gold, it couldn't be worth 100 billion, could it? Well, there's no point in arguing about it. Since the boss has already given the order, Lu Xueqing had no choice but to pack her things and head to the Blue Ocean Hotel. Meanwhile, Xiao, Upon hearing that Lu Xueqing was going to see Bian Kai, disregarded whether she had work to do and insisted on going along. Lu Xueqing was at a loss, but she solemnly warned Shi Ringxiu that she must behave herself after seeing Bian Kai, and absolutely must not say or do anything she shouldn't. Shi Ringxiu readily agreed, then urged Lu Xueqing to drive quickly. She hadn't seen her new boss for half a day and really missed his handsome face. As for Lu Xueqing's warning, humph, do you think I, Shi Ringxiu, am such a timid person? Love, be bold and say it. It took about 15 minutes for Bian Kai and his group to arrive at the Blue Ocean Hotel in the 2 taxis. As expected of a 5-star hotel, although only 1 star higher than the Xuefu Hotel, its class far surpassed it. A glint of greed flashed in Bian Kai's eyes as he entered the hotel. If Lu Xueqing were here, she would definitely guess what this guy was thinking. After all, Lu Xueqing had handled all the properties Bian Kai had bought from the beginning until now. He had shown the same look back at Xinguang Digital City, and then Xinguang Digital City became Bian's. Just as Bian Kai was planning how to acquire this hotel, a man only 1.7 meters tall with a very well-proportioned build approached. Behind him were Xiao Jun and 2 other people. This must be Boss Bian. I am Zhuang Yu, formerly the general manager of Chengduan Security Company, and also the elder brother of Xiao Jun and Teng Hu. Bian Kai briefly sized up the middle-aged man before him, whose build was not particularly outstanding, but whose face was gentle and refined. This was supposed to be a peak-level martial artist with a physical strength of 8,100 times, but why did he look so thin? Although somewhat doubtful, Bian Kai saw Xiao Jun standing behind this man, so it couldn't be a fake. He quickly said, "You must be Brother Zhuang? It's an honor to meet you." "Brother Zhuang, what are you saying? What do you mean? You were the general manager of Chengduan before, but now I'm the boss, I call the shots, and you'll still be the general manager of Chengduan. Alright, since Boss Bian has given the order, then I won't refuse. Let's not stand here any longer. Let's go into the private room. The food is ready." Zhuang Yu led the way to the private room, while Xiao Jun, following behind, introduced his 2 other brothers, Pang Long and Li Xiong, to Bian Kai. These 2 had very ordinary faces, the kind that would disappear into a crowd. However, Bian Kai could vaguely sense a powerful aura emanating from them. Indeed, appearances can be deceiving. Upon entering the private room, everyone took their seats. Bian Kai, unable to resist the warm hospitality of his entourage, sat in the head seat. Just as everyone was seated, Bian Kai's phone rang. "Hey, senior, you've arrived. We're in the Bihai Chao private room." "Yes, just come straight over." It was Lu Xueqing. Her law firm wasn't far, so she arrived quickly. "Gentlemen, let's keep business to ourselves. My lawyer is here. She'll draft the share transfer agreement on the spot. Once everyone signs, I'll make the payment." Bian Kai hung up the phone and explained that Lu Xueqing was there to sign the contract. "That's only right, Boss Bian. Actually, you really don't need to spend so much money. Our strength isn't that great. There are many people on the entire Blue Star stronger than us." "Hey, Brother Zhuang, don't say things like that again. Brother, if I think you're worth it, then you are." Bian Kai interrupted Zhuang Yu. He was worried that this older brother might cause some trouble. Besides wanting to recruit these experts, the most important reason he spent 100 billion was his lifespan. 100 billion would give him almost 3 years of lifespan. If something happened now, wouldn't that shorten his lifespan? Tap tap tap. Clear footsteps sounded outside the private room. As the door opened, 2 top-tier beauties, each scoring at least 98 points, appeared before the group. Even though Zhuang Yu and the others were all first-rate experts, they were still somewhat stunned by the sight of such stunningly beautiful women. "My 2 senior sisters, you've arrived? Come, let me introduce you. This is Brother Zhuang Yu, and this is..." "Brothers, these 2 are my personal lawyers, and also my senior sisters, Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu. Speaking of which, you'll be colleagues from now on." After introducing everyone, Bian Kai urged Lu Xueqing to hurry up and complete the contract. He was in a hurry to transfer the money. The contract was quickly completed. Bian Kai signed his name without even glancing at it, and Zhuang Yu and the other 4 didn't hesitate either, signing their names one after the other. "Brother Zhuang, give me your account number. I'll transfer the money to you. How the rest of you brothers distribute it is entirely up to you." Zhuang Yu was equally decisive, directly handing over his account number to Bian Kai. That's how martial artists are. Once a decision is made, there's no room for hesitation. Ding. Your Haiying account has received a transfer of 1 trillion yuan. Balance 1,01,245,660 yuan. The zeros on the text message made Zhuang Yu and the other experts dizzy. They couldn't even count them all. After suppressing their excitement, they quietly counted the amounts, muttering tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Bian Kai, looking at the increased lifespan on his attribute panel, was beaming with joy. This was a huge windfall. His lifespan had increased to 3 years and 327 days, nearly 4 years, plus a whopping 1,011 skill points. How could Bian Kai not be ecstatic? It's not the right time to use skill points to improve physical fitness. After all, everyone present is a master. If Bian Kai's strength suddenly surges, it will definitely arouse suspicion. This matter can only be done when no one is around. "Boss Bian, on behalf of my 5 brothers and 43 disciples, I thank you for your generosity. To repay your kindness, I have decided that from now on, we 5 brothers will follow Boss Bian's lead. We will do whatever you ask." After confirming the amount, Zhuang Yu said excitedly. How could he not be excited? This was life-saving money. This group of brothers had almost poured all their savings into Chengduan Company. Without Bian Kai's help, they would face not only a financial crisis for the company, but also a crisis for their families. They were all middle-aged, and besides their strength, they had no other skills. If Chengduan really collapsed, the future was uncertain. Their families might be torn apart. Now, with this money, their wives and children could live a worry-free life, and even for 3 generations to come, as long as no one squandered the money, it would be enough. This is why Zhuang Yu was willing to go against his own heart and say those words. Even if Bian Kai asked them to do illegal things in the future, they wouldn't hesitate. At worst, they'd only risk their lives. Besides, based on Xiao Jun's description of Bian Kai, this new boss wasn't the kind of person who was prone to violence. Therefore, although there was risk, they could bear it. "Brother Xiao, there's no need for this. Since you've put it that way, I swear to you all here that I will never let you do anything against your will. Bian Kai's eyes were incredibly sincere as he swore. Zhuang Yu and the others saw his genuine feelings and were momentarily choked up. Boss Bian. Brother Zhuang. If you keep calling me Boss Bian, I'll really get angry. You're all my good brothers. Forget about boss. Just call me Bian Kai. Zhuang Yu and the others were at a loss for words. In their minds, it was absolutely disrespectful to address elders or superiors by their first names. Seeing their troubled expressions, Bian Kai suddenly remembered something, took out his phone, and made a call. Hey, brothers, where are you? Come to the Blue Ocean Hotel right away. Oh, and bring a statue of Guan Yu. It's important. Ho Qianyue was in a meeting when he suddenly received a call from his brother, telling him to hurry to the Blue Ocean Hotel and bring a statue of Guan Yu. What was going on? But since his brother said it was important, he couldn't delay. After hanging up, Ho Qianyue told the others to continue the meeting, then went to his office, quickly packed up the Guan Yu statue he had been keeping, and rushed to the Blue Ocean Hotel. Brothers, I know you respect hierarchy, and I can't force you, but I have a way to solve this problem. Let's eat first, and wait a moment. Senior, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Let's eat together. Bian Kai was in high spirits after coming up with a solution and invited everyone to eat, leaving everyone somewhat bewildered. The only ones who could guess Bian Kai's intentions were Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu, especially after hearing that Bian Kai had asked Ho Qianyue to bring the Guan Yu statue. The two women were even more certain of Bian Kai's intentions. The thought of the scene that would unfold later made them chuckle, especially since what had happened just yesterday. Ho Qianyue's mobile phone company was quite far from here. Making mobile phones required building factories, and factories couldn't be located in the city center, so it would take him about an hour to get here. During this time, everyone started eating lunch. Of course, such a happy occasion wouldn't be complete without wine. Zhuang Yu was genuinely happy today. Now that he had money, there was no need to be stingy. He directly asked the waiter to bring over 20 bottles of Maodai. The two ladies couldn't drink such strong liquor, so Zhuang Yu also ordered 2 bottles of red wine. However, just as Xiao Jun's apprentice was about to pour wine for Shi Ringxiu, she stopped him. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well today and can't drink. You guys can drink. Those present basically understood what was going on. She must be on her period, which was indeed inconvenient. Lu Xueqing didn't think much of it. Since her best friend couldn't drink, she would have to do it herself. After all, this was the first gathering of Bian Kai's 2 major companies. As for whether she was really on her period, only Shi Ringxiu knew. The atmosphere at the banquet reached its peak, as everyone toasted and drank. Zhuang Yu and the others, true to their high-level martial arts skills, downed 2 bottles of Maodai, without turning red or getting dizzy. While Bian Kai's physique wasn't as good as theirs, he had been modified by the system. After drinking 2 bottles of Maodai, he only felt slightly dizzy, not drunk. The only one who was a little tipsy was Lu Xueqing. She wasn't a big drinker to begin with, but as the tough woman of the legal world, she couldn't back down now. After a few rounds, her pretty face was flushed. Just as everyone was having a great time, the door to the private room opened, and Ho Qianyue rushed in, panting, carrying a statue of Guan Yu. After looking around, Ho Qianyue spotted Bian Kai, who was drinking with Fujitora, and then said loudly, Hey bro, I'm busy right now. What important business do you have? You didn't just call me here for drinks, did you? Ho Qianyue's voice interrupted the lively atmosphere. Bian Kai turned around and saw that it was his older brother. Brother, you've arrived. We've been waiting for you for ages. Come, let me introduce you. Bian Kai gave another introduction, and when he mentioned that the middle-aged men were his sworn brothers, Ho Qianyue seemed to understand what his brother wanted to do. Brothers, since you all follow the ancestral teachings of hierarchy, I won't insist. However, I have a request, and I hope you will grant it. Boss Bian, just say the word. We will certainly comply. Zhuang Yu and the others sensed something unusual after hearing Bian Kai's words. All right, as I just introduced, this is my sworn brother, Ho Qianyue. We swore an oath before Guan Yu to share honor and disgrace, fortune and misfortune for life. Therefore, I dare to ask, like you brothers, to become sworn brothers, just like my sworn brother, so that you will be my true brothers. Only then did Bian Kai reveal his true purpose. Boss Bian, this isn't appropriate. Zhuang Yu and the others were taken aback by Bian Kai's suggestion. Was this really his idea? There's nothing inappropriate about it. To be honest, my elder brother's situation was similar to yours back then. I spent 30 billion to buy his digital mall, solving his financial difficulties. Since we can become sworn brothers, why can't you brothers? Or do you brothers look down on me because I'm weak and only have a few stinking coins? Seeing Zhuang Yu and the others still hesitating, Bian Kai resorted to reverse psychology. How could that be? Boss Bian helped us a lot at a crucial moment. How could we look down on you? Since that's the case, let's not be coy and become sworn brothers. Bian Kai's reverse psychology worked, and Zhuang Yu and the others finally agreed to become sworn brothers. As for Ho Qianyue, he had no objections. Since he was his brother's elder brother, then they would all become sworn brothers together. Soon, the table where the tea set had been placed was cleared away, and Ho Qianyue respectfully placed the Guan Gong statue in the center. Then he asked the hotel waiter for 2 sticks of incense and an incense burner. Don't ask why the hotel had these things. They also needed to worship the god of wealth. At the table, Zhuang Yu, the oldest, knelt at the very front, followed by Xiao Jun, Pang Long, and Li Xiang, while Ho Qianyue, Teng Hu, and Bian Kai knelt at the very back. Each person held 3 lit sticks of incense, their faces solemn and earnest. Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu, who had been waiting to see a good show, couldn't laugh now. They could feel the genuine sincerity in the hearts of these men. I, Zhuang Yu, am 38 years old. Xiao Jun, 37 years old. Pang Long, 35 years old. Li Xiang, 32 years old. Teng Hu, 30 years old. Ho Qianyue, 29 years old. Bian Kai, 20 years old. From this day forward, we swear to be sworn brothers, bound by life and death, sharing joy and sorrow, fortune and misfortune, supporting each other in times of trouble. Heaven and earth bear witness. Mountains and rivers are our pledge. We will uphold this vow for life, and never break it. The oath shook the heavens and earth, moved even ghosts and gods to tears. After shouting, everyone kowtowed 3 times to Guan Yu. then rose and placed the incense sticks they held into the incense burner. Eldest brother, second brother, sixth brother, youngest brother. Then, a flurry of greetings followed, and after everyone had been addressed, the group returned to the table, this time with an even more lively atmosphere. During the meal, Bian Kai detailed the strength and cultivation levels of the newly sworn brothers, while Xiao Jun reiterated Blue Star's classification of martial artist levels. Ho Qianyue was stunned. The Ho family was, after all, one of the most prominent families in Xia Kingdom, with 3 martial arts masters serving as retainers, so he was familiar with the concept of martial arts levels. However, after Bian Kai finished explaining the strength of his sworn brothers, Ho Qianyue realized just how much of a bargain he had gotten. The 5 elder brothers were all at the peak of the martial master level, and their physical abilities were incredibly powerful. It was terrifying. While the strongest of his family's 3 retainers was also at the peak of the martial master level, their power multiplier was only a little over 3,000, even weaker than the weakest of the 5, Fujitora. The other 2 retainers were only level 9 martial masters, with a power multiplier of only 900. Even so, with the help of these 3 martial masters, the Ho family resolved many issues that ordinary methods couldn't handle. He was just curious why his elder brothers, with such immense strength, were facing a financial crisis. With that kind of power, they could easily find a powerful family to serve as retainers and get whatever they wanted. However, after Xiao Jun's explanation, Ho Qianyue understood the reason. They didn't want to be henchmen. Indeed, the 3 retainers of his Ho family were more like henchmen than retainers, frequently doing shady things for his family. Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu were experiencing the world of martial arts for the first time, their worldviews completely shattered, just like Bian Kai's earlier experience. They also understood why Bian Kai had spent 100 billion to acquire this security company, making various promises, and even becoming sworn brothers with these individuals. Indeed, CEO Kai's vision was beyond their comprehension. As everyone gained a deeper understanding, the atmosphere at the table rose to another level, and the 20 bottles of Maotai were quickly finished. Zhuang Yu waved his hand and ordered another 20 bottles. Surprisingly, the first to collapse wasn't Lu Xueqing, but Ho Qianyue, who arrived later. Being an ordinary person, and having drunk Baijiu, he couldn't handle it after just 1 bottle. Lu Xueqing and Bian Kai collapsed almost simultaneously. Bian Kai was simply too excited, recklessly toasting his elder brother. Most importantly, while Xiao Jun's disciples weren't as strong as Bian Kai, each of them was still at the apprentice level 10. However, Bian Kai's seniority was undeniable. He was their master's brother, making him their senior uncle. So, the 4 of them kept calling him senior uncle, while enthusiastically toasting Bian Kai. It was Bian Kai's first time being someone's senior uncle, and how could he refuse a toast from a junior uncle? As a result, after a round of toasts, Bian Kai quickly became completely drunk. He even forgot about the important matter of acquiring the Blue Ocean Hotel. Seeing that his 2 brothers were drunk, Zhuang Yu and the others ended the drinking session. They were perfectly fine. After all, their physical strength was several thousand times greater than others, and this amount of alcohol wouldn't even make them drunk. The meal lasted from noon until after 3 p.m. Zhuang Yu arranged for Li Xiang and Teng Hu to take Ho Qianyue and Bian Kai home respectively. As for Lu Xueqing, Shi Ringxiu took her home. Shi Ringxiu then suggested going to see Bian Kai's newly purchased villa to facilitate the later handling of related procedures. They also wanted to see what kind of villa Bian Kai had given her. Everyone thought it made sense and didn't think much of it. So Li Xiang took Ho Qianyue to the mobile phone company, while Teng Hu took Bian Kai back to Tianyu Mansion, and Shi Ringxiu followed behind in Lu Xueqing's Bentley. Lu Xueqing was completely drunk and unconscious, sleeping soundly in the back seat, her long, slender, white legs curled up, utterly unaware of her surroundings. Soon, the 2 cars arrived at Tianyu Mansion. Fujitora effortlessly drove Bian Kai back to the villa, while Shi Ringxiu struggled to carry Lu Xueqing forward. Since she was a woman, Fujitora couldn't very well help her, so he could only let Shi Ringxiu limp in and toss Lu Xueqing onto the bed in a random bedroom. Brother Fujitora, I can take care of her here. You can go back now. Okay, sister, I'll leave my brother in your care. I have some things to take care of at the company. Upon hearing this, Fujitora got up and left. His boss had instructed him to return to the company after dropping off the man. He needed to distribute the 100 billion to his brothers. After seeing Fujitora off, Shi Ringxiu locked the villa door from the inside and took the elevator to a bedroom on the 3rd floor. She gently pushed the bedroom door open and then gently closed it again, careful not to disturb the person on the bed. Lying on the bed was Bian Kai, completely drunk and unconscious. Humph, Qingqing, you coward. You clearly like him, but don't dare say it. It must be so painful to keep it bottled up inside. I don't care. The man Shi Ringxiu, set my sights on will be mine. I'll just force myself on him. Knowing his personality, he'll definitely take responsibility for me. Sorry, Qingqing, I'll just have a taste of this feast first. If you want more, you'll have to figure it out yourself. It turned out Shi Ringxiu wasn't on her period at all. She was waiting for this opportunity to take advantage of Bian Kai while he was asleep. Although she had no experience in this, she'd seen plenty of movies. As Shi Ringxiu spoke, she prepared to act. Just as her face was close to Bian Kai's. Ugh! A fountain of foul-smelling liquid gushed from Bian Kai's mouth, a mixture of undigested delicacies and the stench of alcohol. Shi Ringxiu froze for a moment. The fountain sprayed directly onto her face, not a drop wasted, and then the murky liquid trickled down her fair, slender neck. Ah, tui, tui, tui. Finally, the incredibly sour and disgusting stench jolted her awake. A sharp scream rang out, but it was quickly replaced by a series of vomiting sounds. It turned out that as soon as she opened her mouth, the fountain sprayed directly into it. The scene was truly heartbreaking. It was utterly gruesome. So disgusting, so damn disgusting. Most importantly, the culprit, Bian Kai, was still fast asleep, showing no signs of waking up. Shi Ringxiu rushed to the bathroom with almost all her might, completely ignoring the large bathtub, and started showering without even taking off her clothes. After thoroughly rinsing the vomit off her face, Shi Ringxiu took off all her soaking wet clothes, threw them into the washing machine, and began to take a proper shower, adding water to the bathtub as she did so. She needed a good soak. She felt that simply rinsing wouldn't get rid of the smell. Fortunately, the bathroom was fully stocked with all sorts of toiletries. Sure Ingshio squeezed half a bottle of bubble bath into the bathtub, and when she added water, the white foam overflowed the tub. The bathtub was fully automatic and temperature controlled. Sure Ingshio adjusted it to the most comfortable temperature and started soaking, inwardly cursing Bian Kai, that bastard, for drinking so much. Now, not only had she failed to complete the business, but she'd also gotten herself stinking. As for continuing the business, Sure Ingshio no longer had the courage. Bian Kai was now just as smelly as she was. She simply couldn't bring herself to do it. She soaked for over 2 hours before finally climbing out of the tub. She first hung her washed clothes in the dryer, then rummaged through the closet for anything she could wear temporarily. Even a bath towel would do. Although she was in the bathroom, it was attached to the master bedroom, and CEO Kai was currently outside. If she went out naked, what if he saw her? She didn't mind doing business with CEO Kai. She was even somewhat looking forward to it. But being seen naked under these circumstances would be incredibly embarrassing. Just as she was rummaging through drawers looking for a bath towel, the bathroom door suddenly opened, and a person staggered in. After resting for over 2 hours, Bian Kai had sobered up somewhat. His physical abilities were now 3 times that of a normal person, despite having been completely drunk. His superior physical condition also greatly enhanced his recovery ability. Once he regained some consciousness, Bian Kai was disgusted by the overwhelming stench emanating from himself. Considering that he was in his newly purchased villa, he didn't think much of it, and immediately got up and took off his clothes, which were soaked with vomit. He had initially considered keeping a little bit of clothing on, but then he thought, I'm at home, especially in my bedroom. What can I wear? So he simply took everything off. Then he rushed into the bathroom. The moment he opened the bathroom door, a beautiful scene of spring after the rain appeared before his eyes. On a pure white lotus flower, crystal clear water droplets rolled. As the lotus swayed gracefully, the droplets slid off the delicate white petals, creating shallow puddles on the smooth floor. For a moment, their eyes met, and both were stunned. Sure Ingshio, as expected of a seasoned lawyer, showed no panic in this situation. She used her 2 slender, white arms to cover her private parts, then slowly retreated towards the bathtub, which was still filled with bubbles. Bian Kai, after his initial shock, quickly recovered and felt a warm liquid flowing from his nose. He instinctively reached up and touched it. Damn, he had a nosebleed. Well, not many normal men could remain calm in such a situation. Senior, I'm so sorry, I didn't know you were in there. I'll get out right away. Bian Kai, mimicking Sure Ingshio, quickly covered his private parts with his hands, apologizing as he retreated towards the door. It's alright, Mr. Kai, want to shower together? Sure Ingshio found Bian Kai's embarrassed expression amusing. She had already retreated to the edge of the bathtub, then stepped inside, her eyes gleaming with seductive allure. The moment Sure Ingshio lifted her leg, because her arms were so long and slender, Bian Kai felt his nose bleed profusely again. This was truly killing him. Senior, you said it. No takebacks. Damn it. You think I'm afraid of you? Fine, let's shower together. Bian Kai hadn't expected Sure Ingshio to provoke him repeatedly. What was a grown man like him afraid of? He simply stopped resisting and walked towards the bathtub. This time, it was Sure Ingshio's turn to panic. Although her words were flippant, she was, after all, a young woman, the kind who was all talk and no action. Otherwise, she wouldn't have planned to secretly conduct business while Bian Kai was asleep. She hadn't expected Bian Kai, so young and seemingly simple-minded, to be so bold. Watching him swagger towards her, Sure Ingshio's eyes involuntarily darted away. Just then, the bedroom door outside suddenly opened, and Lu Xueqing tiptoed in. She hadn't drunk much to begin with, but her alcohol tolerance was too low. She got drunk after just a little, so she sobered up quickly. After waking up, she wanted to check on Mr. Kai. The bedroom door and bathroom were next to each other. Opening the bedroom door revealed the bathroom. Ah! A scream instantly erupted from Lu Xueqing's mouth. What had she seen? Xiao, you shameless brat. Bian Kai and Sure Ingshio were also startled by the scream. Bian Kai, who had been in a state of arousal, instantly lost his composure. Sure Ingshio immediately buried her head in the soapy water. Although embarrassed, she was also thankful that Qingqing had come in. Otherwise, judging from Bian Kai's excited expression, things might have gotten really messy. Senior, don't shout. It's a misunderstanding. I was just about to come in to take a shower, and I didn't expect Senior Sure to be in there too. It was a coincidence. We didn't do anything, really. Bian Kai didn't know why he was explaining to Lu Xueqing. Perhaps he simply didn't want this equally stunningly beautiful senior to misunderstand. Mr. Kai, Lu Xueqing stopped screaming upon hearing Bian Kai's explanation, then covered her eyes with her right hand and pointed at Bian Kai with her left, saying, Mr. Kai, wouldn't you like to put on some clothes first? Bian Kai then realized that he had been so focused on explaining that he had completely exposed himself to the 2 women. Their secret was now known to them. Damn it. 2 people saw him, but he only saw 1. This business deal was a huge loss. Bian Kai cursed under his breath, rummaging through the closet for a bathrobe and hastily putting it on. Then he found another set and tossed it onto the rack next to the bathtub. This was for Sure Ingshio. The one who had just been provoking Bian Kai was now soaking in the tub, too ashamed to show her face. An hour later, darkness fell, and it was 7 o'clock. The 3 of them, finally dressed, sat down on the sofa in the living room. They tacitly avoided mentioning what had just happened, easing the awkward atmosphere considerably. Bian Kai, however, felt a pang of regret. If senior sister Lu hadn't suddenly barged in, he would have finished his business by now. The scene from earlier was still etched in his mind. He vowed he would never forget what he had seen in the bathroom. Seniors, are you hungry? Want to eat out or cook at home? We can go see the villa I gave you after lunch. Bian Kai was the last to sit on the sofa, asking as soon as he did so. He was genuinely hungry. He hadn't eaten much at lunch, and had even vomited it all up, leaving his stomach empty. Eat at home, but neither of us knows how to cook. Lu Xueqing felt a little embarrassed by Bian Kai's suggestion. She and Sure Ingshio were the type who never lifted a finger in the kitchen. The only thing they could probably cook was instant noodles. It's alright, I can cook. Just wait and eat, senior sisters. Bian Kai confidently got up and walked towards the kitchen, calling out to the system in his mind as he went. System, how many points are needed to exchange for a chef skill? It takes 1 point to exchange for a beginner chef skill, 5 points for intermediate, and 20 points for advanced. Hearing the system's reply, Bian Kai was somewhat surprised. Both were skills, so why did a beginner combat skill require 20 points, while a chef skill only required 1 point? Looking at his skill points, a whopping 1,011, Bian Kai didn't hesitate and immediately exchanged them for the advanced chef skill. He then added the remaining skill points to Constitution. After chatting with Zhuang Yu and the others, Bian Kai knew that at this stage, Constitution was crucial for increasing his physical strength. This was the foundation. Zhuang Yu and the others weren't entirely clear on the specific role of spiritual power, only vaguely recalling from senior members of the military that it was related to advancing to the Grandmaster level. Since Zhuang Yu and the others hadn't yet reached the threshold for Grandmaster advancement, they didn't know the exact function of spiritual power in the process. Therefore, if Bian Kai wanted to quickly improve his strength, he had to first increase his Constitution. After adding points to Constitution, Bian Kai's attribute panel underwent a significant change. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 3 years 327 days. Skill points, 0. Constitution, 1224, normal human 10. Mental strength, 157, normal human 10. Martial artist level, martial master level 1. Skills, beginner combat, intermediate chef. As skill points were added to his physique, Bian Kai's bones creaked, and he grew 1 centimeter taller, from 181 centimeters to 182 centimeters. His muscles became more defined, strong but not bulky. Bian Kai tried clenching his fist, and the immense power he felt filled him with awe. Martial master level warriors were incredibly powerful, and this was only 122.4 times that of an ordinary person. How powerful would someone like Zhuang Yu, whose physical attributes were over 8,100 times stronger, be? Zhuang Yu couldn't even imagine what level of power he would reach with such physical attributes. His attribute panel automatically added a martial master level column because Bian Kai now understood the martial artist realm classifications on Blue Star. Bian Kai had now advanced to the martial master realm, and his strength had undergone a dramatic transformation. Looks like he'd have to spend money like crazy. Lifespan wasn't a concern for now. After learning about the martial artist realm classifications, Bian Kai focused more on his strength. After all, every man dreams of becoming a Superman. After half an hour of cooking, Bian Kai, with his advanced chef skills, prepared a delicious 4-dish meal with a perfect balance of color, aroma, and taste. The enticing aroma wafting from the kitchen made Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu's mouths water. It smelled incredibly good. They hadn't expected that Bian Kai, a billionaire, could cook such delicious food at his own kitchen. It completely exceeded their expectations. It was also the first time Bian Kai had tasted food he had made with his intermediate chef skills, and it was indeed very tasty, even better than what the chefs at the university hotel made. The portions Bian Kai made were large, but the 3 of them ate everything clean. Even the remaining broth was mixed with rice by Shi Yingxiu. So delicious, so incredibly delicious. Shi Yingxiu exclaimed, touching her slightly protruding belly. This action reminded Bian Kai of the scene in the bathroom earlier. If he remembered correctly, there was a pink birthmark the size of a fingernail on her lower abdomen through her clothes. Although it was a birthmark, it didn't detract from Shi Yingxiu's beauty at all. In fact, it added a touch of allure. Lu Xueqing, also exhausted from eating, leaned back on the sofa, unable to stand, but looked at Bian Kai with a strange expression. She was increasingly unable to understand her junior classmate. Young, wealthy, handsome, kind-hearted, and a good cook. Bian Kai seemed born to attract women. He was probably every woman's ideal husband type. My 2 seniors, I cooked the meal, so it's your turn to wash the dishes. Bian Kai, looking at the plates and bowls on the table, really didn't want to move, so he urged his 2 seniors to wash the dishes. Come on, Xiu, let's wash the dishes. Kai is right. We've had such a delicious meal for free, we should definitely do some chores. Although Shi Yingxiu really didn't want to get up, Lu Xueqing dragged her to start clearing the dishes and washing them in the kitchen. After cleaning up the kitchen, the 2 toured the villa that Bian Kai had given them, and then decided to stay there tonight and rest. The reason was simple. The villa Bian Kai gifted was far more luxurious than their current apartment. While it couldn't compare to Bian Kai's own place, it far exceeded their expectations. Seeing that the 2 had decided to stay, Bian Kai had no choice but to return to his villa alone. Around 11 p.m. that night, a figure quietly arrived at Bian Kai's villa. The next day, Shi Yingxiu and Lu Xueqing had a lot of work to do to handle the assets Bian Kai had purchased, so they left the Tianyu Mingdi residential complex early in the morning. However, Shi Yingxiu didn't seem to be in good spirits today, looking very tired. She probably needed time to adjust to the new place and hadn't rested well. Bian Kai made himself breakfast, and then called Zhuang Yu. Hey, big brother, how's everything going on your end? Zhuang Yu replied on the other end of the phone, his voice slightly excited. Youngest brother, everything's arranged. With this money, the company can develop steadily. Wait, big brother, what do you mean by with this money? Bian Kai asked, somewhat puzzled. Didn't you transfer 100 billion to me yesterday? With that money, the company can expand rapidly. Zhuang Yu was somewhat puzzled by Bian Kai's question. His newly acquainted subordinate seemed to have a bad memory, forgetting so quickly. Big brother, you must have misunderstood. I spent 100 billion to buy Changduan Security Company from you. This money is for you, not to inject capital into the company. Youngest brother, I understand what you mean, but you're 4 other brothers and I can't use that much money. I think it's better to use it for company development. No, big brother, even close brothers should keep clear accounts. I said this money is for you, and it's for you. Now send me the company's corporate account information, and I'll inject capital into the company. One thing at a time. Bian Kai's attitude was very firm, and no matter how Zhuang Yu tried to persuade him, it was no use. In the end, he had no choice but to send him the company's corporate account information. After receiving the account, Bian Kai immediately deposited 50 billion yuan into it without hesitation, then told Zhuang Yu to spend the money however he wanted. Whether it was recruiting staff, upgrading the company, or purchasing equipment, he shouldn't worry about saving money. He wanted to build Changduan into the top security company on Blue Star. If he needed more money, he could ask Bian Kai for more. Furthermore, Bian Kai used the same system he had used for the Shuefu Hotel and Xinguang Digital City, creating a triumphant account within Xiangduan Security Company. This account was specifically for company development and daily expenses. If the money ran out, Bian Kai would continue to deposit it. Xiangduan Security's daily operating revenue was all deposited into his Haiying account. Although, like the financial officers of the other two companies, Zhuangyu was also puzzled by Bian Kai's practice of transferring money between his own hands. But his brother said there must be a reason for doing it this way. Although it was more troublesome, it wouldn't affect the company's normal operations. Youngest brother, I'll let your fifth brother follow you from now on. That hothead can't help much at the company. I'll feel at ease with him by your side. Finally, for Bian Kai's safety, Zhuangyu specifically sent Teng Hu. Bian Kai knew his brothers were worried about him. Yesterday afternoon, while drinking, he mentioned being beaten, as by Minghui had brought it up at the sales office. Zhuangyu, Xiao Jun, and the others were busy operating the Strong Shield Security Company and couldn't spare the time to protect their underling. Teng Hu, being a reckless man with nothing to do with the company, was conveniently sent to protect Bian Kai. Actually, Zhuangyu also called Ho Qianyue, intending to have Li Xiang, the fourth son, also protect him. However, Ho Qianyue refused. He wasn't Bian Kai. He was one of the potential heirs of the Ho family. Who would dare mess with him? But in the end, Zhuangyu insisted on sending his two strongest disciples, one a level 8 martial artist and the other a level 9, to Ho Qianyue's side. Whether his own brother was in danger or not, as the older brother, he had to be vigilant. Ho Qianyue felt somewhat helpless about this, but he was also deeply moved. He hadn't expected that these older brothers, whom he had only met through the youngest brother, would be so loyal. It truly was a case of sharing both fortune and misfortune, life and death. Hey, fifth brother, yes, I'm on my way to school. Let's meet there. After hanging up Zhuangyu's call, Teng Hu called shortly after. Bian Kai was planning to move today, and his dorm room was still piled high with clothes. So he asked Teng Hu to meet him at school so he could help him move. Bian Kai had never dared to hire a top-tier martial arts master as a mover before. When Bian Kai walked out of the residential area, he noticed the security guard in the room had changed. A young man in his early 20s was now there. The young man's security uniform had the Hungan logo on it, indicating it was the new security company hired by the Bai Group. After all, Xiao Jun's behavior yesterday had angered Bai Qingshan, who immediately demanded to terminate the contract. He hadn't expected the old man to hold a grudge so quickly and change security companies. Bian Kai sensed the young man's aura. He was probably around apprentice level 7, with physical abilities about 7 times that of an average person. He's quite skilled. It seems this security company called Hungan is not to be underestimated. Bian Kai didn't care. Since he bought the apartments in Tianyumingdi, they were his private property, regardless of whether the Bai family was the developer. From the moment he paid, those 25 apartments no longer belonged to the Bai family. Private property is sacred and inviolable, so Bian Kai wasn't afraid of the Bai family causing trouble. He could just live there peacefully. Perhaps because Tianyumingdi was a place where the wealthy lived, or for some other reason, Bian Kai waited on the roadside for ages but couldn't hail a single taxi. Damn it, do these taxi drivers think rich people don't take taxis? Bian Kai was quite helpless. Indeed, everyone living here owned a car, and most had drivers. Taxi drivers would probably go bankrupt if they waited for fares here. Finally, with no other option, Bian Kai had to take out his phone and download a ride-hailing app. These days, ride-hailing services are developing extremely rapidly. Bian Kai casually typed ride-hailing into the app search bar, and instantly a bunch of ride-hailing apps popped up. Shinfeng Ride-Hailing. This company is interesting. Bian Kai knew about this company. It specialized in providing high-end ride-hailing services. He knew about it because he had taken Qian and I on one before. Of course, it was Qian Ni's request. Although Bian Kai was short on cash, he gritted his teeth and took her for a ride in a luxury car. He had this ride-hailing app on his old phone, and without much thought, Bian Kai downloaded it. Then he booked an Audi R8, which was the company's most expensive car, costing around 3 million yuan. Moreover, the entire Shinfeng company only had this one real supercar. It was just for show. The rest were mostly BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi models, especially sedans and minivans. After all, who would specifically hail a sports car just for the sake of it? It only seats one person, and the price is outrageously high. 2,000 yuan for the first 2 kilometers, and 300 yuan per kilometer thereafter. Would someone who can afford this car even need to take a taxi? Therefore, this R8 has been sitting in the kamikaze company's parking lot gathering dust, rarely receiving any orders. A silver-gray sports car arrived shortly after at the Tianyumingdi residential complex. The driver, dressed in a suit and tie, got out and opened the door for Bian Kai. Hello, esteemed guest. Would you like the top down? The driver asked politely after Bian Kai got in, a company requirement. Bian Kai glanced at the rising sun outside and replied directly, no need. Driving with the top down in this heat, while stylish, was simply unbearable in the scorching sun. After stating his destination, the R8 roared off with the characteristic roar of a sports car. Inside, Bian Kai felt the powerful acceleration and was momentarily excited. This was the kind of car a man should drive. While enjoying the thrill of the R8, Bian Kai pondered how to spend his money today, his top priority. Glancing at the driver, who was focused intently on driving, an idea suddenly popped into his head. Sir, how many luxury cars does your company have in total? Hearing Bian Kai's question, the driver politely replied. Sir, our company has a total of 120 luxury cars, most of which are sedans and business vans from BBA, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and 20 SUVs. Oh, that must be worth a lot of money, right? Well, apart from this R8 worth 3 million, the average price of the other cars is about 60,000, so the total value is around 80 million. Only 80 million? How can it be so cheap? Bian Kai originally thought that so many luxury cars would cost at least hundreds of millions, but he didn't expect it to be only 80 million. This dampened his enthusiasm considerably, but even a small amount is still something, so he said, Sir, do you have your boss's phone number? I'm planning to acquire your company. The price is negotiable. Upon hearing Bian Kai's words, the driver was visibly stunned. Why was this young man, who was just sitting in the car, suddenly eyeing his company? However, Shinfeng Company's service principle was to satisfy all customer requests. Although Bian Kai's words sounded like something a madman would say, he still replied politely. I have the boss's number. Would you like me to dial it for you? Sure, dial it. The call was quickly answered. Hello, Xiao Zhao, what's up? Weren't you driving your R8 to pick up guests? A deep voice came from the other end of the line. Xiang Tian was also puzzled. Hadn't Xiao Zhao just driven that R8 to pick up guests? Why was he suddenly calling him? Could something have happened to the guests? Mr. Xiang, the guest is currently in the car, but this gentleman has made a request that needs to be discussed with you. Oh, what request requires discussion with me? Xiang Tian was somewhat confused. Someone who could afford this car was definitely not an ordinary person. Could it be some kind of business collaboration? A large company had previously approached him about cooperation, chartering dozens of cars at once for entertainment or travel. This gentleman wants to acquire our company and asked me to contact you. Xiang Tian wondered if he had misheard. What did he mean by wanting to acquire his company? What kind of customer had Xiao Zhao brought along? Xiao Zhao, are you sure this gentleman is talking about acquiring my company? Yes, Mr. Xiang, that's exactly what he said. How about this? I'll have him speak to you personally. Hearing their conversation, Bian Kai couldn't help but admire Mr. Xiang's management skills. This driver named Xiao Zhao hadn't shown any sign of treating him like a fool. If this were an employee of any other ride-hailing company, they'd probably kick him out of the car by now. Just a ride. And he wants to acquire their company? Hello, Mr. Xiang. My surname is Bian, and my given name is Kai. This driver Xiao Zhao is right. I do indeed want to acquire your company. The price will definitely not be unfair to you. Xiang Tian listened to Bian Kai's voice on the other end of the phone. It sounded quite young. Could he be a scion of some powerful family? But why would a scion of such a family be interested in his small company? Hello, Mr. Bian. Mr. Kai, may I ask why you're interested in our company? Xiang Tian was about to say Mr. Bian, but then realized that the title wasn't quite right and quickly changed it to Mr. Kai. Actually, there's no particular reason. I just want to invest in a ride-hailing company. I see your company is ranked #1 in Zhongbei City, so I'd like to invest. Bian Kai didn't really have a specific reason, but he couldn't very well say, I'm buying your company just to spend money. That would be incredibly stupid. Is that so? Mr. Kai, how much are you planning to offer to acquire our company? Xiang Tian was now certain that this young man was definitely a scion of a powerful family, perhaps even sent out by his family for training. It wasn't someone to offend. Although he hadn't considered selling his company, if the price was right, he might consider it, adhering to the principle of not offending this second-generation rich kid. But if this second-generation rich kid tries to seize things by trickery or force, Xiang Tian isn't one to be trifled with. Mr. Xiang, could you please introduce your company? I don't know much about your company. Okay, Mr. Kai, our company owns 120 luxury cars of various types. Although they are somewhat worn, their second-hand value is still around 60 million. The company premises include an 8-story office building and a 2,000 square meter open-air parking lot, which are worth about 50 million based on current market prices. In addition, the company has 5 car washes and 1 repair shop, fully equipped with dedicated mechanics. Maintenance and repairs can be handled in-house, and this is worth about 20 million. Similar to the ride-hailing app, the company's other fixed assets aren't worth much, but the daily maintenance expenses are quite high. Currently, the company's annual profit is around 20 million. Mr. Kai, that's a general overview of my company. How much are you willing to offer for the acquisition? Xiang Tian gave a brief overview of Shinfeng ride-hailing. Excluding annual profits, the fixed assets alone are worth approximately 130 million. After listening for a moment, Bian Kai quoted his price. Mr. Xiang, I'm very optimistic about your company's profitability. So how about 500 million? How much? On the other end of the phone, Xiang Tian almost threw his phone away upon hearing Bian Kai's offer. 500 million? He originally thought Bian Kai would only quote 300 million at most. If it were really 300 million, he wouldn't lose money even if he sold the company. He just didn't expect this second-generation rich kid to quote 500 million. This was definitely a greenhorn from a family who hadn't yet gained experience. Mr. Kai, are you sure it's 500 million? Yes, it's 500 million. If you think it's suitable, come to Zhongbei University to find me. I'll arrange for someone to draft the equity transfer agreement, and I'll pay immediately after both parties sign it. Bian Kai's interest had indeed waned. Only 500 million? That was already his attempt to inflate the price. However, the deal was already done, and the contract still needed to be signed. Perfect, Mr. Kai? North China University, right? I'm coming right now. Xiang Tian hung up the phone and drove straight to North China University without any delay. Hey, senior, send someone over. I bought a ride-hailing company. Get the equity transfer agreement ready. After hanging up, Bian Kai called Lu Xueqing. He didn't call Xiao because he wanted her to get some rest. Lu Xueqing was very calm when she received the call. She was completely used to her new boss's penchant for buying companies. However, she was currently busy dealing with the Xinguang Digital City matter, so she arranged for a legal assistant to go. 10 minutes later, the Audi R8 pulled up in front of North China University. Xiao Zhao was even more attentive this time, running to open the car door for Bian Kai. He had heard every word of Bian Kai's conversation with Mr. Xiang. This was his future boss, and currently, only he knew about this. If I don't seize this opportunity to show off, wouldn't I be a fool? Bian Kai got out of his car and saw a powerful-looking Land Cruiser Prado parked to the side. Standing beside it was a burly man, his 5th brother, Tung Hu. 5th brother, you got here pretty fast. Is this your car? It's imposing enough, and it matches your style perfectly. Haha, youngest brother, I just got here a few minutes ago. This car can't compare to yours. It's only worth a few $100,000. Didn't you say you had a lot of stuff? So I drove it here. Tung Hu was a typical roughneck. While Bian Kai was technically his boss, he only cared about his brothers, not his boss, so he spoke without any restraint. 5th brother, I doubt your car can hold all my stuff, but it's okay, I have a way. Bian Kai's dorm room was overflowing with clothes and shoes. Even the large Land Cruiser Prado couldn't possibly hold them all. Just as the two were chatting, a BMW 7 Series pulled up nearby, and a slightly overweight, balding middle-aged man stepped out. Xiao Zhao quickly went to greet him. Mr. Xiang, over here, Mr. Kai is over here. Hearing Xiao Zhao's address, Bian Kai realized that the balding middle-aged man was Xiang Tian, the current boss of Shinfeng car hailing. The two shook hands and exchanged a few pleasantries. The legal assistant sent by Lu Xueqing arrived just then. Led by Bian Kai, the group entered the school. Grandpa Gu initially wanted to stop them, as during the summer vacation, only students and faculty were allowed in. However, Xiang Tian was quick-witted and, seeing the security guard stop them, hurriedly pulled a wad of cash from his bag and stuffed it into Grandpa Ji's hand, smiling like a benevolent Buddha, begging the old man to make an exception. Are you kidding? Nobody can stop him from signing the contract with CEO Kai now. That's 500 million. Once it's done, his life will be incredibly carefree. Bian Kai, watching from the side, kept nodding in approval. No wonder he's a seasoned businessman. He has that keen eye. It's no wonder he's built Shinfeng Company into such a large company. Perhaps we can keep this guy and let him continue to manage the company's business. Talented people like him aren't easy to find. As Bian Kai led the way towards the dormitory, he pondered to himself, wondering if President Xiang would still be interested in working for someone else after receiving 500 million. Perhaps offering him an irresistible salary would be a good idea. Money was no object for Bian Kai. If he could keep Xiang Tian by spending money, he wouldn't hesitate. Soon, the group arrived at Bian Kai's dormitory. To Bian Kai's surprise, the door was ajar, and he could faintly hear a man and woman talking inside. Wu Peng, young master Bai, truly lives up to his reputation as a rich second generation. So many high-end clothes, they must cost tens of millions. Of course, old Bai's family has assets worth hundreds of billions. Spending tens of millions on clothes is a piece of cake for him. Speaking of which, I'm about the same size as old Bai. Honey, believe it or not, if I just asked old Bai, he could probably give me several outfits. Really? That's a lot of money. It's fake. Just as the two inside were fantasizing about Bai Minghui giving them clothes, a voice suddenly rang out. Bian Kai, listening from outside, was speechless. It was none other than one of his roommates. His name was Wu Peng. His family was of modest means, barely middle class. He was one of Bai Minghui's lackeys, living a comfortable life thanks to the occasional handouts Bai Minghui gave him. He had found a girlfriend who was the prettiest girl in their class, and even rented an apartment near the school, living with her. When he was short of money, he would go to Bai Minghui and act pitiful, and Bai Minghui would always give him tens of thousands of yuan like it was food for a dog. Because Bai Minghui and Bian Kai had a terrible relationship, Wu Peng often bullied and mocked Bian Kai, and the two had even fought. Wu Peng was a big, burly guy. Back then, Bian Kai didn't have the strength he has now, and he got a good beating. Therefore, Bian Kai deeply resented Wu Peng. He just hadn't expected Wu Peng, who rarely returned to the dorm, to actually come back now, and even assumed that all the clothes in the dorm were bought by Bai Minghui. Of course, there was nothing wrong with his thinking. After all, in Wu Peng's mind, only a rich second generation like Bai Minghui could afford so many clothes. Bian Kai, listening outside to Wu Peng bragging about his close relationship with Bai Minghui, felt disgusted. He was just a dog. What was he pretending for? Asking for several sets of clothes like that? If the clothes really were Bai Minghui's, that would be one thing, but these designer brands were all bought by him, Bian Kai. Asking for several sets? You try asking me that. I'll give you a few sets if I'm out there. Unable to stand it any longer, Bian Kai pushed open the door and barged in, his words fake, immediately attracting the attention of Wu Peng and his girlfriend, Li Jing. Hey, Bian, you're back from work? That outfit you're wearing? Well, Bian, you actually dared to steal old Bai's clothes. You've got some nerve. Bian Kai was immediately mocked by Wu Peng as soon as he entered. Then, seeing Bian Kai's Armani outfit, Wu Peng immediately assumed Bian Kai had stolen Bai Minghui's clothes. Li Jing chimed in. She knew Bian Kai. After all, they were in the same school, and she was Wu Peng's roommate. Moreover, she knew about Bian Kai's relentless pursuit of Qian and I. Yeah, Bian Kai, don't try to show off if you don't have the ability. You'll easily get humiliated. Did you go to Qian Ni's place wearing that to show off? I advise you to give up. A beauty like Qian and I wouldn't be interested in a poor loser like you. Bian Kai simply said, fake, and was immediately ridiculed by Wu Peng and Li Jing, leaving Xiang Tian and the others who came in later speechless. The man and woman in front of them must be out of their minds. Who is CEO Kai? Someone who can spend 100 billion to acquire strong shield. Do they think they can just mock him like that? Who are you calling a brat? Fujitora's eyes widened. How could he tolerate his brother being mocked? Before anyone could even see how he struck, Wu Peng was already hanging on the wall, blood trickling from his mouth. As for Li Jing, she was completely terrified, standing frozen in place, her legs trembling slightly. None of the people present could stop Fujitora. He was a peak martial master, while Bian Kai, the strongest among them, was only a peak apprentice. Therefore, Wu Peng took a very solid hit. Actually, Fujitora had already held back, using only a small amount of force to kick Wu Peng away. If he had used his full strength, the guy would definitely be dead by now, utterly crushed. He certainly wouldn't kill him, but teaching him a lesson was acceptable. As for the strong shield rule, that applied to employees. Bian Kai was his brother. What rule did he care about if his brother was bullied? Fifth brother, awesome. Bian Kai was speechless. He had only felt a gust of wind. Fujitora seemed to haven't moved an inch, and then Wu Peng was sent flying. Thud. Wu Peng landed heavily on the ground, clutching his stomach, unable to stand up. Bian Kai, you actually dared to have someone hit me. You're finished. I'm calling Lao Bai right now. These clothes of his are all very expensive. He'll have you arrested for theft. You just wait. He laboriously pulled his phone out of his pocket and called Bai Minghui, putting it on speakerphone. Tung Hu, seeing this kid dare to threaten his brother, was about to kick him again, but Bian Kai stopped him in time. Fifth brother, it's okay. Let him hit me. Let's see if Bai Minghui dares to come over. He was just looking for an opportunity to deal with Bai Minghui. Last time, because of Xiao Jun, he hadn't been able to properly berate him at the sales office. If Wu Peng could get this guy here, they could just take care of him together. Xiang Tian watched this scene with great interest. He wanted to see just how much influence this second-generation heir who wanted to buy his company really had. He knew Bai Minghui. He was the heir of the Bai Group, a very influential figure in Zhongbei City. Hey brother Bai, I got beaten up. That little punk Bian Kai secretly wore your clothes. Come to the school and report him to the police. After Wu Peng made the call, it was quickly answered. The sounds of Bai Minghui's heavy breathing and a woman's scream came from the other end. Since Wu Peng had the phone on speaker, Everyone in the room could hear the conversation. Bian Kai recognized the woman's voice all too well. It was Qian and I. She's shameless to the extreme. Knowing exactly what kind of person Bai Minghui is, she still went out of her way to get herself killed. Bian Kai was completely indifferent to Qian and I now. He didn't understand why he had pursued such a woman for years. She had no principles whatsoever. Xiaopeng, what clothes? I didn't buy clothes. Who beat you up? Bai Minghui answered Wu Peng's questions with exaggerated intonation while handling business on the other end. These clothes in the dorm? Didn't you buy them, brother Bai? I was beaten up by the guys Bian Kai brought. They hit me so hard. I even coughed up blood, brother Bai. Wu Peng started crying as he spoke, crying out his injustice to Bai Minghui. Oh. On the other end of the phone, Bai Minghui finally finished his business and tidied himself up a bit before answering the call. I haven't bought any clothes recently. Even if I did, I wouldn't leave them in the dorm. The guys Bian Kai brought? What do they look like? You didn't buy them? Impossible. These clothes must be worth tens of millions. Who in our dorm could afford that besides you? Wu Peng was completely bewildered. A dorm full of high-end clothes couldn't be bought by just anyone. It must have been Bian Kai who bought them. Damn it, that bastard was just pretending all along. He must have some powerful backing. He bought all the remaining houses in that upscale residential complex my family developed in one go, spending over 1 billion yuan. I've almost lost all face. Now my dad forbids me from messing with him. I should avoid him as much as possible, or I'll suffer a huge loss. If you weren't badly beaten, you should retreat first. We need to find out his background first, and then we'll talk when the time is right. It turned out that after manager Huang reported to Bai Qingshan that Bian Kai had bought the remaining houses in Tianyumingdi in full, Bai Qingshan secretly regretted his carelessness. He had believed his son's one-sided story. That's over 1 billion yuan. He just pulled it out like that. Even though he currently possesses tens of millions in assets, most of them are fixed assets like land and real estate. While he could easily produce over 1 billion yuan, it would disrupt the company's normal operations. Therefore, Bai Qingshan quickly sought to investigate Bian Kai's background. And coincidentally, just like Jin Pengzi, he contacted Go Laosi. Go Laosi was immediately bewildered. Why were all these big shots investigating this kid named Bian Kai? Most importantly, Bai Qingshan offered Go Laosi an even higher price, a full million, which made Go Laosi increasingly believe that his previous investigation results were utterly absurd. However, after a whole day of work yesterday, using all sorts of connections, he still couldn't uncover Bian Kai's true identity. The results were the same as before. Go Laosi had a bold guess, but when this guess popped into his head, it truly startled him. He was even considering refunding Jin Pengzi. Just as Go Laosi was hesitating, Bai Qingshan directly threw an even bigger order at him, also related to Bian Kai. Money is tempting, and although there were risks, Go Laosi decided to risk it all. Unexpectedly, his attempt dropped a bombshell among the upper echelons of Xia country, causing a sensation no less than that in the Western continent. After Bai Minghui finished speaking, he hung up the phone. The business hadn't been handled thoroughly enough. He decided to resolve it completely. Qian and I, after hearing that Bian Kai had bought 25 houses in cash, seemed somewhat tempted. Bian Kai was noticeably less attentive when handling business, which infuriated Bai Minghui. The girl he'd spotted at the sales office yesterday had been ruined by Bian Kai. Manager Huang said she'd taken her commission and quit. Although Manager Huang told him Bukursin was from the Zhongbei City Conservatory of Music, there were many students there, and finding her would be difficult. He was incredibly frustrated. Bai Minghui had never been treated like this before, but his father had explicitly told him not to provoke Bian Kai for the time being. So he vented all his anger on Qian and I, beating her mercilessly, leaving her fair skin covered in bruises and some areas numb. She hadn't gotten out of bed since noon yesterday, only managing to defecate once. After all, other things could be done in bed, even while being beaten, but defecating was unacceptable. Even if Bai Minghui was a pervert, the sensation of being surrounded by a pile of feces was simply unbearable. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Wu Peng was completely dumbfounded. Bian Kai's background wasn't simple? What the hell? He'd known Bian Kai for over 2 years, and from beginning to end, this guy had always acted like a poor loser. Otherwise, how could he have dared to bully Bian Kai before? Bian Kai and the others had naturally heard the conversation earlier. They could only blame Wu Peng for being too arrogant, putting the phone on speakerphone. Youngest brother, Bai Qingshan, is investigating you. Should your brother secretly? Teng Hu whispered in Bian Kai's ear. He knew about the conflict between Bian Kai and the Bai family. Now that he heard Bai Qingshan was investigating his brother, he might as well go all the way. No need, fifth brother. I'll find a way. Killing him directly would be too easy on him, and it would also land you in legal trouble. These two, father and son, have committed countless evils. I want them to experience true despair. Bian Kai said calmly. He didn't have a clue about this matter yet, but given the opportunity, he would definitely uproot the Bai family. Fujitora didn't insist further. Since his brother said he had a way, he'd just cooperate. What? Wu Peng, are you planning to get kicked again if you don't leave now? Bian Kai looked at the dazed Wu Peng and said coldly. Jingjing, let's go. With Li Jing's help, Wu Peng struggled to his feet and limped towards the door, quickly disappearing from sight. President Xiang, I'm sorry you had to see this. Let's sign the contract now. After Wu Peng disappeared, Bian Kai's smile returned, and he said apologetically to Xiang Tian. Upon hearing this, Xiang Tian hurriedly said, not at all, not at all. His attitude extremely respectful. He had just heard that even the real estate tycoons of Zhongbei City dared not easily offend Bian Kai. That meant Bian Kai's identity was definitely extraordinary. So this contract was absolutely worth signing. And 500 million. No matter how you looked at it, he wouldn't lose out. The legal assistant brought out the drafted contract. Bian Kai and Xiang Tian each received a copy, signed them, and then exchanged them. In just 2 minutes, an acquisition worth 500 million was completed. Bian Kai didn't hesitate. After getting the account number from Xiang Tian, he transferred the money and then said, President Xiang, I have an idea you'd like to hear. Are you interested? President Kai, please speak freely. I admire your management skills. My experience riding in Shinfeng's car today was excellent, and I believe this is a result of your management. Although Shinfeng is now mine, I'd like to hire you to continue managing Shinfeng as its president, with all your authority within the company remaining unchanged. I I won't be involved in any company affairs, but I will arrange for internal audits from time to time. I believe you can understand this, President Xiang. As for the annual salary, how about 100 million a year? It's up to you. After all, although it's the same company, you were the boss before, and now you're an employee. If you're unwilling, I understand. Hearing Bian Kai's words, Xiang Tian swallowed hard. A 100 million annual salary? Only a fool would refuse. Mr. Kai, thank you for your appreciation. I accept. Xiang Tian didn't hesitate. On one hand, the annual salary of 100 million was indeed attractive. On the other hand, he wanted to use this opportunity to get close to Mr. Kai, whose influence would surely lead to a bright future. Okay, I'll have my lawyer draft an employment contract later. You can sign it then. Also, prepare a separate company account, named the Triumph account. I will deposit funds into it. These funds will be used for the company's daily expenses and for acquiring other ride-hailing companies. Acquire ride-hailing companies? Mr. Kai, are you trying to monopolize the ride-hailing market in Zhongbei City? Xiang Tian asked with some doubt. Hehe, Mr. Xiang, I hope you can broaden your horizons. I'm asking you to acquire a ride-hailing company, meaning the entire Xia Kingdom, or even overseas. You can negotiate the price. Money is not an issue. A reasonable premium is acceptable. I will also arrange for lawyers to assist you. There's only one requirement. Make Shinfeng the world's largest ride-hailing company. Huh. Xiang Tian was completely dumbfounded. He hadn't expected Mr. Kai's appetite to be so large. He knew that in the entire Xia Kingdom, there were about 20 large ride-hailing companies, all capable of covering the entire country. Meanwhile, various regions also have their own ride-hailing companies. Even if Kamikaze is considered a local ride-hailing company, there are countless similar companies nationwide, not even including those overseas. Kai actually wants to acquire them all. Just how much money does this second-generation rich kid have? It's truly terrifying. But then again, if this really happens, wouldn't he become the president of the largest ride-hailing company on Earth? His status would be incredibly high. What? Mr. Xiang, do you have a problem? It's alright, you can ask if you have any questions. No, Mr. Kai, how much capital do you plan to inject initially? Let's start with 100 billion. Try your best to acquire more. If you need more, you can ask me for more. I suggest acquiring large companies with nationwide coverage first. We can talk about smaller companies later. Perhaps it was the pressure from Zhuang Yu, Teng Hu, and others that made Bian Kai feel that his current spending speed was too slow. He needed someone to help him, and Xiang Tian was a very good choice. Okay, Mr. Kai, I'll follow your instructions. Let's start with Dida Taxi, currently the largest ride-hailing service in China. I'll head to Kyoto tomorrow to talk to the owner of Dida. Excellent. I love Mr. Xiang's decisive and efficient work style. By the way, all daily cash flow of the company should be transferred to my Haiying account. Listen carefully, all operating cash flow, not profits. Company expenses and acquisition costs will be covered by the Kaixin account. Mr. Xiang, give me the company account details. I'll transfer the money first. After transferring the money, Bian Kai planned to implement the employee benefit system for the Shuefu Hotel, but ride-hailing drivers are paid on a commission basis. The original rule was that the company took 30% and the driver received 70%. However, Bian Kai drastically cut the company's commission in half, to 15%, with the driver receiving 85%. Xiang Tian initially wanted to object, but seeing Bian Kai's resolute attitude, he had no choice but to give up. Not only that, Bian Kai also reduced the original ride-hailing fare by 50%. This resulted in the price of even the cheapest BMW 3 Series and Mercedes-Benz C-Class taxis becoming virtually indistinguishable from regular taxi fares. Bian Kai's decisions were made entirely on a whim, simply to maximize the financial burden on Shinfeng Company. He hadn't considered making money at all. What's the point of making money? He already had more money than he could spend. He'd rather lose as much as possible. After arranging these matters, Xiang Tian rushed back to handle the rest, leaving Xiao Zhao behind as Bian Kai's personal driver. Bian Kai was quite satisfied with Xiao Zhao's service and accepted the arrangement. Xiang Tian had just stepped out the door when Bian Kai called him back. Mr. Xiang, how many cars does the company currently have idle? Mr. Kai, there are about 40 cars currently idle and without any orders. Do you have any plans? Bian Kai couldn't help but smile wryly upon hearing this, pointing to a room full of clothes and saying, I have to move all these clothes. Right now, there's only one R8 and one Prado. The R8 can't hold much at all, and relying on that Prado will take countless trips. Xiang Tian immediately understood Bian Kai's meaning and quickly replied, I understand, Mr. Kai. I'll arrange for all the company's idle vehicles to come over right away. It should be able to move them in one trip. Okay, then arrange it. Each driver who came this time will receive a 10,000 yuan bonus from the Kaixin account. The other drivers who are busy will each receive 5,000 yuan. Consider it a welcome gift from me, the new boss. Bian Kai naturally wouldn't let his company's brothers make a wasted trip. Giving everyone some benefits is a small expense, but it's worth it. Okay, Mr. Kai, thank you on behalf of the brothers. I'll arrange it right away. It's about a 20-minute drive from the company to here. Please wait a moment. Hearing Bian Kai's words, Xiang Tian couldn't help but think to himself, this new boss is quite good at winning people over. Those drivers only earn around 10,000 yuan a month at most, and 4 or 5,000 at the least. Bian Kai's perk is equivalent to giving them a month's salary directly. They'll definitely be very supportive of him when they find out. A brilliant move. After Xiang Tian left, Bian Kai first checked his attribute panel. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 3 years 331 days. Skill points, 5 points. Constitution, 1224, normal human 10. Mental strength, 157, normal human 10. Martial artist level, martial master level 1. Skills, basic combat, advanced chef. Although it only increased his lifespan by 5 days, with the acquisition plan, he'll definitely spend money very quickly in the future. Xiao Zhao and Teng Hu were organizing the clothes and shoes, grouping similar items together for easy transport later. Just then, Bian Kai's phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, and not a local one. He answered it casually. Hello, who is this? As soon as Bian Kai finished speaking, a low sob came from the other end, making him momentarily puzzled. Hello, say something, or I'm hanging up. Seeing the other person remain silent, Bian Kai was about to hang up, wondering if it was some kind of prank. No, don't hang up. Are you? Hearing Bian Kai was about to hang up, the person on the other end quickly stopped crying. Who are you? Not many people probably knew he was the powerful figure behind the Frog platform. Fu Yun, Dai Tianlu, and the others seemed to know, but they had assured him they wouldn't leak any information. Is it really you? Brother Fu Yun, I'm Zhang Lanying, Dodo's mother. Upon hearing the other person's identity, Bian Kai immediately remembered who she was. The night before last, he had spent 100 million yuan in a live stream about a child with leukemia, leaving his contact information in a private message. Oh, Dodo's mother. How is Dodo doing now? Did she have the bone marrow transplant? Yes, she did. The surgery was successful, and Dodo has been transferred to a regular ward. The fraud platform settled my payment for the gifts you gave during the live stream right away, and the hospital immediately arranged the surgery after I paid. Bian Kai had given 100 million yuan in gifts, and other viewers in the live stream had given over 60 million yuan, with the fraud platform even waiving its commission. Moreover, the 160 million yuan was settled with Zhang Lanying that very night, making her a genuine billionaire. Therefore, the 500,000 yuan needed for Dodo's surgery was no problem at all. The fraud platform issued a related announcement overnight, promising to continue to pay attention to similar situations. Bian Kai had expected this result. After all, one of the system's rules was that you couldn't give money away for no reason. Although he knew the outcome, Bian Kai didn't intend to give up. This matter needed careful planning, one that could both increase his lifespan and do charity. He could discuss it with his older brothers and 2 senior classmates sometime. It's like this, Brother Fu Yun. The money you've given me is far too much. I can't possibly use it all. Could you give me your account number so I can return it to you? To be honest, Zhang Lanying felt uneasy looking at the long string of numbers in her bank account. It was too much, far too much. Return the money? This was something Bian Kai hadn't expected. This single mother was incredibly kind. If it were any other streamer, they would have already used that money to live a carefree life. Returning it was out of the question. No need to return it. Keep this money and take good care of Dodo. After all, you two still need to live. No, Brother Fu Yun, I can't take so much of your money. If you really don't want it, then I'll donate it all in your name. Zhang Lanying's attitude was firm, which put Bian Kai in a difficult position. This woman was kind, but why was she so stubborn? I've got it. Dodo's mom. You probably don't have a job right now, right? Bian Kai asked. Yes, I quit my job after Dodo got sick, and I haven't found a new one yet. Zhang Lanying was a little surprised that Brother Fu Yun would ask this question. I wonder if you'd be willing to do the housekeeping job? I currently live in Zhongbei City, and my house is too big for me to clean by myself, so I need a housekeeper. Upon hearing Bian Kai's words, Zhang Lanying immediately understood his intention. Cleaning? For a woman her age, that was a piece of cake. No problem, Brother Fu Yun. I can do the job, but what about Dodo's condition? Bian Kai naturally understood Zhang Lanying's current predicament. Although Dodo's surgery was successful, she still needed to rest for a while. If she came to be a housekeeper, she would definitely have to take care of Dodo, which would be inconvenient. It's alright, Sister Jiang. Don't call me Brother Fu Yun anymore. I'm actually not that old. My name is Bian Kai. You can call me Boss Kai from now on. Bring Dodo over with you. I bought over 20 apartments in my neighborhood. A few are already occupied, the rest are empty. You can choose anyone to live in when you arrive. Come work when you have work, and take care of Dodo when you don't. As for the 100 million I gave you, consider it your salary. Don't refuse this time, or I'll get angry. Zhang Lanying on the other end of the phone was already sobbing uncontrollably. She never imagined she would meet such a kind person as Bian Kai in her life. No one knew how desperate she had been before, watching her child lying in a hospital bed waiting to die, and her husband leaving her. There was a time when she thought that if Dodo didn't make it, she would go with her child. There was nothing left in this world worth her staying for. I promise. I'll pack my things right now and take Dodo to Zhongbei City, Mr. Kai. Zhang Lanying swears she'll be your nanny for life, until the day she can't work anymore. Bian Kai breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing Zhang Lanying's promise. He didn't mind being a nanny for life. Zhang Lanying's act of voluntarily returning the money showed that she was a very kind-hearted person and a good candidate for a nanny. After all, finding a good nanny is incredibly difficult in today's society. Countless families have been torn apart by a nanny's negligence. Sister Jiang, you and Dodo are at the Jiangnan Provincial Central Hospital, right? I'll arrange for someone to pick you up. Dodo just had surgery and shouldn't be traveling too much. Alright then, thank you, Mr. Kai. After hanging up, Bian Kai called Xiang Tian, asking him to arrange a van to pick up Zhang Lanying and her son from Jiangnan Province and bring them to Zhongbei City. After handling this matter, Bian Kai suddenly remembered that Dai Tianlu, the owner of the fraud platform, said he was coming today. He wondered where he was now. This was currently his biggest spending target. Given the fraud platform's current reputation in China, although it wasn't publicly listed, its valuation should be over 100 billion. If he could really acquire the fraud platform, Bian Kai's lifespan would definitely increase dramatically, at least doubling. Thinking about this, Bian Kai was really looking forward to meeting Dai Tianlu. As for whether the acquisition would be successful, Bian Kai wasn't too worried. He'd just throw money at it, the more the better. Ring ring. Just as he hung up Zhang Lanying's call, Bian Kai's phone rang again. Hello, who is this? Hello, Mr. Kai. This is the driver from Shinfeng Company. Mr. Xiang arranged for me to bring some people to help you move, but we can't get into Zhongbei University right now. An old man is blocking the gate. It turned out that Xiang Tian's people had arrived. Bian Kai was quite helpless after hearing this. This gatekeeper was really going to stick with him. Fine, if they can't get in, they can't get in. You guys wait outside. I'll bring some people to move the things out, and you can load them into the car. Bian Kai decided not to bother the old man, and called the person in charge of the Xuefu Hotel, asking him to send some people to help with the move. The Xuefu Hotel was located inside Zhongbei University, and it was morning, so the hotel wasn't busy. When Bian Kai heard that he was helping his boss move things, over 70 employees rushed over, including some managers and department heads. Aside from the staff who had to stay at the hotel, Bian Kai's single phone call emptied the entire Xuefu Hotel. Bian Kai was taken aback by his employees' enthusiasm. Well, he and Tung, who didn't even need to lift a finger. These 70-plus people, along with their driver Xiao Xiao, moved all the clothes and shoes in one trip, everyone beaming with happiness. Serving Bian Kai was a tremendous honor for them. Where else in the world could they find such a generous boss? Upon arriving at the main gate, Bian Kai was stunned by the scene before him. A full 40 luxury cars completely blocked the school entrance. Anyone who didn't know better would think it was the start of the school year, but there were still 3 days until then. Such a spectacular scene naturally attracted a lot of attention. While passersby were fine, some students who had returned to school early were just as awestruck as Bian Kai was by the sight. However, what shocked them even more was that a large group of people dressed in university hotel uniforms marched towards the school gate. Each person was carrying various high-end clothing brands, some of which they couldn't even name, but which were clearly very expensive. The key issue was the sheer number of clothes. A rough estimate puts these garments at least tens of millions of yuan, and the luxury cars parked outside were clearly there to pick them up. The scene was incredibly grand. The students watching naturally deduced from the attire that such a spectacle must be related to the owner of the Xuefu Hotel. This deduction wasn't wrong, except they assumed the owner was Chu Tianhe, not Bian Kai. A curious student filmed the scene and posted it on Douyin, TikTok, with the caption, "A super rich tycoon appears at North China University. How much money has the owner of the Xuefu Hotel made over the years?" Such a sensational topic naturally sparked heated discussion and various comments. These days, it's so easy to make money off college students. Look at this scene. How many places in Zhongbei City can compare? Chu Tianhe is a total bloodsucker. He's squeezed way too much money out of students over the years. Based on my understanding of these brands, all the clothes alone are conservatively estimated to be at least 20 million yuan. The 40 luxury cars parked outside must be worth over 20 million yuan too. The owner of this university hotel is definitely rich. Damn, is what the person upstairs said true? Spending over 20 million yuan on clothes? That's outrageously extravagant. Chu Tianhe knew nothing about it, and was inexplicably made a scapegoat for Bian Kai. But even if he knew, it wouldn't matter. Bian Kai had given him 5 billion yuan. Taking the blame was nothing. Amidst a crowd of onlookers, the entire dormitory full of clothes was finally loaded onto the vehicles, and then all the cars started moving. Led by Fujitora's Land Cruiser Prado, they headed towards the Tianyu mansion, with Bian Kai following at the back in his R8. Naturally, this attracted another crowd of onlookers. After all, a long line of luxury cars was quite a sight. In many people's eyes, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi were already considered luxury cars, and many speculated that this might be a wedding convoy. But what kind of family wealth could afford to hire so many luxury cars for a wedding? How much money was wasted? 6 or 8 cars would be enough for a wedding. In the R8, Xiao Xiao drove, and Bian Kai sat in the passenger seat. Watching the convoy being pointed at and talked about by passersby, he couldn't help but regret his earlier decision. If he had known it would attract so much attention, he would have just called a truck. One car would have been enough, and it wouldn't have attracted any attention. But what was done, and Bian Kai had no choice. Fortunately, Tianyu Mingdi wasn't far from Zhongbei University. 20 minutes later, all the cars were parked at the entrance of the complex, but none could get in. What's wrong, fifth brother? Bian Kai got out of the car and saw Teng, who standing at the gate with a gloomy expression. Opposite him stood a young security guard, his uniform bearing the name Hungen. It was the same new security guard Bian Kai had seen at Tianyu Mingdi that morning. "Hey, youngest, this brat won't let our car in, saying we're not residents." Bian Kai understood immediately upon hearing Fujitora's words and stepped forward to the young security guard, saying, "Brother, I'm a resident here. Please open the gate quickly. These cars are for helping me move things." Bian Kai thought that would solve the problem, but the young security guard still wouldn't open the gate, saying, "You're a resident, you can go in, but others can't, especially this guy. I suspect he's not a good person. Letting him into the community would threaten the safety of other residents." The security guard pointed at Fujitora as he spoke. "You little brat, you're asking for it." Fujitora's anger flared immediately upon hearing the guard say he wasn't a good person, but before he could strike, the security guard was already sent flying, crashing heavily into the wall next to him, and then passed out without any further reaction. Bian Kai slowly withdrew his foot, his face extremely ugly, and said in an icy voice, "Who are you calling a bad person? Is this how your security company teaches you to serve customers?" It was Bian Kai who had made the move. This guy dared to mock his fifth brother to his face. Although his fifth brother was a bit rough-looking, he wasn't someone a mere security guard could insult so easily. "You're pretty good, youngest brother." Fujitora hadn't expected his seemingly frail younger brother to be so strong. The security guard was at least a level 7 apprentice martial artist, yet Bian Kai had kicked him flying with a single kick. That was at least the strength of a beginner martial master. "Fifth brother, what happened? I feel like this security guard knows you." Bian Kai looked at the security guard he had kicked unconscious, somewhat puzzled. Normally, a security guard wouldn't stop a resident from entering. "Hee, youngest brother, this is a long story. Let's talk about it as we walk." Fujitora walked to the guardhouse, found the remote control for the main gate, and opened it. He had covered for his apprentice here before, so he naturally knew how to open the gate. This time, Bian Kai got into Fujitora's Land Cruiser and led the way into the residential area, with the other cars following closely behind. As for the unconscious security guard, no one paid him any attention. It was a joke. The boss had beaten him up, and even the boss didn't care, so the drivers certainly wouldn't bother. "Youngest brother, you should have noticed earlier, that security guard was from Hungen. Hungen isn't just Xiangduan's competitor, but also our biggest enemy. It all came to this because of third brother's apprentice, Chao Yunwei. Chao Yunwei is a martial arts prodigy. He reached martial master level 8 at the age of 20. Third brother treated him like his own son, but this kid is a troublemaker, repeatedly violating company rules and injuring people outside. Third brother always stepped in to smooth things over, but what no one expected was that when the company faced difficulties, he was the first to betray it. Not only did he leave Qiangduan for Hungen, but he also went around ruining Qiangduan's reputation, even targeting his own master. Third brother, enraged, went to deal with this unfilial disciple, but was severely injured and thrown out by Zhongju, Hungen's top fighter and one of its founders. Zhongju came from the underground boxing ring, possessing a strength 8,000 times greater than our eldest brother's. Seeing his brother half dead, the eldest brother challenged Zhongju to a life-or-death duel, but their strengths were evenly matched. After the fight, both were severely injured. If it weren't for intervention from their respective groups, Zhongju would have been killed, and the eldest brother's strength crippled. From then on, Xiangduan and Hungin became bitter enemies. Their people disliked each other and frequently clashed. Hungin even poached many of our people while Xiangduan was in trouble. Speaking of this, Tung, whose hands gripping the steering wheel bulged with veins, his eyes flashing coldly. Bian Kai hadn't expected such a history between the two security companies. No wonder the security guard had stopped fifth brother from entering. He was deliberately making things difficult. Fifth brother, how strong is Hungin now? Hungin has 3 founders, all from underground boxing rings. The eldest, Zhongju, is about as strong as the eldest brother. The second and third are about average, roughly my strength. In terms of high-end combat power, they're lacking, but Hungin has many martial arts masters, about 3 times our number, so their overall strength is significantly greater than ours. The reason they have so many masters is because Hungin has virtually no bottom line. They'll do whatever their employers tell them to do, making a fortune through shady means. Therefore, the compensation Hungin offers is far superior to what Chang'an can offer, naturally attracting many masters to join. At this point, a hint of helplessness flashed in Fujitora's eyes. So it's because of money. This is too easy to resolve. I have plenty of money, fifth brother. Let's call big brother and the others later, and we'll plan this carefully. This revenge must be taken. Bian Kai had thought this matter would be complicated, but it turned out it could be solved with money. Now, for him, anything that could be solved with money was the simplest thing. I almost forgot about that. Youngest brother, you're the boss of Strong Shield now, and you're not short of money. Okay, let's talk to the older brothers about it later. We've really been holding back for too long. The two chatted for a while longer, and the convoy finally arrived at the villa. Looking at the luxurious 6-story villa, Fujitora was truly envious. What's up, fifth brother? You've got your eye on this house. I have a few more, just smaller ones. If you like it, I'll give you one, and the other brothers will each get one. Seeing Fujitora's eyes, Bian Kai instantly understood his brother's thoughts, but Fujitora shook his head. Youngest brother, you've already given your brothers enough. You don't need to give us this house. Don't forget, you spent 100 billion to buy the Strong Shield. Now each of us has 20 billion in cash. Buying a house is a piece of cake. Fujitora was beaming as he said this. He certainly didn't lack the money to buy a house. But Bian Kai's next sentence left him speechless. But, fifth brother, I've already bought all the remaining houses in this complex. There aren't any vacant rooms left. Gah? Fujitora, who had just been beaming with joy, suddenly widened his eyes. His little brother was utterly inhuman. You bought all the houses. What am I supposed to buy? Huh? You little brat. Fine, I'll buy them from you then. Whatever price you paid, I'll buy them back for. Humph. Bian Kai was amused by Fujitora, but he knew this was the best solution. Besides the one he'd left for his parents and 2 for his 2 senior classmates, he still had 6 houses left. His brother wasn't short of money, so selling him one wouldn't be a problem. In the end, after discussing it, Fujitora bought a 500 square meter villa from Bian Kai. As for the 3 600 square meter houses, he planned to leave them to his older brothers. After all, he was single, while his brothers all had families, so naturally they needed larger houses. Fujitora didn't hesitate and directly transferred 50 million to Bian Kai's bank account. Bian Kai didn't plan to use that account. The money in his Supreme Black Card was more than he could ever spend, and the money in his Haiying account just sat there. In truth, he had no idea how much was left in it. The daily operating income of Shuefu Hotel, Xinguang Digital City, Changduan Security, and Shenfeng ride-hailing all went into this account. This account wasn't even linked to mobile banking, so who knew how much money was in it unless he checked at an ATM. But the incredibly busy CEO Kai didn't have the leisure for that. He'd deal with it another time. Just as the two completed the real estate transaction, the clothes in the car had already been moved to the villa by the drivers. Looking at the huge pile of clothes, Bian Kai was overwhelmed. He wasn't in the mood to unpack them now, so they were all piled up in the living room. He'd deal with them later. After finishing things here, Bian Kai sent the 40 luxury cars back, leaving only the R8 and driver Xiao Zhao, ready to be summoned by CEO Kai at any time. Brother, this car is a sports car, but it doesn't quite suit your status. Fujitora glanced at Bian Kai's R8. Although it cost 3 or 4 million, Bian Kai was a billionaire. Riding in this car seemed a bit too low class. Fifth brother, I don't know much about cars. Although I have a driver's license, I only drove once in driving school and haven't driven since. Bian Kai actually had a driver's license. Qian and I had been insisting on learning to drive, and luckily, the driving school had a buy one get one free promotion. So Bian Kai used all his scholarship money to enroll Qian and I, and also learn to drive himself. Little brother, do you have anything else to do today? If not, I'll take you to the auto show. There's a big auto show at the Zhongbei Convention and Exhibition Center today. Today? Seems like I don't have anything planned. Frog CEO Dai Tianlu said he was coming today, but there's still no word from him. He doesn't know where he is. Alright, fifth brother, how about showing your little brother around? Come on, youngest brother, with your wealth, do you really need your older brother to show you around? Let's go. This time, Bian Kai didn't let Xiao Zhao come along. Instead, he rode in Fujitora's Land Cruiser Prado towards the Zhongbei Convention Center. After about 20 minutes, the two arrived at their destination. There are quite a lot of people here. Bian Kai got out of the car, looking at the swarming crowd before him, and thought to himself that this auto show was quite large. Hee, youngest, don't be fooled by the crowds. Not many people are actually buying anything. Most are just here for the spectacle, or to see the car models. After Tung Hu parked the car, the two chatted as they walked towards the venue. Chu Ling, a sophomore at North China University, was in the same year as Bian Kai, though Bian Kai was studying physics while she was in the School of Foreign Languages. She was the gentle and quiet type of girl, 172 centimeters tall, with a perfectly proportioned figure, a classic golden ratio. She never wore makeup. Her skin was like porcelain, her eyes like stars, and her swan-like neck framed a classic oval face. Her hair was styled in a ponytail, giving her an ethereal, otherworldly air. Like Bian Kai, Chu Ling was also a top student, and her family was relatively well off. Although her father was a construction worker, His skills were renowned in the industry, earning over 700 yuan a day, which amounted to more than 20,000 yuan a month, though it was extremely hard work. Her mother worked in a garment factory as a team leader, earning over 6,000 yuan a month. Therefore, Chu Ling's life had always been relatively comfortable, unlike Bian Kai, who worried about money every day. Since starting university, Chu Ling's life had been a monotonous routine: meals, classes, dormitory, and sometimes studying in the library. Although many people coveted her beauty, Chu Ling never paid them any attention. She wasn't exactly aloof, but no one had ever successfully pursued her. Chu Ling originally thought she could quietly finish university and, with her grades, get a master's degree and find a job easily after graduation. But an accident shattered this plan. Her father accidentally fell from a 6-meter-high scaffold while working on a construction site. After 8 hours of emergency treatment at the hospital, Chu Ling's life was saved, but a comminuted fracture of her lumbar vertebra resulted in complete paralysis of her lower body. The entire treatment process exhausted the family's savings. Logically, this was a work-related injury, and the construction company should have paid compensation. However, the real estate development company where Chu Ling's father worked, Tianyu, refused to contribute a single penny. Chu Ling was stunned when she heard the news. Seeing her father lying in the hospital bed, threatening suicide, Chu Ling didn't know how to cope. Fortunately, her mother was strong enough. While comforting her distraught father, she also sued Tianyu Real Estate Company, demanding compensation. Inspired by her mother's determination, Chu Ling decided to work to ease the family's burden. Through a classmate's introduction and her own excellent physical condition, she successfully landed a job as a car model at the Zhongbei City Auto Show. Although the auto show only lasted a week, the daily wage was 1,000 yuan, an income that far exceeded her expectations. Moreover, once you gain fame in the car model industry, your income will definitely be plentiful. A few days ago, when Chu Ling was returning to school after work, she suddenly found someone lying on the roadside, covered in blood. Although she was terrified, she still helped call for an ambulance and then stood tremblingly by the side until the ambulance arrived. But the ambulance couldn't have made a wasted trip, especially considering the subsequent treatment costs. So Chu Ling reluctantly handed over the 4,000 yuan she'd earned from her part-time jobs over the past few days to the doctor, firmly refusing to go to the hospital with him. She had to go to the auto show tomorrow, and all the money she'd worked so hard for was gone in an instant. She didn't know if she'd ever get it back. Although she remembered what the injured man looked like, who could say for sure if he'd return the money? Fortunately, the auto show still had 3 days left, and she had to take this opportunity to earn as much as possible. And that injured man was none other than Bian Kai, the one who had been severely beaten by Ming Hui and his men that night. The Zhongbei City Convention and Exhibition Center covers an area of approximately 200,000 square meters. This auto show features 100 booths, encompassing major domestic and international car brands. Bian Kai and Tung Hu strolled around the exhibition hall. The convention center was enormous, and there were relatively few cars that met Bian Kai's requirements, so they hadn't found anything after half a day. Just as the two turned to the Porsche booth, they finally saw a car that satisfied Bian Kai, a Porsche 918, with a price tag of around 20 million yuan. Just as Bian Kai was about to examine the car, a clear and pleasant female voice suddenly rang in his ears. "Hey, aren't you the one who was taken away by the ambulance the other day? You're better so quickly? I remember you were seriously injured." Bian Kai turned around abruptly. A tall, beautiful woman in a bright silver jumpsuit, easily a 98 out of 100, was standing behind him. Few people knew he had been beaten by Ming Hui, and almost no one knew he had been taken away in an ambulance. How could this incredibly beautiful girl know about it? "How did you know I was taken away in an ambulance?" Bian Kai asked curiously. "Of course I know, because I'm the one who called the ambulance, and I even paid for 1,000 yuan out of my own pocket." Chu Ling's voice trailed off towards the end, becoming almost inaudible when she mentioned the 4,000 yuan. "Oh, so you called the ambulance for me. Thank you so much. My name is Bian Kai. How much did you pay out of your own pocket?" Bian Kai finally understood from Chu Ling's words. The reason he woke up in an ambulance that night was because this young girl had called it for him. Actually, Bian Kai had always wanted to find the person who helped him. Although this help seemed insignificant compared to the system, in that situation, her initiative to call an ambulance for him was a life-saving act. Moreover, Bian Kai, understanding the girl's meaning, even paid for her medical expenses. No wonder the doctors and nurses didn't chase him when he escaped from the hospital. It turned out the medical bills and ambulance dispatch fees had already been paid. 4,000 yuan. That's all the money I've earned from working these past few days. Chu Ling's voice was barely audible, but thanks to his keen hearing, he caught everything. All the money from her work? Bian Kai glanced at Chu Ling's clothes. Clearly, her so-called work was as a car model. Seeing the girl's embarrassed expression and desire for money, Bian Kai felt both touched and somewhat amused. "Can I ask your name? I'm very grateful that you called an ambulance for me that night. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be standing here now, so I need to know my savior's name. My name is Chu Ling. I just called an ambulance for you. I'm not really a savior." Hearing Bian Kai call her his savior, Chu Ling panicked for a moment, waving her hands repeatedly. "Hee, don't be nervous. You saved my life, so I definitely have to thank you. Do you get a sales commission working as a car model at Porsche?" Bian Kai's gratitude towards Chu Ling was heartfelt. In that situation, he would repay anyone who helped him 1,000-fold. Yes, the commission is 5 per 1,000. You're asking about this. Chu Ling couldn't help but feel a little doubtful. This young man was quite handsome, but good looks don't pay the bills. He should at least mention repaying the money. If he really couldn't, he could owe her, but he'd need an IOU. It's nothing, just what it sounds like. Go call your sales manager here. I'm planning to buy a few cars, and the commission will be yours. You want to buy cars? But that night, Chu Ling wanted to say, "I remember you were dressed very casually that night. Although you're dressed nicely today, do you really have the money to buy a car? And a luxury car like a Porsche, no less." "All right, Chu Ling, I'll call you that. Just call your sales manager over." Seeing Bian Kai's insistence, Chu Ling didn't hesitate any longer. She walked to the other side of the showroom and called over a middle-aged woman who appeared to be around 35 years old. "Little Chu, are you sure someone wants to buy a car right now?" The sales manager, surnamed Li, was 35 years old but very well maintained. She wore a business suit, her slightly plump figure accentuating her elegant demeanor. She wore light makeup and looked very energetic. Yes, Manager Lee, Mr. Bian Kai over there wants to buy a car. Manager Lee looked in the direction Chu Ling was pointing and saw a tall, incredibly handsome man, over 1.8 meters, smiling at them. As a seasoned professional, Manager Lee's experience was far superior to Chu Ling's. She immediately recognized that Bian Kai's casual attire was worth at least several 100,000 yuan. Most importantly, there was the watch Bian Kai was wearing. Although it was a bit far and difficult to see clearly, the Qianda Jade logo was still faintly visible. Anyone who could afford such a watch was undoubtedly wealthy and powerful. Quickly, this is a very important guest. Manager Lee quickly assessed the situation and, confirming that Chu Ling was telling the truth, hurriedly ran to Bian Kai in her high heels. Hello, I'm the sales manager here. My surname is Lee. Are you looking to buy a car? Manager Lee wore a very professional smile, her face beaming. Yes, Manager Lee, I do plan to buy the car. But I wanted to ask, will my commission from the sale go to Ms. Chu Ling? Yes, it will all go to Ms. Chu. She was the first person to serve you, so her commission naturally goes to her. Bian Kai nodded, looked around at the dozen or so cars displayed in the showroom, and asked, are these all the cars you have in the showroom? No, Mr. Bian Kai, due to limited space, most models are only displayed as samples. Of course, models like the 918 and Carrera GT are rare and only have one in the showroom. This one was specially brought in from overseas to enhance the prestige of this auto show. Manager Lee didn't immediately understand Bian Kai's meaning, but he still explained his question in detail. Do you have a list of the cars you have on hand? Show me one. Bian Kai's words only confused Manager Lee more. If you want to buy a car, just pick one. Why make a list? Do you intend to buy them all? If it weren't for the custom-made Qianda Jade watch on the young man's wrist, Manager Lee would probably have rolled her eyes. But when she handed the list to Bian Kai, his words immediately left Manager Lee speechless. It's not that many. I'll take all the cars on the list. Go arrange the paperwork. Bian Kai glanced at the list of 30 cars. The most expensive, a 918, was around 20 million yuan. A high-spec Carrera GT would cost around 10 million yuan. Other models like the 718 and 911 were sports cars costing 1 or 2 million yuan. And the cheapest, a Mekong, cost only a little over 800,000 yuan. The total cost of all 30 cars, including miscellaneous fees and add-ons, was just over 100 million yuan. For Bian Kai now, 100 million yuan was nothing. Manager Lee took a while to recover, and asked somewhat blankly, Mr. Bian Kai, are you sure you want all the cars on the list? Yes, is there a problem? I can pay in full. Bian Kai was getting impatient. 100 million yuan? What was so surprising? Except for that 918, none of the cars caught his eye. The main reason he bought all the cars was to repay Chu Ling for saving his life. After all, Chu Ling would get 500,000 yuan from the 100 million yuan transaction. Actually, in Bian Kai's opinion, 500,000 or even 50 million wouldn't be much, but there was no other way. Porsche only had these cars on display this time. So Bian Kai decided to give Chu Ling another car. With so many, she could choose whichever she wanted. Ahem, Mr. Bian Kai, I believe you can pay in full, but there's a problem. That 918 has already been reserved, so it's probably not easy to arrange. Manager Lee said somewhat awkwardly. Just now, a man in his 30s had brought a young woman who looked about 18 or 19 years old. The young woman immediately took a liking to the 918, and the man was very generous, paying a deposit directly, with the transfer of ownership to be completed after the exhibition. Reserved. Bian Kai couldn't believe that the only car he had his eye on had been snatched up by someone else. How could he possibly get away with this? Yes, Mr. Bian Kai. I'm so sorry, it's already been reserved. Oh, Miss Ho, you're here just in time. Mr. Bian Kai, this 918 has been reserved by Miss Ho. Manager Lee suddenly called out to Bian Kai from behind, and Bian Kai looked back curiously. What he saw almost made him burst out laughing. Even Tung, who beside him, was smiling. Sixth brother. Oh, youngest brother, fifth brother, what are you doing here? The newcomer was none other than Ho Qianyue, who had become the sixth brother after their renewed sworn brotherhood. Beside him was a girl of about 18 or 19 years old, about 1.6 meters tall, like a porcelain doll. Manager Lee finally breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. So these people knew each other. That made things much easier. If Bian Kai insisted on having the 918, it wouldn't be easy for him to handle, since he couldn't afford to offend either side. Mr. Bian Kai, Ms. Ho, perhaps you two could discuss the ownership of that 918 first. Manager Lee interjected at the opportune moment, thus absolving himself of responsibility. 918? Youngest brother, you've got your eye on that car too? Then you'll have to have a good talk with your little sister, haha. Oh, right, I forgot to introduce you. This is my younger sister, Ho Ji. She's 18 years old, and just got into Shanghai University this year. She was bored at home during the summer vacation, so she came to visit me. I brought her to the auto show to look around, and maybe buy a car. Ho Ji, this is my sworn brother, Tung Hu. You can also call him fifth brother. I'll let you in on a secret. Fifth brother is an even more powerful expert than Uncle Jiang. The guy who's trying to take your car is my sworn brother, Bian Kai. He's the youngest among us brothers, older than you, so you have to call him brother too. The Uncle Jiang that Ho Qianyue mentioned is a peak martial artist of the Ho family, whose strength is over 3,000 times greater than Tung Hu's. Although Tung Hu looks rugged, he was momentarily speechless at Ho Ji's sweet address of brother Tung Hu. He simply smiled and nodded without saying a word. Sister. Bian Kai looked at the delicate girl, like a porcelain doll, and suddenly remembered that his sixth brother did indeed have a younger sister. You must be brother Bian Kai, right? My name is Ho Ji. I've heard my second brother mention you a lot these past few days, saying you're the biggest benefactor he's ever met. Ho Ji's big eyes blinked as she spoke, giving her a mischievous and clever air. Ahem, it's all just sixth brother talking nonsense. There's no such thing as a benefactor. We're brothers who've sworn brothers. Bian Kai couldn't help but chuckle at Ho Ji's words. What she said was indeed true. Without Bian Kai's 30 billion investment in the electronics market, Ho Qianyue's fate would likely have been much more tragic. Ho Ji, you've got your eye on that 918 too? Haha, of course, your brother won't compete with you for it. But since it's our first meeting, shouldn't I give you a little gift? Since Ho Ji had her eye on the car, Bian Kai naturally wouldn't try to take it from a young girl, but not taking the car didn't mean he couldn't spend money. Wow, brother Bian Kai, the meeting gift you mentioned isn't that 918, is it? Are you really going to give it to me? Wow, brother Bian Kai, you're so kind. Hoji skipped over to Bian Kai, her fair arms wrapping around his arm. Bian Kai felt the smooth touch on his arm, then looked at Hoji's delicate face. He could only silently chant a calming mantra. Didn't this little girl know how charming he was? Ho Qianyue made no attempt to stop this, whether intentionally trying to matchmake the two or simply used to Hoji's behavior. It was unclear. Managerly, right? Is everything alright now? I'll take all the cars you have. Swipe your card now. Bian Kai felt the calming mantra's effect waning. Fortunately, he saw Managerly standing to the side and quickly found an excuse to distract himself. No problem, Mr. Bian Kai. I'll go get the purchase contract right away. You can pick up the car after you sign it. Managerly didn't dare mention waiting until after the exhibition to pick up the car. Luckily, the two groups knew each other today. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to handle a real argument. Therefore, to prevent this situation from happening again, Managerly had Bian Kai take all the cars away directly, and Porsche's exhibition ended successfully ahead of schedule. Bian Kai called Lu Xueqing and urgently summoned a lawyer. Lu Xueqing was exasperated. She had already decided to hire someone. If she didn't hire someone soon, she wouldn't be able to handle Bian Kai's continued purchases. While waiting for the lawyer, Bian Kai told Chu Ling about his plan to buy her a car, but Chu Ling refused. As a bright and intelligent student, Chu Ling could easily see that Bian Kai was buying so many cars to repay her life-saving grace. She couldn't stop him from buying cars. After all, you can't stop someone from wanting to buy cars. So, she could barely accept the 500,000 yuan commission. But Bian Kai insisted that giving her another car was absolutely unacceptable. The 500,000 yuan commission was enough to repay her life-saving grace. Anything more would change the nature of the debt. Bian Kai was at a loss. He could see that Chu Ling was a very strong-willed girl, so he didn't insist further and told her to go and settle her commission with Managerly. After the lawyer arrived, he suggested that Bian Kai register the cars under the name of Shinfeng Ride-Hailing. Bian Kai thought it was a good idea and simply called Xiang Tian over to take over the cars. Xiang Tian knew about the auto show, but since his company currently had enough cars, he hadn't planned to come. Unexpectedly, Bian Kai dragged him to the show with a single phone call. He was stunned when he learned that all those 718s and 911s were for Shinfeng. Mr. Kai, are you sure you want to use these cars as ride-hailing vehicles at Shinfeng? Xiang Tian looked at Bian Kai incredulously. He felt the same way as Lu Xueqing. This new boss seemed to have no concept of money. Yeah, if we don't put them at Shinfeng, I can't drive all these cars. Using them as ride-hailing vehicles is great. It's like upgrading the industry. By the way, keep the prices the same. Don't raise prices just because we changed cars. That would ruin Shinfeng's reputation. Xiang Tian's lips twitched. This isn't upgrading the ride-hailing industry. You're worried about ruining its reputation? This is practically benevolent salvation. Xiang Tian could foresee that Shinfeng's business volume would definitely double in the future. Given the choice between a regular ride-hailing car and a luxury car, even a fool would choose the luxury car. After all, many people might never experience riding in such a luxury sports car in their lifetime. Spending a few tens or hundreds of yuan to experience it is a win-win situation. Even the company's drivers rarely drove this type of supercar. Previously, the company only had one R8. The contract was quickly signed. Bian Kai paid by card, while Xiang Tian called over 20 drivers from the company to drive all the supercars except the 918 back. The drivers, sitting in the supercars, visibly trembled, their feet hesitant to press the accelerator, driving the supercars at tractor speeds. It wasn't that they didn't want to drive, they were genuinely afraid. These things accelerated too quickly. If they accidentally crashed one, they couldn't afford to pay for the damage even if they sold themselves. Finally, Bian Kai reassured them to drive with confidence, promising that the company would cover all costs for any scratches, bumps, or even collisions. With their boss's assurance, the drivers felt emboldened. After all, who hasn't dreamed of owning a supercar after driving for so many years? With a series of roaring engines, 29 supercars sped away from the convention center, racing towards the Shinfeng ride-hailing company's base. However, the matter didn't end there. Bian Kai wasn't entirely satisfied with his spending. 100 million yuan was far from his expectations. So, Bian Kai resumed his sweeping spree, led by the wealthy second-generation heir Ho Qianyue, crushing everything in his path. Bugatti, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Pagani, Koenigsegg, Bentley, Lamborghini, nothing was spared. Anything not reserved was snapped up by Bian Kai. Meanwhile, Tung Hu, as the fifth brother, saw Bian Kai gifting Ho Ji a 918. With a wave of his hand, he snatched a Pagani Huayra from Bian Kai, paid for it, and gave it directly to Ho Ji. The little girl was overjoyed, calling out, "Brother, brother," incessantly the whole way. Meanwhile, Xiang Tian, who hadn't left Bian Kai's side, was completely numb. In just half a day, his new boss had replaced all the company's cars. A total of over 160 top-tier supercars, ranging in value from several million to tens of millions, were acquired, along with over 50 luxury sedans including Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, and Maybachs. Of course, Bian Kai didn't just dump all the cars at Shinfeng Company. He kept 15 vehicles for himself, including Phantoms, Bugatti Veyrons, and Lamborghini Veninos, each worth over 20 million. Even Ho Qianyue, a top-tier rich second generation, was stunned by Bian Kai's extravagant spending. Who buys cars like this? Now, Shinfeng is less of a ride-hailing company and more of a supercar club, and in terms of sheer numbers of supercars, it's probably among the top in the entire Xia Kingdom. Most importantly, Bian Kai explicitly demanded that the ride-hailing price remain unchanged, and the revenue sharing with drivers also remain the same. This made Xiang Tian and his group increasingly feel that Bian Kai was like a bodhisattva. In the end, Bian Kai's car buying spree cost a whopping 5 billion, setting a new record for the highest transaction volume since the inception of auto shows. The luxury car dealers practically worshipped Bian Kai. They might not sell a single Bugatti worth hundreds of millions in years, but Bian Kai cleared out his entire inventory at a single auto show. Of course, some were happy, others were disappointed, especially regarding the next-tier BBA, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi. These cars, considered luxury by ordinary people, were simply not even worth a glance by Bian Kai. They were too cheap. The most expensive was only a little over $1 million. Buying one supercar was equivalent to buying 10 or even dozens of BBAs. With Bian Kai's extravagant spending, his reputation instantly spread throughout Zhongbei City's wealthy circles. Everyone with a bit of influence knew that a remarkable young tycoon had emerged in Zhongbei City. However, Bian Kai wasn't particularly concerned. He was currently observing his attribute panel, which had changed after another 5 billion yuan expenditure. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, for years 22 days. Skill points, 56. Constitution, 1224, normal human 10. Mental strength, 157, normal human 10. Martial artist level, martial master level 1. Skills, basic combat, advanced chef. Bian Kai didn't allocate his skill points to constitution this time. He wanted to conduct an experiment. Since the system offered a mental strength option, it meant this attribute had an effect. Furthermore, his elder brother Zhuang Yu had said that the key to advancing to grandmaster level martial artist lay in mental strength. So Bian Kai wanted to see what the effect would be if he increased mental strength first. System, allocate all skill points to mental strength. As Bian Kai issued the command in his mind, his mental strength increased from 157 to 213, but apart from feeling a bit clearer-headed, Bian Kai didn't experience any other changes. Perhaps he hadn't added enough points yet. He'd add more when he had more. Bian Kai believed that increasing mental strength must have an effect. Otherwise, the system wouldn't have set this attribute for no reason. As Bian Kai swept away the luxury cars that were meant to make a show at the auto show, half the venue was suddenly empty. After signing the last contract, Bian Kai rubbed his slightly sore wrist. Just then, his phone rang. Bian Kai took out his phone and glanced at it. Luckily, he had saved it in his contacts. Otherwise, people would have thought it was an unknown number. The caller was Yang Ying, the president's secretary at the Frogfly platform. Hello, Secretary Yang. Has President Dai arrived in Zhongbei? I'm at the Zhongbei Convention Center. You can just come over. Bian Kai was overjoyed to hear that Dai Tianlu had arrived in Zhongbei. This was the biggest expense in his current plans. Youngest brother, do you have guests? Ho Ji and I will be leaving now. We have things to do at the company, so we won't keep you company any longer. Ho Qianwei had spent half the day with Bian Kai, but he still had a ton of work to do at the company. He had restarted his chip research, intending to give it one last shot. It was all or nothing. Okay, sixth brother, you go ahead. You and Ho Ji can each drive back in a supercar. How cool would that be? Bian Kai knew Ho Qianwei had a lot to do, so he didn't try to stop him. In fact, he even teased his sixth brother. You little rascal, who can match your flair? Buying a car worth 5 billion without batting an eye. Fifth brother, I'm off now. I'm leaving the youngest brother in your care. He's been too flamboyant lately. It might not be a good thing. Don't worry, sixth brother, don't you trust your fifth brother's abilities? If all else fails, there's still big brother and the others. In Zhongbei, no one should be a match for big brother. Tung, who naturally understood Ho Qianyue's concerns. Bian Kai was indeed too flamboyant, which could easily get him into trouble. But so what if his brother was flamboyant? He hadn't done anything illegal. Anyone who was unhappy could settle things and have a go. Anyone who dared to touch a hair on Bian Kai's head would try. Alright, fifth brother, I'm relieved to hear you say that. The two men made Bian Kai smile wryly. His flamboyance was unavoidable. If he didn't spend the money quickly, his life would be in danger. However, he was still very touched by his two brothers' concern. Bian Kai felt incredibly lucky to have become sworn brothers with such people. Inside a tea room on the second floor of the convention center, Bian Kai and Tung, who sat at one end of the table, while Dai Tianlu and his secretary Yang Ying sat on the other. Dai Tianlu was dressed in a suit, about 175 centimeters tall, slightly plump, and wore gold-rimmed glasses. He looked very refined and elegant, and most importantly, his thick, jet-black hair made it impossible to tell he worked in the IT industry. As for Yang Ying, who had been on the phone with Bian Kai, while her looks weren't quite as striking as Lu Xueqing's, she could still be considered a 90 out of 100. Her professional attire suited her very well. Especially her long, straight legs, clad in Balenciaga socks, earned her at least 3 points from Bian Kai. How Bian Kai knew it was Balenciaga was simple. Someone had sneaked into his villa last night wearing that brand of socks, and he had accidentally torn those socks, causing the person to demand that Bian Kai buy her 10 pairs as compensation. Upon hearing this good news, Bian Kai, after clarifying the brand, said he could buy 100 and tear them up for fun. When Bian Kai introduced himself as the super rich, all things are fleeting, Dai Tianlu and Yang Ying were both stunned. Dai Tianlu was relatively calm. Having been in business for many years, he had seen his share of wealthy second-generation heirs, so he automatically categorized Bian Kai as one of them. As for Yang Ying, besides being shocked, her eyes shone with admiration. She hadn't expected that the Fleeting Clouds tycoon who had spent over $1 billion on Frog would be so young and so handsome, his looks rivaling those of male celebrities. If only. Thinking this, Yang Ying unconsciously squeezed her legs together under the table, a blush rising to her cheeks, instantly making her incredibly radiant. Seeing this, Bian Kai silently added 2 more points to Yang Ying's score. Her rating instantly soared to 95 points. Dai Tianlu, oblivious to Yang Ying's expression, laughed heartily and said, I truly didn't expect that the tycoon who spent billions on Frog is so young. And just now, I heard people discussing your impressive feat, Mr. Kai, spending 5 billion to clear the area. In all my years in the business world, I've never seen anyone as generous as you, Mr. Kai. Upon meeting, Dai Tianlu showered Bian Kai with compliments, but Bian Kai's youth truly impressed him. Mr. Dai, you flatter me. It's nothing. Come have some tea. Bian Kai was quite pleased with Dai Tianlu's flattery. After all, everyone likes to be praised. Dai Tianlu took the teacup, took a sip, and asked, Mr. Kai, I won't beat around the bush. May I ask why you've called me all the way from Kyoto? Seeing Dai Tianlu get straight to the point, Bian Kai smiled and said, Mr. Dai, in your opinion, where does the Wawa platform stand in China? Although Dai Tianlu was puzzled by Bian Kai's question, he was still very confident in his live streaming platform, so he replied, in the entire Chinese market, Wawa is at least in the top 3. Douyin can't compare, but it's definitely on par with Douyu. As for platforms like Maozhua, they're not worth mentioning. Oh, Mr. Dai seems very confident in his company. So, in your opinion, what's the current valuation of Froggy? As Bian Kai's questions got closer to the core of the matter, Dai Tianlu understood his purpose. He intended to invest in his company. This required careful consideration. For internet companies to truly rise, capital is indispensable. Capital allows them to acquire more resources and traffic in the competition. With traffic, they can then use it to fuel further investment. Therefore, Dai Tianlu wasn't opposed to capital entering the Froggy platform. However, the price needed to be discussed thoroughly. Frog plans to launch its IPO next year and has contacted some investors. The highest valuation they've offered is 200 billion. However, this doesn't meet my expectations. Frog's monthly revenue is currently stable at around 5 billion. Of course, if someone as generous as Mr. Kai suddenly appears and spends 1 billion in one night, our revenue will be even higher. Therefore, I expect the valuation to at least double, to 400 billion. After speaking, Dai Tianlu took a sip of tea, his eyes fixed intently on Bian Kai, seemingly filled with anticipation. Bian Kai shook his head and said, Mr. Dai, you still lack confidence in your company. You know, Douyin's current valuation is over 1 trillion. Although Frog's strength is somewhat inferior to Douyin, the gap shouldn't be this large. Although a valuation of 400 billion is already high, as Bian Kai's biggest spending target at this stage, this price is still somewhat low. Oh, Mr. Kai is so optimistic about our platform. In your opinion, how much is Frog worth? Dai Tianlu had assumed Bian Kai, like other investors, would think the 400 billion offer far exceeded Frog's intrinsic value. He hadn't expected this young man to think the valuation was too low, which was quite surprising. Upon hearing this, Bian Kai put down his teacup, then slowly raised one finger and said, 1 trillion. What? Dai Tianlu couldn't believe his ears. He jumped to his feet, his eyes fixed on Bian Kai. Yang Ying, standing beside him, also gasped, covering her mouth in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief. Mr. Dai, don't get agitated, sit down and let's talk. Bian Kai hadn't expected Dai Tianlu's reaction to be so strong. He quickly shoved him to sit down. Dai Tianlu felt his legs were about to give way, and he staggered back to his seat, saying, Mr. Kai, are you sure you believe Frog's valuation can reach 1 trillion? Of course. Otherwise, why would I have called you all the way to Zhongbei? If I hadn't seen Frog's potential, would I have gone to such lengths? Bian Kai spoke with absolute certainty. Someone unfamiliar with him could easily be fooled. But only he knew that the reason he quoted that price was simply because he wanted to spend more money. Thank you. Thank you for your trust in our platform, Mr. Kai. Since you value Frog at 1 trillion, you must be interested in investing in us. Dai Tianlu was also thrilled by Bian Kai's words. He had built the Frog platform from scratch, and receiving such affirmation naturally made him extremely happy. Investment? That's not quite accurate. To be precise, I intend to acquire your platform for 1 trillion. What? Dai Tianlu had never experienced such a shock in his 40-plus years of life. He had originally thought Bian Kai would offer tens or even hundreds of billions to acquire a portion of Frog shares. He hadn't expected this young man to make such an outrageous demand, wanting to acquire the entire Frog platform, and at a price he couldn't refuse. 1 trillion. Is that the entire annual GDP of Zhongbei City? Probably not even half of that. Who exactly was this young man before him, capable of casually producing so much money? Even the world's top conglomerates wouldn't dare claim they could readily offer 1 trillion to acquire a company, especially a live-streaming internet company. It's no wonder Dai Tianlu was so astonished. If he knew that 70% of those top conglomerates' annual profits were held in Bian Kai's VIP black card, he probably wouldn't be so surprised. Mr. Dai, don't get excited, calm down. Can you accept this proposal? 1 trillion to acquire the Wawa platform. Bian Kai's expression remained unchanged. He was certain Dai Tianlu wouldn't refuse this price. It completely exceeded his expectations, so there was no reason for him to disagree. Dai Tianlu swallowed hard, then picked up the teacup on the table and drank the tea in one gulp, closing his eyes in silence for a long time. Bian Kai wasn't in a hurry, calmly drinking tea with his 5th brother beside him. Tung, who, though also shocked, had previously experienced Bian Kai's 100 billion baptism of fire and was somewhat adaptable. Besides, even if Bian Kai was wealthy, he was still his brother. His current priority was protecting his brother from harm. The rest was none of his concern. Actually, Dai Tianlu was very conflicted. He had built the Frog platform from scratch, and selling it like this was something he was reluctant to do. But the price Bian Kai offered was simply too high, so high that he couldn't think of any reason to refuse. Seemingly sensing Dai Tianlu's dilemma, Bian Kai spoke again. Mr. Dai, if this deal goes through, I wonder if you'd be willing to continue managing the Frog platform? How the company operates will still be up to you. In addition, I will give you 30% of virtual shares, only for dividends, but not ownership. Hearing Bian Kai's words, Dai Tianlu breathed a sigh of relief. The other party had already offered such terms. He had nothing more to hesitate about. Mr. Kai, I agree to your terms. The Frog platform is yours from now on. Dai Tianlu uttered these words as if using all his strength. From this moment on, he went from being a boss to an employee. In truth, he could have squandered that trillion yuan at will. He could probably live on it for 10 lifetimes, let alone a lifetime. But Frog was his life's work. Some people are born to get things done. When money becomes an insignificant number to them, realizing their life's value is what they desire most. Dai Tianlu was such a person. If he still felt a little reluctant to sell Frog, Bian Kai's next words made him cast aside even that last bit of reluctance. Haha, Mr. Dai, it's been a pleasure doing business with you. However, I have one small request. Bian Kai was also extremely excited when Dai Tianlu agreed to sell Frog to him. That was 1 trillion yuan. Converted to lifespan, it was nearly 28 years, and his own strength would also increase significantly. How could he not be excited? Bian Kai seemed to have tasted success. Internet companies were incredibly valuable these days. So he made another request to Dai Tianlu. Mr. Kai, please speak freely. Although you've given me full control over Frog, this platform will ultimately be yours, and everything will be up to you. Haha, since Mr. Dai puts it that way, I'll get straight to the point. I'll invest another 1 trillion. You take this money to acquire the Big Fish platform. I believe the owner of Big Fish won't refuse this price. Then, integrate the two platforms, and you'll still be in charge of operations. Dai Tianlu was stunned for a moment, then nodded excitedly. only managing a single okay before falling silent. Mr. Kai's vision was truly grand. He didn't know what to say. Just how much money did his new boss have? $1 trillion seemed like $100 to Bian Kai. Big Fish would refuse? Absolutely impossible. No one knew the owner of Big Fish better than him. He was a man obsessed with money. Dai Tianlu created the frog platform to realize his own life's value, while the owner of Big Fish was purely in it for the money. He was confident that if the price of $1 trillion was offered, that guy would agree without hesitation and immediately retire with the money to live a carefree life, completely unconcerned about the future of Big Fish. Dai Tianlu thought this was the end of it. The second and third largest live streaming platforms in Xia Kingdom would soon be Bian Kai's for the taking. After integration, they might even surpass Douyin. Douyin, after all, was a listed company with a staggering market capitalization of $3 trillion. Acquiring it wouldn't be as easy as it was for them. But Dai Tianlu underestimated Bian Kai's ambition. Douyin was also one of his targets. Furthermore, I will continue to invest. Besides using this money for the daily expenses of Wawa and Dayu, the rest will be used to acquire Douyin shares. Any shares listed on the secondary market, regardless of the price, will be acquired. Don't worry about the money. You can also contact other Douyin shareholders to see if they are willing to sell their shares. Price is not an issue. My ultimate goal is to integrate Douyin, Wawa, and Dayu into a single platform. I've already decided on the name, Xingfan. Whether this sale can set sail depends on your abilities, Mr. Dai. Dai Tianlu was completely stunned and speechless. It was too grand. Mr. Kai's vision was truly enormous. He actually wanted to merge the top 3 live streaming platforms in Xia country into one entity. If he succeeded, Xingfan would become a behemoth, perhaps even surpassing Tencent to become Xia country's largest internet company. At that moment, Bian Kai seemed to have a sudden flash of inspiration. Since the internet industry was so expensive, why not just burn even more money? The internet industry wasn't limited to live streaming. Social media, software, search, entertainment, video, music, and more all fell into this category. The most representative company was Tencent, an absolute behemoth that had practically entered every sector of the internet. Others included listed video websites like iQIYI and Youku, search giant Baidu, social media leader Sina, gaming giant NetEase, and shopping giants like Taobao and JD.com. Acquiring shares in all these companies would cost an astronomical sum. Bian Kai felt that if he could acquire all of these companies, his lifespan might even extend to hundreds or thousands of years. Dai Tianlu might be able to handle this, but acquiring and integrating 3 live streaming platforms would already keep him busy enough. Thinking it over, everyone around him seemed incredibly busy. Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu were already swamped dealing with the properties he'd previously acquired, and Bian Kai would definitely be buying more properties, which would also require their management. They simply didn't have time for this. Xiang Tian was aiming to acquire ride-hailing companies in China and even globally, so he wouldn't have the time either. As for his sworn brothers, his 6th brother, Ho Qianyue, had his own business, and while his other 5 brothers were powerful, they, like him, knew absolutely nothing about the stock market. After much deliberation, Bian Kai couldn't find a suitable candidate for this task, which left him somewhat perplexed. Such a massive plan required a trustworthy person. He couldn't just hire any fund company or securities firm. The risks were too great. But this was something he absolutely had to do. With such a huge pie in front of him, it would be unreasonable not to take a bite. However, finding the right person requires waiting for an opportunity. Bian Kai now realizes how important talent is. He can't even find someone to do his job. The acquisition of Frog was simple. Bian Kai simply called Lu Xueqing. Upon hearing that he had bought Frog for $1 trillion, she immediately dropped everything and rushed to the convention center. Mr. Kai, can't you just take a break? I'm already overwhelmed in hiring. Are you trying to kill me with work? Lu Xueqing complained as soon as she entered the tea room. She no longer cared about how much money Bian Kai had. She only cared about how much he would spend. Because every time Bian Kai spent money, her workload increased dramatically. Qingtian law firm had already started offering high salaries to hire, and they were simply too busy to handle it all. Oh, senior, the more capable you are, the more work you should do. Besides, Froggy will be managed by President Dai Tianlu from now on. You just need to handle the equity transfer agreement. Actually, Bian Kai was a little embarrassed. He had indeed bought quite a few properties recently. Xuefu Hotel, Xinguang Digital City, 30 shops in Hengxiang Shopping Mall, 25 apartments in Tianyumingdi, Xiangduan Security, Xinfeng Ride-Hailing, plus the recently acquired Froggy, and the big fish he was sure to acquire. Before he knew it, he had so many. He was only responsible for signing and paying for these properties. He left all the subsequent procedures to Qingtian law firm. How could he not be busy? But Bian Kai had no choice. If he didn't spend money, his life would be in danger. So, although he was a little embarrassed, Bian Kai's determination to spend money remained unwavering. Fine, you've already booked me, so it's only right that I do the work. I shouldn't have gotten on this bandwagon in the first place. Wait a moment, the contract will be ready soon. The others in the tea room reacted differently to Lu Xueqing's words. Teng Hu and Dai Tianlu gave Bian Kai knowing looks. Especially Teng Hu. He had long suspected that his youngest brother's relationship with this beautiful lawyer was more than just friendship, and now it seemed so. She'd booked him? She'd booked him. Yang Ying, on the other hand, looked at Lu Xueqing with hostility. She considered herself quite attractive, but Lu Xueqing's presence made her feel somewhat inferior. This lawyer was simply too beautiful, too elegant, and most importantly, that phrase, "you've booked me," hit Yang Ying right where it hurt. But then she thought, if it was just this relationship, she might still have a chance. If she watched more movies and improved her professional skills, perhaps. Bian Kai, seeing everyone's expressions, felt somewhat helpless and could only explain. I've taken over my senior's law firm. But his explanation seemed to have no effect, only earning him a big eye roll from Lu Xueqing, who was drafting the contract. Seeing this, Bian Kai stopped talking. What was the point of explaining? No one would believe him now, no matter how eloquently he spoke. He'd deal with it later, then there would be no need to explain. The contract was quickly completed. Lu Xueqing was now very skilled at this kind of business. She used to only produce one equity transfer contract a year. How many had she completed in just a few days? Dai Tianlu carefully reviewed the contract, and after confirming there were no problems, he signed his name. Bian Kai didn't even bother to look at it and signed directly. As Bian Kai completed the transfer on his phone, a staggering 1 trillion yuan was transferred to Dai Tianlu's account. The largest acquisition in internet history was completed in a tea room on the second floor of the Zhongbei City Convention Center. Simultaneously, Bian Kai transferred another 4 trillion yuan to a dedicated corporate account for Wawa, which he unsurprisingly named the Triumphant account. All company expenses would be covered by this account. Bian Kai instructed Dai Tianlu to transfer all operating cash flow and existing funds from Wawa's accounts to his Haiying account. Of the 4 trillion yuan in the Triumphant account, 1 trillion yuan was used to acquire shares in Big Fish, and this money was expected to be spent quickly. The remaining 3 trillion yuan was used to cover Wawa's daily expenses, a small portion, of which the majority was used to acquire shares in Douyin. The matter was quickly settled. Dai Tianlu left with Bian Kai's expectations, but instead of returning to Beijing, he went directly to Shanghai, where Big Fish's headquarters were located. Although Yang Ying was somewhat reluctant to leave, Bian Kai didn't seem very interested in her, so she left with Dai Tianlu. However, she secretly resolved to watch more movies and improve her professional skills as quickly as possible to make up for the slight difference in looks between herself and Lu Xueqing. What Yang Ying didn't know was that Lu Xueqing wasn't the only beautiful lawyer at Qingtian law firm. There was also Shi Yingxiu, who was in no way inferior to Lu Xueqing, so she still had a long way to go. While saying goodbye to Dai Tianlu and Bian Kai, he observed his attribute panel in his mind, which had now changed drastically. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 31 years 302 days. Skill points, 10,000. Physical constitution, 1224, normal human 10. Mental strength, 213, normal human 10. Martial artist level, martial master level 1. Skills, basic combat, advanced chef. His lifespan has increased to nearly 32 years. Bian Kai is 20 years old this year. If he doesn't spend money to buy more life now, he can live to 52, which wouldn't be considered premature death. Moreover, Bian Kai is certain he can spend the 1 trillion from acquiring Big Fish. If he adds the 28 years of lifespan gained from that, Bian Kai can live to 80. According to the lifespan of an ordinary person, 80 years old is considered a natural death. At this moment, Bian Kai finally feels relieved and no longer worries about his lifespan. With a skill point limit of 10,000, Bian Kai continued his experiment, first increasing his mental strength to 300 points, but there was no change. 400 points, 500 points, 1,000 points. Finally, a change occurred when he reached 1,000 points. The system notification sounded. Congratulations, host. Your mental strength has increased to 1,000 points. You have opened the path to becoming a Grandmaster level martial artist. Once your physical constitution reaches 100,000 points, you will automatically advance to the Grandmaster level. Was this the key to advancing to Grandmaster? Bian Kai had inadvertently discovered a secret even his elder brother, Zhuangyu, didn't know through the system. It turns out that in addition to physical constitution being 10,000 times that of a normal person, mental strength must also be 100 times that of an ordinary person to advance to the Grandmaster level. Bian Kai thought about it carefully and roughly understood the key point. If a martial artist has a high physique but low mental strength, it will greatly limit their ability to unleash their full power. After all human actions are controlled by the brain. Too little mental strength means the brain can't keep up with the actions, making it easy to lose strategy in combat, unable to effectively control one's strength, and wasting power. Although a Grandmaster level 1 martial artist has a physique 10,000 times that of an ordinary person, through effective control of mental strength, they can unleash their full power without wasting a single bit. This is the real difference between a peak martial master level martial artist, 10,000 times stronger, and a Grandmaster level 1 martial artist. Bian Kai decided to share his discovery with his 5 older brothers, emphasizing the importance of improving mental strength while improving physique. Now that he had unlocked the path to Grandmaster, Bian Kai decided to first improve his physique, directly raising it to 100,000 points to advance to Grandmaster level. Therefore, he added all the remaining skill points to physique. After doing so, his attribute panel changed again. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 31 years 302 days. Skill points, 0. Constitution, 10437, normal human 10. Mental strength, 1000, normal human 10. Martial artist level, peak martial master. Skills, beginner combat, advanced chef. As the attribute panel changed, the powerful aura of a peak martial master instantly erupted from Bian Kai, but this aura was immediately suppressed by him. This is the benefit of high mental strength. One can perfectly control their own power. Bian Kai doesn't know the extent of his 5 older brothers' mental strength, but it's definitely not as high as his. After all, he has the system as a cheat code. Feeling the powerful force flowing through his body, Bian Kai was momentarily intoxicated. It was too powerful, simply too powerful. Spending money is indeed the key. Spending money can extend life and also increase strength. At this moment, Bian Kai was increasingly looking forward to Dai Tianlu's trip to Shanghai. If he could successfully capture the Big Fish, his strength would double again. With the help of others, Bian Kai believed he would quickly advance to the Grandmaster realm. Although Bian Kai's strength had only been unleashed for a fleeting moment, and the others hadn't felt it at all, Fujitora, whose own strength was over 4,000 times greater, had keenly sensed it. He looked at his youngest brother with some doubt. The aura that had instantly erupted from Bian Kai was clearly that of a peak martial master. But that was impossible. He had sensed his youngest brother's strength before. At most, he was only martial master level 1. How could he have instantly become a peak martial master? Seeing his 5th brother's questioning look, Bian Kai knew he had noticed his increased strength. So he leaned close to Fujitora's ear and whispered, "5th brother, keep this a secret for me. Don't tell anyone except the older brothers for now." Fujitora didn't say much, just nodded. It was a good thing that his brother was strong. As for why he had improved so quickly, Bian Kai didn't say, and he didn't need to ask. This was the most basic trust between brothers. After Dai Tianlu and Yang Ying left, only Lu Xueqing, Xiang Tian, and Bian Kai remained in the tea room, as Lu Xueqing had matters to attend to at her law firm. After confirming with Bian Kai that he had nothing else to attend to, she hurriedly left. At that moment, Xiang Tian received a phone call. After hanging up, Xiang Tian said to Bian Kai with a wry smile, "Mr. Kai, there's something I need to report to you." "Oh, what is it? Just tell me, Mr. Xiang. You've bought too many cars. Shinfeng Company's parking lot is full, so we can only temporarily park them on the roadside. But the roadside is already full, and the company's drivers are calling to ask what to do. Shinfeng Company's original parking lot could barely hold about 140 cars, but don't forget, as the largest ride-hailing company in Zhongbei City, Shinfeng originally had 120 cars. This time, Bian Kai bought over 200 more, and there's simply nowhere to park them. Fortunately, Shinfeng Company's headquarters are far from the city center, so they can park anywhere on the roadside, but even so, it's still not enough space. The 15 cars he kept, worth over 20 million yuan, were easy to handle. The villa had 2 underground parking levels, enough to hold 30 or 40 cars. Therefore, except for the Bugatti Veyron he drove himself, Bian Kai had the rest returned to the residential area. After hearing Xiang Tian's words, Bian Kai frowned. He had been so focused on spending money that he hadn't considered where to park the cars. "Let's go take a look together. I'll also meet with the company employees." Bian Kai couldn't think of a better solution at the moment, so he decided to go and see for himself. The Shinfeng employees hadn't met him yet, and as the new boss, he should at least make an appearance. Xiang Tian perked up when he heard Bian Kai was going to Shinfeng Company in person. He was about to go downstairs to get his car when Bian Kai stopped him. "Mr. Xiang, let's each drive one. I'll also test the Veyron's performance." So the two of them, each in a car, drove towards Shinfeng Company's headquarters. Awesome. Hearing the roar of the Bugatti and feeling the intense acceleration, Bian Kai was filled with excitement. This was a man's dream. Xiang Tian had arrived in an Audi R8. When the two left the city, there were hardly any cars around, and no speed limit signs. Therefore, Bian Kai had no more reservations and floored the accelerator, instantly reaching speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour, speeding along like the wind. While the R8 could also reach over 200 kilometers per hour, its acceleration couldn't match the Bugatti. Xiang Tian was quickly left behind, eventually disappearing from sight even of Bian Kai's taillights. But when Xiang Tian arrived at the Shinfeng Company's headquarters, he didn't see Bian Kai. Initially puzzled, he then remembered something very important. "Damn, I forgot to tell Boss Kai the address." Xiang Tian had originally intended to lead the way and guide Bian Kai here. Because the Shinfeng Company's headquarters wasn't on the main road, it required turning into a side road and walking 2 or 3 kilometers to get there. But Boss Kai sped off in a flash, and Xiang Tian, focused on chasing him, overlooked the fact that Boss Kai had no idea he needed to turn into the side road. Xiang Tian quickly pulled out his phone and called Bian Kai, but no one answered, which panicked him. "Damn it, I hope nothing bad happens to Kai." Xiang Tian quickly gathered the 30-odd drivers still at the company who weren't out working, then randomly picked about 30 luxury cars from a pile parked by the roadside and drove back to the main road, heading in the direction Bian Kai might have gone. Bian Kai was completely captivated by the Bugatti's powerful performance. It was his first time driving alone, and in such a luxury car no less. He remembered the last time he'd driven was last year when he took his driving test. He hadn't driven since, and he'd long wanted to experience driving alone on the road. The 16-cylinder Bugatti Veyron perfectly fulfilled this wish, and with his strong willpower supporting him, he drove the supercar with complete ease, so he was completely lost in the moment, just driving along the main road. But the further he drove, the more uneasy he felt. The surroundings seemed increasingly desolate. Bian Kai glanced at the rearview mirror, but couldn't see Xiang Tian's R8 at all. He was about to call Xiang Tian to ask what was going on when he suddenly noticed a driving school car parked ahead, with 2 figures seemingly entangled inside. Just as Bian Kai was wondering why there was a training car in such a remote location, he keenly caught a faint cry for help. At the same time, he heard a man's voice, a voice that sounded familiar, as if he'd heard it somewhere before, but he couldn't quite place it. After catching the voices of the 2 people in the training car, Bian Kai roughly guessed what had happened. Beast. With this conclusion, Bian Kai's anger flared. Experiences from his driving lessons resurfaced in his mind. Since Bian Kai and Qian and I were learning to drive together, they were assigned to the same car. The instructor, seeing Qian Ni's attractive appearance, often made unwanted advances towards her. Bian Kai argued with the driving instructor several times over this matter, eventually escalating into a physical fight. However, Bian Kai was very thin at the time, while the instructor, though shorter than Bian Kai, was very burly. Bian Kai was quickly knocked to the ground. The incident eventually alarmed the driving school's leadership. To protect the school's reputation, the leadership proposed a settlement. The instructor would apologize to Bian Kai, immediately replace him with a new instructor, and provide a full refund of the tuition fees, plus 3,000 yuan in compensation. Bian Kai's injuries were not serious. Aside from a few punches to the face, he suffered no other harm. Therefore, he decided against reporting the incident to the police and accepted the driving school settlement. Under pressure from the school, the instructor apologized, and the refunded tuition fees and the 3,000 yuan compensation were deducted from his salary. Therefore, he harbored a deep hatred for Bian Kai and secretly bribed Bian Kai's new instructor to sabotage Bian Kai in various ways, both overt and covert. Even when it was Bian Kai's turn to practice, the instructor would deliberately schedule other people to drive. As a result, Bian Kai struggled with his driving test, but fortunately, he had some talent in this area and eventually barely passed. He still remembered the instructor's utterly disgusting face. Bian Kai had paid to learn to drive, yet he had to put up with this attitude. Thinking about it now, he still felt a surge of rage. Recalling his past experience, Bian Kai floored the accelerator and pulled up next to the training car, deliberately shifting to neutral and flooring the gas pedal. The Bugatti's deafening roar immediately caught the attention of the 2 people in the training car, and they stopped abruptly. Bian Kai got out of his car and went to the training car, roughly banging on the window. He smashed the glass with too much force. Through the broken window, Bian Kai saw what was inside. A girl wearing tight jeans and a white printed t-shirt was cowering in a corner, looking terrified. When Bian Kai saw the man, his anger erupted. "Huang Xing, you bastard, you really haven't learned your lesson." Bian Kai never expected that the person in the training car would be his former driving instructor, Huang Xing. This bastard was incorrigible. Almost instantly, Bian Kai understood what had happened. Unsurprisingly, Huang Xing had brought the girl here under the guise of private instruction. He had planned to use this trick to lure Qian and I out, but Bian Kai had barely left Qian Ni's side, so Huang Xing's plan failed. In the training car, Huang Xing was initially panicked by the sound of sports cars outside. If this was exposed, he would definitely face jail time. But seeing Bian Kai outside enraged him. He would never forget that face. Because of Bian Kai, he couldn't stay at his former driving school for more than 2 months. His reputation for womanizing spread among the students. Girls, upon hearing that he was their assigned instructor, immediately demanded refunds and switched schools. This severely damaged the driving school's reputation, and ultimately, they had no choice but to fire Huang Xing. Then, over the course of a year, he switched driving schools 3 or 4 times before finally settling down at Huachin Driving School as a driving instructor for the 3rd stage of the driving test. He stopped teaching the 2nd stage and was planning to settle down and focus on his work. Suddenly, an incredibly beautiful female college student was assigned to his class, reigniting his long-suppressed desires. So he decided to go big. Trivial groping was simply too boring. That half-hearted feeling didn't satisfy him at all. Therefore, he initially presented himself as a disciplined and strict instructor, not giving the girl any special treatment and treating all students, male and female, equally. Not only that, he even frequently criticized the girl for lagging behind the other students. He'd never seen such a slow learner in his life. Lu Tong, a top student in the finance department of North China University and the vice president of the student union, was in the same year as Bian Kai and would be a junior after the summer break. The previous student council president, due to leaving campus for internships after entering her senior year, was unable to continue managing the student council. Therefore, through internal elections, Lu Tong was elected as the next student council president. After the start of the new semester, she will officially take over all the work of the Zhongbei University Student Council. Considering she will frequently need to travel for errands, Lu Tong decided to get her driver's license and have her family buy her a car for convenience. Before summer vacation, after much deliberation, she finally chose Huachin Driving School, a well-known school in Zhongbei City, and most importantly, known for its fast licensing process. In just 2 months, she passed both the written and practical driving tests. Everything was going smoothly, and she was certain she would get her license before the start of the semester. However, she unexpectedly encountered a very strict instructor when learning the practical driving test, Part 3. The instructor was relentlessly critical of her practice, never giving her a kind look. Actually, new learners often make mistakes due to nervousness, but as long as they are not fatal, most can pass the test. However, Huang Xing had very strict requirements for Lu Tong. She had to be perfect, otherwise he wouldn't arrange for her to take the exam. Of course, to make his plan perfect, Huang Xing applied the same strict standards to the other students. He would occasionally tell them earnestly, "The reason I'm so strict is to save your lives. Driving is no small matter. Even a small mistake could lead to a fatal accident." The students accepted Huang Xing's explanation. In fact, there had been a driving test for the 3rd stage of the exam recently, but Huang Xing hadn't registered them, citing their poor practice. With the start of the new school year fast approaching and Lu Tong still not having passed her 3rd test, she became anxious and went directly to the driving school to register for the test herself, but failed Huang Xing. However, upon hearing the news, Huang Xing wasn't upset at all. On the contrary, he was overjoyed. This was his chance. Yesterday, when Huang Xing finished teaching, he approached Lu Tong and asked, "Did you register for the driving test yourself?" Lu Tong, though a little embarrassed, replied, "I'm sorry, Coach Huang, I did register for the test myself. School starts in 3 days, and I'll be very busy with work after that, so I probably won't have time to come to driving lessons. So I wanted to give it a try. If I pass, great. If not, I'll come back to learn during winter break. I'm really sorry, Coach Huang." Upon hearing this, Huang Xing sighed dramatically and said, "Sigh, at your current pace, it's probably going to be difficult to pass the test. Since you've already registered, as your instructor, I'll definitely help you. Here's what we'll do. Tomorrow morning after we finish teaching, I'll give you some individual coaching to try and help you pass the test smoothly. However, it might take up your lunch break." Lu Tong, though a little suspicious about the idea of individual coaching, agreed because Huang Xing seemed genuine. As the future student council president, Lu Tong possessed considerable social experience and a strong sense of vigilance, which is why she hesitated when Huang Xing offered to tutor her individually. However, Huang Xing, a seasoned veteran with extensive social experience, meticulously crafted his persona, making every word he uttered seem flawless. This led Lu Tong to make a misjudgment and agree to the tutoring offer. What followed was largely as Bian Kai had predicted. Under the guise of tutoring Lu Tong, Huang Xing drove directly to this remote, desolate location. Lu Tong had already sensed something was amiss. She tried to secretly send a message to a classmate, but Huang Xing discovered her. At this point, Huang Xing abandoned his act, snatched the phone from Lu Tong's hand, and forcibly drugged her. Since it was Huang Xing's first time using this method, he dared not use too much drug, resulting in Lu Tong waking up halfway through the journey. Seeing that they were in the middle of nowhere, he decided to take action. When Lu Tong woke up, she immediately understood her situation. In this desolate place, facing Huang Xing's assault, she could only struggle desperately and shout for help, hoping that someone would pass by and rescue her. She shouted for a long time, but no one passed by. Her struggles were almost exhausting. Huang Xing, after all, was a grown man, and his strength was far beyond her ability to resist. Seeing that she was about to succumb, Lu Tong's eyes filled with despair. But just then, a huge roar erupted, and the car window was smashed open. A handsome, rugged face appeared in her vision. At that moment, she felt as if she had seen an angel, pulling her from the abyss of despair. "Bian Kai, I didn't expect to run into you here. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business, or you know the consequences." Huang Xing looked at Bian Kai with a malevolent expression. At that moment, a wicked thought formed in his mind. What was happening here absolutely could not be leaked. There was only one way. Go all the way and kill Bian Kai first. Then he would finish the business with Lu Tong, and do it several times. Otherwise, taking such a huge risk wouldn't be worth it. Then he would kill him too. As long as the matter was handled cleanly, no one would find out. In Huang Xing's mind, Bian Kai was still that skinny young man he could easily defeat with a few punches, a simple matter of dealing with him. But when he stepped out of the car with a cruel expression, he saw the imposing Bugatti. It was this car that had made that roar. As a driving school instructor and car enthusiast, he naturally recognized this Bugatti Veyron. This kid Bian Kai's identity is no simple matter. Driving a supercar worth hundreds of millions on the road, speeding around. In that case, he can't be allowed to live. Otherwise, given his status, he'll definitely cause endless trouble. Bian Kai, seeing the cruelty in Huang Xing's eyes, roughly guessed his thoughts. But, do you think I'm still that weakling from back then? What happened back then can now be settled completely, not for Qian and I, but for the humiliation he once suffered. Bian Kai stopped suppressing his strength with his mental power and unleashed a powerful aura at the peak of the martial master level. The surrounding air seemed to be sucked out in an instant, becoming extremely oppressive. The immense pressure slowly pressed down on Huang Xing like a mountain. Crack. The roof of the training car deformed under the immense pressure, visibly denting in a large section. Huang Xing, at the very center of the pressure, felt a splitting headache. He had no idea what was happening. He only felt Bian Kai outside the window pressing down on him like a mountain. What kind of sorcery is this? Huang Xing endured the pain and slowly moved backward, trying to escape the center of the pressure. Was this the same kid he'd knocked down with a few punches last year? Bian Kai naturally noticed Huang Xing's movements, but it didn't matter to him. He had to teach this scum a lesson he'd never forget. Meanwhile, Lu Tong, huddled in the corner, was even more bewildered. The handsome guy Huang Xing called Bian Kai was just standing there outside the window, his eyes slightly sharp, making no other move. But from the dented roof and Huang Xing's reaction, it was clear that Bian Kai must have done something. Otherwise, there was no way to explain this strange phenomenon. Just then, unable to withstand the pressure any longer, Huang Xing suddenly stopped his scheming and pulled a switchblade from his pocket, holding it to Lu Tong's slender, pale neck. Bian Kai, put away your strange sorcery, or I'll kill this woman. Bian Kai hadn't expected Huang Xing to pull this stunt. Seeing a thin line of blood already appearing on Lu Tong's neck, he had no choice but to temporarily lower his aura and say, Huang Xing, how can there be trash like you in this world? You give up being a good coach and insist on doing illegal things. Let this girl go, and I'll let you leave. While Bian Kai verbally told Huang Xing to leave, he was constantly watching his movements, ready to strike with lightning speed at the first opportunity. Humph, Bian Kai, don't try to lecture me. What I do is none of your business. Step back, or I'll kill this woman right now. After Bian Kai withdrew his imposing aura, Huang Xing clearly felt his breathing become much easier, and his splitting headache lessened considerably. While speaking, he carefully opened the other car door. He had forced Lu Tong to submit in the back seat, so Huang Xing now had to move to the driver's seat to escape. Lu Tong, looking utterly desperate, was dragged out of the car by Huang Xing. She was too terrified to speak, staring at Bian Kai with pleading eyes. Bian Kai saw Lu Tong's gaze, but didn't respond. He kept a close eye on Huang Xing's every move, trying to find an opportunity to subdue him. After getting out of the car, Huang Xing quickly opened the driver's side door. Just as he was about to climb in, a series of roaring sounds suddenly came from afar. In the distance, dozens of supercars of various brands and styles were speeding towards them, a sight that naturally caught the attention of the three. Bian Kai knew from the sight of the supercars that Xiang Tian and his men were coming for him, so his attention only diverted slightly before returning to Huang Xing. Now, Huang Xing, distracted by Xiang Tian's convoy of supercars, momentarily relaxed his guard, a moment that Bian Kai keenly observed. By the time Huang Xing realized what was happening, his hand holding the knife was already immobilized. His wrist felt like it was being clamped by an iron vice. The excruciating pain made him scream, and the switchblade he had been gripping fell to the ground. Ah, Bian Kai, Master Kai, let go, let go. It's broken, really broken. At this point, Huang Xing finally gave in. He had no choice. He could feel his wrist was truly broken. He hadn't expected that the kid he could easily bully last year was now completely beyond his capabilities. Lu Tong seized the opportunity to escape. Bian Kai pointed at the Bugatti and said, go to the car first. I'll deal with this guy first. Lu Tong didn't hesitate and ran into the Bugatti Veyron. Master Kai, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please let me go. I promise I'll never make a similar mistake again. Huang Xing was now kneeling on the ground. The pain was unbearable. His wrist was definitely broken, but Bian Kai still showed no intention of letting go. Humph, Huang Xing, you think I attacked you because of what happened today? Partly, but not entirely. Remember how you humiliated me last year? I, Bian Kai, only remember two kinds of people in my life. Those who have been kind to me, and those who have wronged me. Unfortunately, you're the one I wrong and still remember. Did you ever imagine this day would come last year? Without waiting for Huang Xing's reply, Bian Kai's right foot delivered two sharp kicks to Huang Xing's knees, producing two crisp crack sounds. Immediately afterward, Huang Xing screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Bian Kai's two kicks shattered his kneecaps, completely shattered. Even if he recovered, he would definitely be crippled. But Bian Kai's punishment wasn't over. He kicked Huang Xing's pelvis, shattering it as well. This time, Huang Xing couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed to the ground like a lump of mud, howling hoarsely. Boom, boom, boom. Xiang Tian's supercar convoy finally arrived in front of Bian Kai. Looking at the horrific scene before him, he was filled with remorse. Damn it, something still happened. Luckily, Boss Kai seems alright, otherwise he'd be dead for sure. That fifth brother of Boss Kai's, Fujitora, would have torn him to shreds. Boss Kai, I'm so sorry, so very sorry. I forgot to tell you the company address earlier, causing you to go to the wrong place. After parking the car, Xiang Tian jogged over to Bian Kai. He didn't even glance at Huang Xing lying on the ground. This guy must have provoked Boss Kai. He deserved to be beaten up. He just hadn't expected Bian Kai to go so hard. You're here, Boss Xiang. It's alright. Luckily, I went to the wrong place. Otherwise, another evil would have been added to the world. Come out. It's all over. Bian Kai's last sentence was addressed to the Bugatti. Lu Tong, inside the car, quickly got out after hearing this. She had clearly witnessed the entire process of Huang Xing being crippled. Bian Kai's ruthlessness was deeply etched in her heart. At this moment, if Bian Kai were to kill Huang Xing, Lu Tong wouldn't be surprised. Therefore, as the vice president of the student council, she could only obediently obey Bian Kai's words, fearing to offend this cold and cruel handsome man. Thank you. I would definitely be in trouble today without you. Lu Tong approached Bian Kai and said humbly, "It's nothing. I was just passing by. Besides, I have a grudge against Huang Xing. It wasn't specifically for you. By the way, briefly tell me what happened. Mr. Xiang, please write it down. I'll make a call." The man was already badly injured. Bian Kai needed to handle the aftermath, and he could only consult his 2 senior classmates for advice. Yes, that's the situation. Senior classmates, does this count as acting heroically? Of course it does, Mr. Kai. Don't worry. With me here, you'll definitely be fine. Lu Xueqing on the other end of the phone was also seething with anger after hearing about this. The same thing had happened to Shi Yingxiu, so she utterly despised similar behavior. Hearing his senior classmates say this, Bian Kai felt relieved. He had enjoyed the beating, but if he didn't handle the aftermath properly, he could easily get himself into trouble. Bian Kai hung up the phone, and Lu Tong briefly described the events, which were roughly as Bian Kai had expected. However, this time Huang Xing had learned his lesson and knew to establish a persona first. Mr. Kai, this matter should be able to be settled privately. Xiang Tian's sudden question surprised Bian Kai. Settle privately? How could they settle something that was almost fatal? Seeing Bian Kai's puzzled look, Xiang Tian quickly explained. The driving school this young lady enrolled in is right next to Shinfeng. The principal of that school is an old acquaintance of mine. If we go through him, this matter might be possible to settle privately. So that's how it is. Bian Kai nodded after hearing Xiang Tian's explanation. It was only a possibility. Whether it would actually happen was uncertain. Speaking of which, Mr. Kai, this young lady is also your schoolmate, and in the same year. Xiang Tian was a shrewd person. Through his questioning earlier, he had roughly figured out Lu Tong's background and deduced that although Bian Kai and she were in the same year of university, they probably didn't know each other. Oh, what a coincidence. Which department are you in, classmate? Bian Kai was also quite surprised. He hadn't expected that the girl he casually saved would actually be his classmate. Kai, Mr. Kai, I'm in the finance department. Which department are you in? Me? I'm in the physics department. Since we're classmates, let's go together. Mr. Xiang, have someone take this guy with us. We'll head back to Shinfeng first. Hearing that Lu Tong was in the finance department, Bian Kai's mind immediately started working. However, Huang Xing's occasional groans made conversation impossible, so he decided to go back to the company first. After Bian Kai finished speaking, he took Lu Tong back to the car. Xiang Tian then called 2 drivers to carry Huang Xing away. The driving school car could be left there for now. They would have someone from the driving school come and take it back later. Boss Kai is really ruthless. This guy will probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Only after lifting Huang Xing did Xiang Tian realize how heavy-handed Bian Kai had been. The man's entire lower body was completely paralyzed. His legs below the waist were like a lump of mud. When they moved him, they could hear the sizzling sound of broken bones in his knees and pelvis rubbing against each other. The 2 drivers were terrified at the sight. This new boss seemed quite kind, even giving them a raise, but they hadn't expected him to be so ruthless. However, Xiang Tian, with his vast experience, simply gave the 2 drivers a look, meaning to do as the boss said and ignore everything else. Huang Xing screamed as he was shoved into a supercar. The driver, unable to bear the noise any longer, slapped him unconscious. The other drivers gave him a thumbs up. It was a brilliant idea. Otherwise, his screaming might have caused some trouble on the way back. On the way back to Shinfeng Company, Bian Kai didn't rush ahead this time, but lagged behind the convoy, chatting casually with Lu Tong. Lu, do you finance students study stock trading every day? Bian Kai's question made Lu Tong chuckle, especially his curious expression and striking good looks, a stark contrast to the fierce-looking Bian Kai from before. Of course not. The finance department has a lot to learn. Microeconomics, macroeconomics, financial markets, financial engineering, and so on. You even have to study accounting. Stocks are just a small part of it. Bian Kai suddenly understood. Although he was a top student, his major in university was physics, completely unrelated to finance, so his understanding of this area was practically zero. Then, if I may ask, no offense intended, how well are you doing with your related professional knowledge, Lu? Although curious about Bian Kai's question, which sounded like a teacher's, Lu Tong still answered seriously. Overall, it's pretty good. I'd rank in the top 5 in the entire finance department. The main reason is that I have a lot of student council work, so my study time is quite limited, but overall it's acceptable. Oh, you work in the student council? I wonder what your specific work is. I'm sorry, I rarely participate in group activities in university, so I know very little about this. Bian Kai indeed rarely participated in group activities. He used to work part-time whenever he had time, so he didn't participate in any university clubs or the student council. Lu Tong expressed her understanding, noting that many university students indeed dislike participating in campus organizations. Some are addicted to games, some are focused on their studies, and some are simply uninterested. However, Lu Tong believes that someone like Bian Kai would disdain such activities. After all, someone who can afford a Bugatti Veyron doesn't need these campus accolades to secure a bright future. I'm currently the vice president of the student union, but I'll be promoted to president after the semester starts. The work is quite varied. I'll be in charge of everything. Bian Kai was surprised that this stunningly beautiful woman, whose looks rivaled his own and others like Lu Xueqing's, was actually the vice president of the student union at North China University. Appearances can be deceiving. The student union work must be very demanding, leaving you with very little free time. Not really. The president mainly oversees the overall situation. There isn't much hands-on work. In comparison, it's easier than the vice president's job. Oh, is that so? Then I have a favor to ask, Lu Tong. I need someone knowledgeable in finance to help me with some stock market transactions. At this point, Bian Kai finally revealed his purpose. He had been planning to acquire shares in various internet companies on the secondary market. However, the ridiculous thing was that he couldn't find anyone around him to handle this. The reason he targeted Lu Tong was partly because she was studying related fields. Another point is that Bian Kai saved Lu Tong's life, and Bian Kai observed that Lu Tong wasn't the type to repay kindness with enmity, so he trusted her more. After all, the amount of money involved in what Bian Kai wanted to do was enormous, and he needed someone trustworthy to handle it. Of course, he could also use the skills he acquired through the system to operate it himself, but Bian Kai had other things to do and simply couldn't spare the time. The reason he asked so many questions was mainly to gauge Lu Tong's abilities. He wanted to hire her, but she needed to have the time. Lu Tong was taken aback by Bian Kai's sudden change of topic. How did their conversation suddenly turn to the stock market? Operating in the stock market? But I've only learned the theory, and my understanding of the stock market is superficial. I've never actually traded anything myself. Lu Tong certainly had extensive theoretical knowledge of the stock market, but when it came to practical experience, she absolutely lacked it. It's alright, it's not a complicated operation. You know how to buy stocks, right? I'll have someone register an investment company. You just need to provide the money and buy the stocks. You don't need to worry about the price. The main investment targets are the large, currently listed internet companies in China. Of course, if you want to try something else, that's fine too. I don't know much about the specifics. I just want to have control over these internet companies. After Bian Kai finished speaking, Lu Tong looked at him incredulously. What did he mean by having control over the large, listed internet companies? And he said just, every single internet company currently listed in China has a market value of hundreds of billions or trillions. You want to control all of them? Are you sure you're not joking? Seeing Lu Tong's surprised expression, Bian Kai simply smiled faintly. His charm at that moment was off the charts. Student Lu, don't doubt my abilities. If you agree, I'll have someone register the company right away. I'll invest 10 trillion initially. You just need to use that money to buy the stocks. Lu Tong was completely dumbfounded, stammering. 10 trillion? Mr. Kai, you're not joking, are you? I'm just a college student who hasn't even graduated yet. You're throwing a 10 trillion yuan scheme at me. I'm afraid I can't handle it. It's alright, I understand your concerns. I'll have someone register the company first. Once the funds are in place, you can consider it further. I think this will be very beneficial for your future development. This outsider Bian Kai was right. For someone who studied finance, managing a 10 trillion yuan fund would definitely be one of the most dazzling experiences of their life. No, I agree. But let's make this clear beforehand. If I mess things up, you can't blame me. Bian Kai had already gone this far, and Lu Tong felt it would be unreasonable to refuse, especially since he had saved her life. However, 10 trillion yuan was simply too much. She had to make things clear beforehand. Otherwise, if she really messed things up, even selling herself wouldn't be enough to compensate. Don't worry, just go ahead and buy. Don't worry about anything that happens, I'll handle it. Bian Kai was overjoyed to hear Lu Tong's agreement. This investment company would play a crucial role in determining how far his lifespan and strength would grow in the future. No sooner said than done. Bian Kai immediately took out his phone and dialed Lu Xueqing's number, explaining his plan to register an investment company. Lu Xueqing was speechless. Whatever Bian Kai wanted, he did it. He'd just crippled a coach less than half an hour ago, and now he wanted to register an investment company. What was wrong with this guy's thought process? 15 minutes later, a group of supercars pulled up on the road outside Shinfeng Company. Bian Kai got out, and his mouth twitched at the sight before him. Too many luxury cars. No wonder Xiang Tian was worried. Over 200 luxury cars completely blocked the road in front of the company, turning what was originally a two-lane road into a single lane. Standing at one end of the convoy, you couldn't even see the other. These luxury cars, worth hundreds of millions, were simply piled up on the roadside. It made passing vehicles extremely cautious, afraid of scratching or damaging these cars, and not being able to afford the compensation. Mr. Kai, Huangxing's condition isn't very optimistic. Should we take him to the hospital first? I'm afraid he'll die if we delay any longer. Xiang Tian was stopped by the driver carrying Huangxing as soon as he got out of the car. The man's face was completely pale, and his breathing was extremely weak. If he didn't receive immediate treatment, he might really die. Okay, you arrange it. If he survives, it's a miracle he's alive. If he dies, it's his own fault. After receiving the order, Xiang Tian had a large minivan arranged to rush Huangxing to the hospital. As for whether he could be saved, as Bian Kai said, it all depended on how lucky he was. Bian Kai was too lazy to deal with these matters. He was looking at the long line of luxury cars and worrying. The only solution seemed to be to dispose of all the cars that Shenfeng Company had previously owned. Otherwise, there simply wouldn't be enough room for them all. Mr. Kai, the driving school I enrolled in is just ahead. I need to raise the issue of Huangxing with the school. Although you seriously injured him, Huachan Driving School must take a stand. Bian Kai looked closely and, sure enough, there was a driving school called Huachan right next to Shinfeng Company. He said, let's go together. Take Mr. Xiang with us. He's an old acquaintance of the driving school principal. He should be able to help. At Bian Kai's suggestion, Xiang Tian, who had just seen Huangxing off, led the way straight to Huachan Driving School. Huachan Driving School occupied a much larger area than Shinfeng Company, with 3 training grounds alone and a large area of undeveloped land. Bian Kai estimated the office space to be at least 3,000 square meters. The driving school's office building wasn't tall, only 3 stories. Led by Xiang Tian, Bian Kai and Lu Tong went directly to Principal Zhou Fang's office. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. Although they were old acquaintances, Xiang Tian still politely knocked on the door. A slightly aged voice came from inside. Oh, Xiao Tian, it's been a long time since you've come to visit this old man. What brings you here? The door opened, and an elderly man with graying but neatly combed hair and a slightly thin build greeted them. Haha, old Zhou, I don't come here without a reason. If I didn't come, your driving school would become famous. Indeed, they were old acquaintances. Xiang Tian didn't stand on ceremony and led Bian Kai and Lu Tong directly to sit on the sofa in the office. Zhou Fang was completely bewildered by Xiang Tian's words. Famous? Famous for what? Seeing Zhou Fang's puzzled look, Xiang Tian spoke to Lu Tong. Lu, you're the victim, so you should tell the story. Lu Tong didn't mince words and recounted in detail how Huangxing tricked her into going out for driving practice and then attempted to assault her. Although the air conditioning was on full blast, sweat was visibly dripping down Zhou Fang's face. He was genuinely terrified. When Zhou Fang hired Huangxing, he had heard some things about the instructor, but summer vacation is peak season for driving lessons. Driving schools are severely short of instructors, and Huang Xing appeared very upright during his application, so Zhou Fang kept him on. Unexpectedly, just a few months later, his true colors were revealed, causing him such a big problem. If this gets out, Hua Chen's reputation will definitely plummet. I'm truly sorry, Lu. This was due to our driving school's lax supervision, almost causing you an accident. Don't worry, I will severely punish a black sheep like Huang Xing and fire him immediately. We will refund your entire driving lesson fee. We hope you will be lenient and let our driving school off the hook. Zhou Fang was completely panicked this time. His driving school had been operating for over 20 years, and nothing like this had ever happened. If the driving school closed down because of Huang Xing, all his decades of hard work would be in vain. Show mercy? Compensation? Principal Zhou, aren't you being incredibly irresponsible? If your daughter had almost been assaulted, would you still say that? Speaking of which, you don't need to punish her. I believe Huang Xing has already received enough punishment. Humph. Before Lu Tong could speak, Bian Kai's face darkened. Zhou Fang clearly wanted to settle. His employee had been wronged, and Bian Kai was determined to get revenge. Upon hearing Bian Kai's words, Zhou Fang's face instantly turned extremely ugly. He did indeed have a daughter, and Bian Kai's words immediately ignited his anger. Who do you think you are? I'm discussing a solution with Lu Tong. What business is it of yours? You're not welcome here. Please leave. What can you do to me if I don't leave? Lu Tong is not only my classmate, but also my employee. My person has suffered such injustice here. Principal Zhou should at least give us an explanation. Upon hearing Zhou Fang say that Bian Kai was nobody, Xiang Tian's face instantly darkened. He said in an unfriendly tone, Old Zhou, I advise you to show some sincerity. This is President Kai, the new boss of Shinfeng Company, and also my boss. His power is beyond your imagination. Lu Tong also chimed in. Principal Zhou, President Kai's decision is my decision. You can talk to him about this matter. As for Huang Xing, humph, he's already been crippled by President Kai. Zhou Fang didn't expect to be attacked by all three of them with just one sentence. The amount of information was too much. He didn't react for a moment. This young man in front of him was actually the new boss of Shinfeng Company. No wonder Shinfeng Company's strength had suddenly increased so much, and they had bought so many luxury cars. He had just seen a long line of luxury cars parked on the roadside, worth at least several billion. Zhou Fang knew Xiang Tian's financial situation. He simply couldn't afford so many luxury cars. Now, through Xiang Tian's words, he understood that Shinfeng had a new boss. It seemed this young man's abilities were indeed beyond his imagination. Huff. Zhou Fang exhaled a breath of stale air. Although he felt incredibly aggrieved, the matter ultimately belonged to the driving school, so he spoke. Then, Mr. Kai, please give me a plan, and I'll comply. Let me speak. Fine. First, compensate Lu Tong with 5 million for emotional distress. Second, although I've crippled Huang Xing, I feel that punishment isn't enough. I want you to report his egregious behavior to all driving schools in Zhongbei City, so he can never be a driving instructor again. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. 5 million for emotional distress is too much. I won't accept it. And making Huang Xing's matter public is absolutely out of the question. Once it's publicized, Hua Chen Driving School will face utter destruction. Before Bian Kai finished stating his conditions, Zhou Fang was already jumping up and down. This was practically a death sentence for him. Oh, Principal Zhou, it seems you're still not very sincere. Fine, I won't mention the rest of the conditions. See you in court, Bian Kai said, getting up and walking towards the door. Lu Tong and Xiang Tian followed him out of the office. Before leaving, Xiang Tian sighed and said to Zhou Fang, Old Zhou, you're confused. President Kai's power is beyond your imagination. If you had agreed, you might have had a chance to survive, but now sigh. Zhou Fang remained silent, his face so dark it was almost dripping with gloom. He didn't believe a mere brat could do anything to him. Besides, Bian Kai had just said that Huang Xing had been crippled by him. This matter could be used to his advantage. Whether it was an act of heroism or self-defense, the line was ambiguous. Zhou Fang refused to believe that he, a seasoned veteran of the underworld, couldn't defeat a young, inexperienced brat. After leaving Hua Chen Driving School, Bian Kai turned to Lu Tong and said, Lu Tong, would you mind making this public? Since Zhou Fang is so insincere, we'll have to resort to some methods. It's all right, Mr. Kai. I'll cooperate with whatever you want to do. Making it public is fine. It will also prove my innocence. Lu Tong didn't hesitate at all and agreed immediately. Actually, it's best to be open about these things. Rumors circulating behind closed doors are the most dangerous. Although Huang Xing didn't succeed, the uninformed public would definitely make all sorts of speculations, which would be very detrimental to Lu Tong's reputation. Okay, as long as you don't mind. Wait a moment, I'll make a call. Hello, Mr. Dai, have you arrived in Shanghai yet? Not yet, Mr. Kai. It'll probably take another hour or so. Do you have any instructions? He had only left Zhongbei City for a short time. Bian Kai calling him at this hour must mean something. It's like this. Bian Kai briefly recounted Lu Tong's situation. Dai Tianlu had naturally seen many similar cases over the years. For CEO Kai to be so enraged, someone he shouldn't have messed with must have been targeted. Lu Tong's relationship with CEO Kai was definitely not simple. CEO Kai, what do you want me to do? It's simple. Let this matter circulate online. All streamers on Wawa with over 100,000 followers must post positive comments about this. Those who don't post will have all their promotional resources deducted, while those who do will receive a 10,000 renminbi reward. This is also the first thing you'll do after you complete the acquisition of Daiyu. You can also contact streamers or short video bloggers on other platforms with over 100,000 followers. Anyone who posts a comment favorable to us will also receive a 10,000 renminbi reward. Dai Tianlu gasped upon hearing this. Just who had Huang Xing offended Bian Kai? And this driving school was truly foolish. After Kai's actions, it's practically impossible for Hua Chen Driving School to survive. You have to understand that while there aren't many streamers or bloggers with over 100,000 followers across various platforms, there are still hundreds of thousands. If every streamer were to comment, the red envelope giveaway alone would amount to billions of yuan. Most importantly, this would make the entire Xia Kingdom aware of the situation. That instructor named Huang Xing and Hua Chen Driving School will likely face a torrent of online abuse. This was the first time Bian Kai had issued an order as the boss, and Dai Tianlu naturally had to carry it out without question. While Dai Tianlu was contacting the Frog Operations Center and various platforms, Bian Kai called Lu Xueqing, instructing her to quickly draft a lawsuit under the name Lu Tong, directly suing Huang Xing and Huachen Driving School. Finally, Bian Kai called fifth brother Teng Hu. Earlier at the convention center, Bian Kai had Teng Hu take the luxury cars he left behind back to Tianyumingdi, so he hadn't come with him to Shinfeng Company. Bian Kai called him to ask if any of his brothers had female disciples, and to arrange for two of them to come and protect Lu Tong's safety. Although there's no immediate danger, if Zhou Feng were truly driven mad, who knows what he might do? Therefore, prevention is crucial. The 5 older brothers don't have many female disciples, only 4 or 5. Bian Kai chose the 2 strongest, both reaching the level of level 5 martial master. Lu Tong watched Bian Kai busy himself for her, and a strange feeling welled up inside her. As the vice president of the student council, and possessing stunning beauty, she naturally had many suitors. But compared to Bian Kai, they all seemed pale in comparison. She didn't understand why Bian Kai was so kind to her. Was he trying to pursue her? Thinking this, 2 blushes rose on Lu Tong's pretty face, making her look incredibly charming and stunning. After arranging these matters, Bian Kai, led by Xiang Tian, arrived at Shinfeng Company. The new boss came to inspect the work, and all the staff lined up in front of the office building to greet him, with the chauffeur drivers being the most excited. Not only would they be driving luxury cars to pick up passengers, but the new boss also increased their profit-sharing ratio, resulting in a significant increase in income. How could they not be happy? Bian Kai was already used to this situation. He held another staff meeting, where he tripled the salaries of the support staff and set the food standards to match those of Xuefu Hotel and Xinguang Digital City. Since it was lunchtime, Bian Kai called Xuefu Hotel and asked them to quickly prepare a large meal for everyone. This one call kept the Xuefu Hotel chefs extremely busy, but thankfully, they managed to prepare a meal for over 100 people. Now, the Xuefu Hotel's kitchen primarily serves Bian Kai's own staff. The hotel itself has about 100 employees, Xinguang Digital City has over 200, plus over 100 from Shinfeng ride-hailing, and Bian Kai has also arranged for the Qingtian law firm to handle the workload. Although they don't have many people there are still 30 or 40. All of them are provided with free breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As you can imagine, the workload was immense, but Bian Kai wasn't bothered. He simply instructed the manager of the Xuefu Hotel to expand the kitchen and hire chefs. He wanted to ensure both the needs of his regular customers and that his employees had enough to eat. After a lavish meal, Bian Kai, the new boss, won the approval of all the employees at Shinfeng Company. With such a boss, a bright future seemed assured. As for parking, Xiang Tian had a good idea. Build a fully automated, multi-level, enclosed parking garage on the existing parking lot. This would not only provide ample parking spaces, but also effectively protect the luxury cars worth hundreds of millions. However, it would be more expensive. Building a multi-level parking garage that could accommodate 400 cars would cost approximately 50 million. Upon hearing that it was only a small amount, Bian Kai immediately ordered Xiang Tian to build it to a standard of 100 million. Money was the last thing he lacked. Xiang Tian was already used to his boss's extravagant spending. After receiving the order, he immediately contacted the relevant construction teams. Bian Kai gave Xiang Tian the contact information of his 6th brother, Ho Qianhua. When they met at the auto show that morning, the two chatted and Ho Qianhua mentioned that he was not only involved in mobile phone research and development, but also had set aside some funds for building materials. Building the garage required a large amount of building materials, and 6th brother was the right person for the job. That afternoon, Bian Kai was summoned to Qingtian law firm by a phone call from Lu Xueqing. Many of the properties he had previously purchased were undergoing related paperwork, naturally requiring Bian Kai's signature as the boss. Furthermore, the investment company Bian Kai wanted to register also needed his confirmation, so he spent the entire afternoon at Qingtian law firm signing various documents. Bian Kai named the investment company Triumph Capital, aptly corresponding to the triumphant accounts of the various properties. Lu Tong also went to Qingtian law firm with Bian Kai. Lu Xueqing felt threatened by this sudden appearance of Mr. Kai, her classmate. The two were almost equally attractive, but Lu Tong was young, the same age as Mr. Kai. Now she regretted not sneaking into Mr. Kai's villa last night to finalize the deal, making it a done deal first. No, she had to find an opportunity to get this done quickly, otherwise, with Mr. Kai's charm, who knew how many girls he would attract. Shi Xiao, that shameless girl, had already seized the initiative. She didn't care that he was her best friend, but as the first person to meet Mr. Kai, she couldn't be second to anyone else. Shi Xiao, on the other hand, didn't care. She had already won the race. Mr. Kai had promised to buy her 100 Balenciaga jeans to tear up. Lu Tong was also amazed by the mature charm of the two beautiful lawyers. Although she felt a little envious, what could she do when she met Mr. Kai so late? The 3 women each harbored their own thoughts, and with Dai Tianlu's successful acquisition of the big fish, Bian Kai's attribute panel changed once again. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 59 years 222 days. Skill points, 10,000. Constitution, 10437. Normal human 10. Mental strength, 1000. Normal human 10. Martial artist level, peak martial master. Skills, beginner combat, advanced chef. Looking at his lifespan, which had increased to nearly 60 years, Bian Kai was even more eager for Lu Tong's subsequent stock acquisition. If he could acquire Douyin, his lifespan would directly break through the current human limit, reaching an unprecedented height. Therefore, Bian Kai's gaze towards Lu Tong became increasingly affectionate, as if he were looking at a rare treasure. Lu Tong naturally felt Bian Kai's gaze, and for a moment, her heart felt like a deer was pounding wildly, and she became somewhat shy. This made Lu Xueqing feel an increasing sense of urgency. She had to act quickly, or she didn't know where she'd end up in the rankings. This time, Bian Kai didn't put all his skill points into Constitution. Instead, he spent 100 points upgrading his basic fighting to advanced fighting. As his strength increased, his previous fighting techniques were no longer sufficient. There was actually a Grandmaster level of fighting above advanced, but Bian Kai's current strength was far from enough, so he temporarily upgraded to advanced. Bian Kai then added all the remaining skill points to Constitution. After doing so, his strength almost doubled, his Constitution level soaring to 20337, reaching 2,000 times the level of a normal person. Bian Kai even felt he could beat Fujitora. Of course, this was an illusion. Fujitora's multiplier was over 4,000, far beyond what Bian Kai could currently contend with. His illusion stemmed entirely from his sudden surge in strength, making him somewhat complacent. Meanwhile, a cyberstorm targeting Huangxing and Huachin driving school erupted almost instantly. The most interesting thing is that when Dai Tianlu asked these people to speak, he said it was at the request of the super-rich man who said, everything is fleeting. Those big-name streamers who weren't initially interested in the 10,000 yuan prize money rushed to post videos and start live streams when they heard it was requested by the big boss Fuyun. The 10,000 yuan was nothing. What mattered was getting noticed by Fuyun because of this. Given Fuyun's extravagant nature, always giving away hundreds of millions in rewards, he could easily become a big shot. Therefore, these streamers and bloggers were shouting like crazy, each one more scathing than the last, using the most offensive and abusive language imaginable. Online opinion was completely one-sided. Everyone condemned Huangxing's despicable behavior, and Huachin driving school was branded a den of iniquity. The court officially accepted Lu Xueqing's lawsuit, and various agencies began a series of investigations into Huangxing and Huachin driving school. Students who had originally enrolled at the school, especially female students, lined up at the school's finance office after seeing the news, all demanding refunds. Where would the driving school get so much cash so quickly? They could only watch helplessly as the students blocked the finance department's entrance and caused a disturbance. The media also jumped on the bandwagon. In just one afternoon, Zhou Feng received interview requests from over 20 media outlets, some coming in person, others calling. He hadn't expected Bian Kai to use public opinion to pressure him. Completely overwhelmed, he could only close the driving school doors, turn off his phone, and become unreachable. Bankruptcy seemed imminent. Huangxing, after emergency treatment, was out of danger, but Bian Kai's kicks were too severe. He would never be able to stand again. When questioned, he admitted to attempting to assault Lu Tong. Although he failed, it was still considered an attempted assault, and he would face at least 3 years in prison. Bian Kai's actions, based on Lu Tong's testimony, were deemed acts of bravery. Although the blows were somewhat heavy-handed, Huangxing was the first to be threatened with a switchblade, so it wasn't considered excessive self-defense. This was Bian Kai's first public display of power, and the effect was remarkable, directly crippling one of the top driving schools in Zhongbei City. Xiang Tian felt a pang of regret. After all, old Zhou was an old acquaintance. However, the fault didn't lie with Bian Kai. Bian Kai had given Zhou Feng a chance, but the old man hadn't seized it, so the current situation was entirely his own fault. Bian Kai had also given him new instructions. If Zhou Feng called to admit defeat, he would take over Huachin driving school directly and lower the prices to the absolute minimum. As for how low, to the minimum, Bian Kai gave Xiang Tian a standard, just enough to refund the students' tuition fees. Furthermore, the refund process would not involve Zhou Feng. Xiang Tian would be solely responsible. If Zhou Feng agreed, the matter would end there. Of course, clearing his name was impossible. Bian Kai would at most refrain from further escalation. If he didn't agree, then he would completely ruin Zhou Feng's reputation and bankrupt him. This was the first time Bian Kai had ever aggressively negotiated a price to the death when acquiring a company since binding himself to the system. Previously, he had always offered the highest possible price. But this time was different. Although Bian Kai needed to spend money to save his life, it didn't mean he had no principles. He felt aggrieved, even spending a penny more on trash like this. As streamers and bloggers from various platforms spoke out about the matter, Bian Kai fulfilled his promise, having Dai Tianlu take over 1 billion yuan from his personal account to distribute as red envelopes to these individuals. In the end, the public opinion storm that Bian Kai stirred up cost a total of 1.5 billion yuan, demonstrating the power of capital to everyone. Capital may create competition to make a person or company successful, but destroying one or a company is incredibly easy. Having spent another 1.5 billion yuan, Bian Kai's lifespan increased by 15 days, and he gained 15 skill points. He didn't bother using these few points on his physique, keeping them for future use in case he needed to exchange for skills. Bian Kai was busy at Qingtian law firm until 6 p.m. before finally finishing signing all the documents. Some signatures required procedural steps, which took a long time. During this time, Teng Hu arrived with 2 female apprentices, along with Li Xiang. After Zhuang Yu learned that Teng Hu hadn't been by Bian Kai's side during the Huangxing incident, he gave the burly man a good beating. So, just in case, he sent his 4th brother, Li Xiang, which made Bian Kai somewhat amused and exasperated. Was he really that unreliable? But he accepted his brother's kindness. The 2 female apprentices accompanied Lu Tong to protect her, and Bian Kai also arranged for a bulletproof Maybach from Shenfeng Company to serve as Lu Tong's car. Lu Tong took all of this as Bian Kai's care and affection, and happily accepted it all. Little did Bian Kai know, in his heart, Lu Tong was merely a tool to help him spend money. The reason he went to such lengths to protect her was precisely to prevent this tool from malfunctioning and affecting the spending schedule. That evening, the group enjoyed another lavish meal at the Xuefu Hotel at the Qingtian law firm. During the meal, Lu Xueqing kept complaining that the hotel chef's cooking wasn't as good as Bian Kai's. Therefore, she decided to go to Bian Kai's place for a late-night snack. Shi Yingxiu was delighted to hear this. Her best friend had finally come to her senses. She decided to skip it that night and get some rest. She hadn't slept well the previous night and was quite tired. Bian Kai didn't think much of it. His culinary skills were advanced, obtained from the system, far surpassing those of the hotel chef. Since his senior had suggested it, he'd show off his skills and cook a nice late-night snack. He even invited the others to join them. However, everyone said they had things to do and couldn't go, leaving only Lu Xueqing to have her snack at his place alone. Oh well, one person is fine too. After dinner, Bian Kai decided to personally take Lu Tong back to school, while Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu returned to Tianyumingdi. The two walked ahead, whispering to each other, their voices low, but Bian Kai could still vaguely hear something about Balenciaga. Almost instantly, he understood everything. His senior's cravings weren't just for a late-night snack. After dropping Lu Tong off at school, Bian Kai and his two older brothers drove a Rolls-Royce Phantom back to Tianyumingdi. It was already past 9 p.m. when Bian Kai saw a tall, thin figure crouching by the roadside, head buried in knees, shoulders heaving, seemingly crying. The figure seemed familiar. He felt he'd seen her somewhere before. Fifth brother, drive over and see. I think I know that girl. Tung Hu also felt a sense of familiarity, as if he'd seen her somewhere before, so he drove over directly. As he got closer, Bian Kai recognized the person, none other than Chu Ling, his savior who had paid 4,000 yuan for his medical expenses. Seeing this, Bian Kai quickly got out of the car and went to Chu Ling. Sensing someone approaching, Chu Ling raised her tear-streaked face to look at Bian Kai. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, but more so, sadness and grievance. Bian Kai was also somewhat bewildered. What was going on? He couldn't bear to see girls cry, especially pretty ones, so he quickly asked, Chu Ling, what's wrong? Looking at Bian Kai's handsome face and hearing his anxious yet gentle question, Chu Ling could no longer control her emotions. She burst into tears. This made Bian Kai even more flustered, unsure of what to do. Don't cry, tell me what happened. Maybe I can help you. Chu Ling completely ignored Bian Kai's words, just kept crying. Passers-by cast curious glances, but no one came to join the commotion. What they were thinking could probably fill a novel. After about 5 minutes, perhaps exhausted from crying, Chu Ling finally choked out her story. After listening, Bian Kai realized that Chu Ling's grievances were somewhat related to him, or rather, one of the root causes. During the daytime auto show, Portia paid Chu Ling her commission of 500,000 yuan on the spot. Overjoyed, she called home. Unexpectedly, instead of praise, she was met with a torrent of abuse. Her father even threatened to jump from the building, claiming it was his incompetence that had caused his wife and daughter such suffering. Chu Ling's parents suspected the money was ill-gotten. How could a university student with no stable job earn 500,000 yuan so quickly? Even with a stable job, it was impossible to earn that much money in a single day. The only explanation was that Chu Ling had done something wrong. Using her body to obtain this huge sum of money filled Chu Ling's parents with shame and immense guilt. No matter how Chu Ling explained, her parents wouldn't believe her. They demanded she return home immediately, threatening to sever all ties if she didn't. After hearing the whole story, Bian Kai finally understood that the 4,000 yuan Chu Ling had paid for his medical expenses was actually her father's life-saving money. He couldn't believe such a kind girl truly existed in the world. This kindness was truly heartbreaking, but in today's society, kindness can sometimes be a sin, punishing oneself and one's family. Looking at Chu Ling's red and swollen eyes, Bian Kai felt a pang of guilt. He hadn't expected that helping Chu Ling get a 500,000 yuan commission out of gratitude would cause her family to doubt her innocence. The root of this matter ultimately lay with that real estate company. If Tianyu Real Estate hadn't refused to pay Chu Ling's father's medical expenses and compensation, Chu Ling wouldn't have gone to work at the car show during her summer vacation, wouldn't have met the injured Bian Kai, and naturally, there wouldn't have been the misunderstanding caused by Bian Kai's act of gratitude. Therefore, to completely resolve the Chu family situation, it was necessary to start with Tianyu Real Estate, the root cause. Bian Kai already had a general idea in mind, so he asked, Chu Ling, when are you planning to go back? My parents want me to go back tomorrow. I really don't know what to do. This 500,000 is clearly a commission, but they insist I'm. Chu Ling couldn't continue speaking, her lips trembling as she was about to cry again, when Bian Kai quickly interrupted her. How about this? I'll go home with you tomorrow to explain to your aunt and uncle. Also, I'll go check on things at Tianyu Real Estate. I want to see just how powerful a real estate company could drive your family to this point. Bian Kai's reputation in Zhongbei City was gradually growing. Almost everyone in high society knew of him. Through the Huangxing incident, Bian Kai had flexed his muscles and gained a certain status in Zhongbei City. However, he wasn't sure if he had the current strength to take down the behemoth, the Bai Group, so he planned to use Tianyu Real Estate to test the waters first. What Bian Kai didn't expect was that this test would directly lead to a direct confrontation with the Bai Group, igniting a massive upheaval that swept through Zhongbei City and even Jiangnan province because of something as seemingly insignificant as Chu Ling. When Chu Ling heard that Bian Kai was willing to help her, she was first taken aback, then her face lit up with joy. If Bian Kai could really help her explain to her parents, things would be much simpler. Because Bian Kai was the one who bought the car, she could directly bring the buyer over as a witness. What could be more convincing? As for Bian Kai's offer to help her family resolve the Tianyu Real Estate issue, Chu Ling didn't know him very well, so she couldn't judge whether it was true. Mr. Kai, thank you for your help. My home isn't far from Zhongbei City. It takes about an hour by car. Chu Ling, you don't need to be so polite. Without your help, I don't know what would have become of me. I'll pick you up from school tomorrow, and we'll go to your house together. Chu Ling nodded in agreement, and the two arranged to meet again the next day before parting ways. Back at the Tianyumingdi residential complex, Tung Hu and Li Xiang didn't stay at Bian Kai's villa, but went to visit the villa they had just bought. After hearing that Tung Hu had bought a villa from Bian Kai, Zhuang Yu and the others each contacted Bian Kai and bought one themselves. Zhuang Yu, Xiao Jun, and Pang Long didn't stand on ceremony and directly asked for 3 600 square meter villas. As for Li Xiang, the fourth brother, he could only get a 500 square meter villa, just like Tung Hu, but this was enough for them. After the villas were divided among his brothers, Bian Kai was left with only one 500 square meter villa. He reserved it for Ho Qianyue. All the brothers lived in the same neighborhood, and there was no reason to leave his sixth brother out. After returning to the villa, Bian Kai made 2 phone calls, one to his eldest brother Zhuang Yu and the ride-hailing driver Xiang Tian. The reason he called them was for one purpose, to recruit people. Since he wanted to flex his muscles, Bian Kai decided to be completely arrogant this time. Zhuang Yu and Xiang Tian understood Bian Kai's youthful arrogance and offered to provide manpower and vehicles. With the funds secured, Xiangduan Security Company quickly hired a group of highly skilled bodyguards at high salaries, bringing the company's workforce to over 60. Except for a few personnel required for specific missions, Zhuang Yu generously assigned Bian Kai a full 50 men. As for vehicles, it was even more convenient. Shinfeng ride-hailing had over 300 luxury cars, but only about 120 drivers. Xiang Tian directly arranged for 50 of the most expensive sports cars for Bian Kai's use. After arranging these matters, Bian Kai glanced at his phone. It was 10 p.m. on August 29th. School was starting in 2 days. He actually wanted to go home and bring his parents over, but the Bai family situation wasn't completely resolved, and bringing them over rashly could potentially put his parents in danger. He'd been busy spending money to save his life for a while and hadn't had time to call home. Now that Bian Kai's lifespan had returned to normal. Hello, Dad. Hey, Kai. Why did you suddenly think of calling home? Is your summer job in Zhongbei going well? Don't skimp on food and clothing. Don't worry about us. Hearing his father's concern, Bian Kai choked up. A few days ago, he'd almost lost his life. He didn't know what would have become of his parents if he had really died. Hey, Xiao Kai, is your signal bad? I can't hear you. Honey, I told you I needed a new phone, but I can't hear you when you call. What's the point of changing it? As long as it works, it's fine. Wouldn't it be better to save that money for our son's wedding? Hearing his mother's voice, Bian Kai quickly composed himself and said, Dad, please get a new one. Your old phone is so old. Smartphones are all the rage now. Don't use that blue screen phone anymore. By the way, this summer when I was working in Zhongbei City, I met a master. He took me as his disciple and gave me all his wealth, a lot of money. Our family won't have to worry about money anymore. This was an excuse Bian Kai had thought of a long time ago. Otherwise, he had no way to explain where his enormous wealth came from. He could probably play the mystery with other people, but his parents knew him inside and out. Playing mysterious in front of them was useless. Master? Son, are you under too much pressure from your studies? Why are you talking nonsense? Upon hearing his son's words, Bian Wenshan's first thought on the other end of the phone was that Bian Kai had gone mad. What era is this? Master? Oh, Dad, I'm not lying, it's true. My master taught me so much. I'm incredibly powerful now, and he even gave me a lot of wealth, but then he suddenly disappeared. I'm busy with some things right now. If you don't believe me, I'll bring you two to Zhongbei City to enjoy your retirement after I'm done with this. But I can transfer some money to you now. Just check your account. Don't worry about spending it. Your son has plenty, no need to save. You old fool. How can you talk about your son like that? Xiao Kai, Mom believes you. My son has been smart since he was little. He definitely wouldn't lie. Don't bother bringing us. We're doing quite well in the countryside. Your parents aren't very successful. As long as you're doing well, that's all that matters. Let me tell you. On the other end of the phone, Bian Kai's mother, Wei Qingxia, snatched the phone from Bian Wenshan's hand and immediately began her nagging. Bian Kai didn't interrupt his mother, just listened to her nagging. Things he used to find incredibly annoying. He now actually looked forward to his mother saying more. Perhaps it's true that only after dying once do you realize what's truly precious. Just as Wei Qingxia was nagging incessantly, the villa's door suddenly opened. Bian Kai didn't even look. It was definitely Lu Xueqing. Only 3 people knew the password. Him, Lu Xueqing, and Shiring Xiu. Even his bodyguard, Teng Hu, didn't know. Considering Lu Xueqing's earlier comment about coming over for a late-night snack, Bian Kai knew without looking that it was her. Lu Xueqing entered and found Bian Kai on the phone, so she sat quietly to the side without urging him. While listening to his mother's nagging, Bian Kai glanced at Lu Xueqing. Good heavens, he almost had a nosebleed. Lu Xueqing, who had always worn business attire, was now dressed in a JK uniform, her long, straight legs adorned with Balenciaga sneakers. Her face was lightly made up. She wasn't wearing lipstick, but under the light, her lips were translucent, likely from some kind of colorless lip balm. Her hair was casually draped down her back, looking incredibly smooth. Most importantly, Lu Xueqing already possessed a capable and efficient air, which, combined with this outfit, added a touch of allure. The combination of these two qualities left Bian Kai completely stunned. Who would believe his senior was already 28? She looked like she was 18. She was unbelievably beautiful. In an instant, Bian Kai didn't want to listen to his mother's nagging anymore. He gave a few perfunctory replies, said he needed to rest, and hung up the phone. After hanging up, Bian Kai first transferred a sum of money to his father. Not much, only 100,000 yuan, but this amount was a huge sum for his parents living in the countryside. He was afraid of scaring his parents if he transferred too much. After finishing his tour, Bian Kai looked at Lu Xueqing, who had been sitting on the sofa without saying a word, and asked, Senior, what would you like for supper tonight? The next morning at 8 a.m., 50 supercars, 50 drivers, and 50 bodyguards arrived on time outside the gates of Tianyu Mansion. Li Xiang drove the Bugatti Veyron, while Teng Hu drove the Phantom with Bian Kai in tow, and the group headed towards North China University in a grand procession. A whole convoy of luxury cars driving on the street was incredibly conspicuous, especially since it was rush hour and the roads were packed with traffic. But strangely, even with the congestion, other vehicles kept their distance from the convoy, and no one dared to cut in line. Accidentally hitting any one of them would be a huge financial burden. The convoy wasn't moving fast, but thanks to this strange phenomenon, no accidents occurred. Half an hour later, the convoy finally arrived at the gate of North China University. Since the start of the semester was the day after tomorrow, many students had already returned to campus. The gatekeeper, Uncle Go, received orders from the university to lift the summer restrictions on visitors and vehicles. Mainly because many students were returning early, some driven by their parents, it wouldn't be practical to stop all vehicles, so the university lifted the ban ahead of schedule. Although Uncle Go was somewhat reluctant, he still allowed Bian Kai's convoy to enter the campus, and the roar of more than 50 supercars immediately echoed throughout the entire North China University. Holy crap, it's just summer vacation. What kind of genius has emerged at school this time? Look at that car at the front. Isn't it a Rolls-Royce Phantom? That car must be worth tens of millions. Shaw, you're so ignorant. If we're talking about comfort, the Rolls-Royce is definitely the best, but as for price, if we're mistaken, the second one is at least 100 million. That's a Bugatti Veyron. Who is it? Such a grand spectacle. Only Bai Minghui, the heir of the Bai Group, could probably afford this at our school. Bai Minghui, you're giving him too much credit. This whole line of luxury cars is worth at least $1 billion. The Bai family is rich, but they wouldn't let him squander money like this. The students who were resting were all awakened by the roar of the supercars and rushed to their balconies to admire the luxurious convoy, speculating about who this genius at school was. The Phantom finally stopped in front of girls' dormitory, building number 3. Chu Ling lived in this dormitory building, and she was already waiting downstairs, all ready to go. In fact, Lu Tong also lived in this dormitory building, but she went to Qingtian law firm early in the morning under the protection of 2 female bodyguards. Kaishan Capital had been officially established, and Bian Kai had completed the relevant formalities yesterday, but there was still some work to be done. Therefore, to quickly understand the company he was about to take control of, Lu Tong was almost completely immersed in her work, showing a bit of Lu Xueqing's flair. The door of the Phantom opened, and Bian Kai waved to Chu Ling, gesturing for her to get in. Chu Ling was also shocked by the entourage Bian Kai had put on. Was Kai's so-called arrangement just to show off his wealth at her house? Although somewhat doubtful, Chu Ling obediently got into the car. Holy crap, isn't that Chu Ling, the campus belle of the Foreign Languages Institute? She got into that Rolls-Royce. I heard that during the summer vacation, Chu Ling worked part-time as a car model at the auto show. Judging from this, could it be that she was spotted by some big shot at the auto show and directly taken in? No way. Almost every campus beauty at Zhongbei University is already taken. Chu Ling is one of the few who hasn't had any scandals. She's the only Pure Land left in our hearts. Pure Land my foot. Isn't this scene clear enough? Chu Ling's standards are high. Only a rich guy could catch her eye. The person in the Rolls-Royce is probably a big shot. Haven't you heard about the CEO of Jingxi and the milk tea girl? Now that you mention it, it's quite possible. But when the car door opened, I caught a glimpse of the person inside. I didn't see what they looked like, but they seemed very young. Bian Kai and Chu Ling naturally couldn't hear the students' discussions. They had already left the campus and were heading towards Qingnan District in Zhongbei City. Qingnan District was originally called Qingnan County, a county under the jurisdiction of Zhongbei City, just like Bian Kai's hometown, Qinghe Town. However, Qingnan County's economic development level ranks among the top 5 in Zhongbei City, and it's also close to the city center. Therefore, after discussions among leaders a couple of years ago, the original Qingnan County was reorganized into Qingnan District, with plans to build a national-level industrial park there. This led to a surge in land prices in Qingnan District, attracting a flood of real estate developers. Besides the Bai family, Tianyu Real Estate, owned by Chu Ling's father, Chu Zhongxing, acquired the most land. Having acquired so much land, they naturally couldn't leave it idle. To acquire this land, many real estate companies, including the Bai family, borrowed heavily from banks. Therefore, they had to develop and sell the land quickly to repay the bank loans and ensure profits. However, because acquiring land had almost depleted their cash flow, they had to continue borrowing from banks. This created a vicious cycle. The more they developed, the more they borrowed from banks. Except for the Bai family, which could still sustain itself, the other real estate companies were almost on the verge of collapse. If the banks cut off lending, the projects under construction would immediately be abandoned. Although the leaders of Zhongbei City were aware of the situation, it was too late. Apart from the Bai family, nearly half of the real estate companies in Zhongbei City were trapped. The Bai family wasn't faring much better. Having acquired the most land, their financial pressure was naturally the greatest, and they were currently only barely surviving thanks to their relatively strong financial foundation. However, for all the real estate companies, these difficulties were temporary. Once the national-level industrial park project started, the value of their land and properties would multiply. About an hour later, the convoy arrived at Qingnan District People's Hospital, where Chu Ling's father was hospitalized. Due to insufficient parking spaces at the hospital, only the Phantom and Bugatti drove in. The other supercars found nearby parking lots to wait. On the 5th floor of the inpatient ward, Chu Zhongxing was on a hunger strike. Chu Ling's mother, Zhang Xiaohong, stood by his bedside, wiping away tears as she held a bowl of porridge. Her voice choked with emotion as she said, "Old Chu, we've let our child down. She's so young and has to endure so much. But if you keep acting like this, Lingling will worry even more. Please eat a little something." Chu Zhongxing remained silent, his eyes vacant, as if he were dead. Just as the two were locked in this stalemate, Chu Ling led Bian Kai into the ward. Li Xiang and Tung, who didn't go in, but instead stood guard on either side of the door. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." As soon as Chu Ling entered, she saw her father lying motionless on the bed and her mother wiping away tears. She could no longer control her emotions, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. Seeing his daughter return, Chu Zhongxing's eyes regained some light, looking at Chu Ling with a mixture of despair and heartache. Her mother, Zhang Xiaohong, quickly placed the bowl she was carrying on the cabinet, then hurried over, pulling Chu Ling up and down, looking her over from head to toe. "Mom, what are you looking at? It's not what you think. That 500,000 yuan was really a commission from selling the car. I brought the person who bought the car here to testify. It's this guy next to me." Chu Ling had already been spun around 3 times by her mother and was starting to feel dizzy. She quickly explained. Upon hearing Chu Ling's words, both elderly people immediately turned their gaze to Bian Kai. Zhang Xiaohong secretly admired him, thinking, what a handsome young man. It wouldn't be bad if her daughter married such a young man. Seeing the elderly couple looking at him, Bian Kai remained calm and said, "Uncle, Aunt, what Chu said is correct. I can testify that the 500,000 yuan was indeed a commission from the car sale, because I was the one who bought the car." After speaking, Bian Kai took out a stack of contracts from his bag and handed them to Zhang Xiaohong. These were the purchase contracts he signed when he cleared out the Porsche auto show. He had specifically asked someone to get these from Qingtian law firm this morning to prove that he was indeed the one who bought the car. The elderly couple took the contracts without saying anything, but instead began to look through them one by one. The specific contents were not important. They were only looking at the official seal of the Porsche 4S store, Bian Kai's signature, and most importantly, the salesperson listed on the contracts as Chu Ling. After quickly flipping through all the contracts, Chu Zhongxing and his wife were instantly shocked. What did this young man, who was about the same age as Lingling, do? The thick stack of contracts in their hands, with a total amount exceeding 100 million yuan, was an astronomical figure for their ordinary family. If these contracts were genuine, then their daughter's 500,000 yuan would make sense. Although the elderly couple believed their daughter hadn't obtained the money through prostitution, they still harbored suspicions about the relationship between Bian Kai and Chu Ling. "Young man, did you and our Lingling know each other before?" Zhang Xiaohong asked tentatively. Seeing that Chu Ling's parents weren't entirely convinced, Bian Kai recounted how he had been seriously injured and saved by Chu Ling. This time, Chu Ling's parents had no further doubts. It turned out Bian Kai bought so many cars to repay their daughter's life-saving grace, and the two were even classmates at Zhongbei University. A weight was finally lifted from Chu Zhongxing's heart. As long as his daughter hadn't been harmed because of him, that was enough. With this 500,000 yuan, he finally saw a glimmer of hope for life. At least for the time being, he wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. Zhang Xiaohong returned the contracts to Bian Kai, and now, the more she looked at the young man, the more she liked him. Especially standing next to her daughter, they looked so well matched, a perfect couple. Lingling, go out and buy your father something to eat. The old man hasn't eaten for several meals because of you. Huh? Isn't there porridge? Chu Ling answered subconsciously. She clearly saw her mother carrying a bowl of porridge when she came in. Why did she need to go out and buy more? Oh dear, one bowl of porridge isn't enough for your father. You know how little he eats. Go quickly. Okay, I'll go right now. Although she didn't know why her mother suddenly wanted her to buy food at this crucial moment. Looking at her weak father lying on the hospital bed, Chu Ling turned and left the room. Bian Kai, seeing this, also planned to follow. He had originally wanted to talk to Chu Ling's father about Tianyu real estate, but now he could only wait until he returned with the food. Just as he turned around, Zhang Xiaohong suddenly grabbed his arm. Bian Kai, Lingling can go buy the food herself. You must be tired after coming all the way from Zhongbei City. Come, sit down and rest for a while. Without waiting for Bian Kai's reply, Zhang Xiaohong pulled him to an empty bed and gestured for him to sit down. Bian Kai didn't want to disobey the old woman, so he obediently sat down. He figured he might as well take this opportunity to find out more about Chu Ling's situation from her father. However, before he could even speak, Zhang Xiaohong switched into future mother-in-law mode, bombarding him with a barrage of questions. Bian Kai could only passively answer, without any chance to ask any questions himself. Chu Ling had only been out buying food for less than 15 minutes, and in that short time, Zhang Xiaohong had basically figured out everything about Bian Kai. Because she asked so many detailed questions, especially when Bian Kai mentioned that his parents were ordinary people, the curious Zhang Xiaohong pressed for details. Unable to find a solution, Bian Kai had to repeat the reasons he used for his parents, a revelation that left Zhang Xiaohong amazed. This only made her feel that Bian Kai and her daughter were a perfect match. Both came from ordinary families, both were top students, and both were incredibly kind, a fact evident in Bian Kai's act of repaying a debt of gratitude. Most importantly, Bian Kai's master had left him a large fortune, ensuring their future security. It was practically a match made in heaven. Mom, what are you and Kai talking about? Chu Ling had just entered the ward when she saw Bian Kai sitting somewhat awkwardly on the bed. His mother, Zhang Xiaohong, was staring at him with shining eyes, talking incessantly. Even her paralyzed father had a faint smile on his face. Seeing Chu Ling return, Zhang Xiaohong stopped her investigation, took the food from her daughter, and placed it on the bedside table, showing no intention of giving any to her husband. Lingling, we didn't say much, just some casual conversation. You two go to the same school, so try to chat more often. Bian Kai is a really nice young man. Mom, what are you saying? Chu Ling couldn't possibly misunderstand her mother's meaning. It was obvious she had her eye on Bian Kai and was trying to set them up. But Bian Kai was no ordinary man. While he wasn't surrounded by beautiful women, the few she'd seen were absolutely stunning. She never dared to harbor any illusions. Bian Kai had actually understood Zhang Xiaohong's meaning long ago. To be honest, Chu Ling was indeed very beautiful, completely to his liking, but they hadn't met many times. Bian Kai felt more gratitude towards her than romantic feelings. He could only appease Zhang Xiaohong for now. After all, as an elder, she meant well, and he couldn't just shut her down completely. Besides, who could predict the future? Bian Kai never considered himself a monogamous person. Anyway, two people had already sneaked into his villa. If he really got along well with Chu Ling, the villa was big enough. He could deal with it later. The interrogation from his future mother-in-law finally came to an end, giving Bian Kai a chance to learn about Tianyu real estate from Chu Zhongxing. Chu Zhongxing was overjoyed to hear that Bian Kai wanted to help him resolve the compensation issue. Others might not be able to do it, but Bian Kai was the type to casually spend over 100 million on cars. Maybe he really could. So she explained the whole situation in detail. It was actually a normal construction site accident. Such accidents aren't frequent, but they're not uncommon either. Generally, real estate companies would offer some compensation for similar accidents. But when Chu Ling's mother, Zhang Xiaohong, went to discuss compensation with the person in charge of Tianyu real estate, she was turned away. Not only that, but they also refused to cover any expenses related to Chu Zhongxing's treatment, and didn't even bother to take him to the hospital. Although Chu Zhongxing wasn't a manager, as the most skilled veteran in the entire construction team, he naturally felt extremely disheartened by such treatment. Most importantly, he was already paralyzed and would be confined to a wheelchair. Without the company's compensation, how would they survive on Zhang Xiaohong's meager salary? Uncle, don't worry, I should be able to handle this. You eat first, I'll go to Tianyu real estate with Chu Ling. Bian Kai already understood what had happened. Tianyu real estate was clearly trying to renege on their debt. Chu Ling's parents were just ordinary workers. They were powerless against their employer's refusal. But Bian Kai is no ordinary person. He can handle both verbal and physical challenges.